Rise and shine, UK fans, on this dreary Saturday. Time for the UKL to brighten up your lives with another round of games hosted by myself, otherwise known as Trajan, and returning for another guest colour slot, it's the man Melvin Nizzle. Let's get into it.
A wonderful day today. It is just about to start off. We've got some very cool games coming up, as I believe we're going to try and define the middle of the pack for the UKEL coming into today.
Yeah, it's all a bit of a muddle right now, Melvin Nizzle, with so many teams finding wins and losses in about equal measure. We do, of course, have Demise Academy chilling at the top there, and Munster still occupying that bottom spot. But a lot of 3-2s, a lot of 2-3s, and hopefully today we can get a bit of clarity here.
You say that, but there is the potential. I was just quickly skimming, and there is a good chance that we could end up with 6-3-3s. So we're
Oh
hoping
no.
for a bit of definition, but it is
Yeah.
entirely possible we're left equally, if not more, confused at the end of the day looking through. You might have noticed the outliers on there of Munsters Rugby Gaming, who we've got as Game 2 being the 1-4 team, and the obvious Demise Academy at the 5-0 slot. These are pretty expected quantities right now, but saying that, in our first game today, we do have London Lucendi, and that one dub that was picked up by Munster was against London last week.
Yeah, for sure. London have managed to lose against the best team in the league, Demise Academy, and also currently the bottom team in the league in Munster. So we're not really sure what's going on here, but let's see if they can maybe bounce back and find a bit of consistency. And I think Lucendi could be a good litmus test for them here. Lucendi, quite a volatile team. We've got subs coming in on this roster as well, and London United, going off of the performance on Thursday, probably should be expected to take this.
I would certainly think so. They played extremely cleanly, and they actually started to find a bit more back to their original style they had success with in week one. As we saw, both teams have actually followed a mini pattern in their current weeks, where London picked up 2 wins, then 2 losses, so we're expected 2 wins.
Yeah.
Whereas Lucendi, they lost on the Thursday every time, but win on the Saturday. So if you think about it like that,
Sure.
we may be headed towards a draw.
Yeah, astrology fans in the chat don't know where to look, okay? The patterns are crossing, the moons are aligning. They don't know what's going on, and frankly, neither do I.
Well, that's alright. Hopefully we can shed a bit of light on that heading into this one, as we can start to see some key picks that we're going to be looking at right now. Senna is a hotly contested pick between
yeah.
these two teams. Kaiser, between the two ADCs in this game, 8 out of the 10 games have been on those two champions. So this is definitely the area we want to see getting picked up first by both teams. Will it be handshaked, or will one team have an answer for it into the other?
Yeah, for sure. Both of these players, as you say, have really heavily focused on these two champions, and the only outliers, Highlander's got a Jin game, and Kumikum has a Samira game. So two pretty disparate, kind of separate picks as well, and while they have this big shared pool, they do still have quite different styles, so we'll see what they want to go for there. I mean, the ADC pool does seem to be widening up a little bit. Things like the Xayah sneaking back in. Aphelios has always been on the fringe, and maybe we'll see some of those coming out today as we jump into the Champ Select, and the first ban is actually the Lulu.
Yeah, that's going to be against Victoria, of all people, as we see from last Thursday, this week even. It was them picking it in the top lane. It was a potential flex between them, Articuno, and even the Heathen. And they did a very good job with London playing around their Udyr jungle. This is another champion we're likely to see coming out very soon, as both junglers have 2 out of 3 of their last games on the Udyr, and it is still super high priority.
Yeah, for sure. As the bans continue, when we see Articuno's resident Articuno pick taken away, there will be not that Ice champion coming through, but he has shown performances on other mid lane picks like the Victor and most recently the Karma, I believe. So there is still a lot of flexibility for this player as the bans continue. Seraphine obviously taken away, not a big surprise. And the Yone actually as well.
I do like these bans coming out from Lucendi right now, is they've left the Udyr up still, and we said it will be taken down by London, but they've banned out most of the core elements now of the strategy we saw London have so much success with earlier this week. Whereas on the other side, we see London's just try to pick off some more just annoying picks that can be drafted around nicely. We also saw Viego, who is disabled this game due to the ban, but is enabled currently for play. They played with a nice comp around them, but not executed properly on Thursday, so another pick as we see that. Senna we were talking about, expect the Kaiser to come out.
Yeah, the first part, the hand has been reached out for the shake right now, and we'll see if London want to accept it. Though they are currently hovering the Jinx, and actually, I'd be really excited if they pick the Jinx. Kumikum is a really strong Jinx player from seasons past, so you know more pocket picks could be on the board. And there's the lock-in. Recently, a lot of Jinx's ability damage was buffed, I believe, on the latest patch. So we'll need to see how this matchup goes. I've not actually seen Jinx in pro play this year so far, so it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, really the only stickler for Jinx has been Deft over the past year as far as it goes, and I don't think they've even pulled it out yet this split. But to be fair, when the patch comes, I can definitely see them doing it as an extra 25 range on rocket form and less attack speed reduction when you switch to that. It's really big for what Jinx wants to do. It allows them to be safer in more dangerous lanes and way more aggressive in lanes where they can actually get some poke down, and pairing it with the Heathen's Thresh, another very strong pick at the moment, I can definitely see them making waves in this bot lane.
Absolutely, I have loved watching the Heathen on these engage picks, and Thresh is a very strong one for him for sure, as Shady has now gone into the Lilia jungle. We've seen a lot of strange picks out of this player so far, a lot of up and down performances, but now definitely a powerful combo with the Lucian, probably mid lane too.
Yeah, most certainly it will be, because when you look at these two, this is something that we saw a lot throughout last year's Worlds, of the Lucian Lilia, the mixed damage between them. Lucian does enough poke initially, and then if the Lilia ever gets the sleep, the culling comes down, and that's lights out for whoever's going to be put up against them. We'll have to see what Articuno tries to match up, if they want to go for a safer option, or if they try and stick with their Yone theme from Thursday and pick something aggressive, as we see the signature Graves come out for Marwa.
Yeah, Mawa as well, I think, is a player that has had some pretty volatile experiences so far, some great plays and some lackluster performances, but now back on the Graves is set up for success in this game as we hit the round 2 of bans, and Camille taken away straight away. Inno, of course, not in the top lane once again for Lucendi, but the champion Camille is not to be ignored regardless.
No, most certainly. It is just one of those picks right now that you're pretty fine to even take it into some of its scariest counter matchups of the past, where you can just go for the Ignite teleport strategy. We have seen that once or twice in the UKEL by Demise, but it can still work into anything from the Renekton to even the Volibear as well, the few picks that still gives it a bit of trouble, even with Ignite. We see it off the table, and right now you can see just defined by how these bans are coming out. Right now, putting a big focus for Victoria in the top lane. They're either going to lock in a tank, potentially, might be the Ornn on this next pick, or they're going to save it for the very last, and we see sniping out that Ornn, so no.
Yeah, I think Victoria really has been a rock for London United so far. Very consistent player, very hard to get any kind of concrete advantage over him in lane, unless it is like a standard losing matchup where he's not going to int the lane away. He's just going to gracefully lose it and then be a big teamfight presence later on. So I'm really looking to see how Victoria can do in this matchup. I was a little worried for him, honestly, before if Inno was going to be playing, but now with Paper MC player, we don't know as much about him, and he doesn't have as much of a kind of hard carry champion pool that we can see. So I think Victoria might be set up to have a little bit of an easier time, and maybe can actually be a bit more of an active presence for the team, as it looks like, as far as matchups go, is going to be into the Malphite out there.
Yeah, most certainly, and now we get to see how Victoria wants to approach this. Will they take something that can try and bully this Malphite out in lane, or will they try and match the team fight presence? Because looking at everybody else in this game, none of them do too well into a Malphite ult. And we'll get into that Maokai in a moment, but as far as it goes, we're going to need to see the Heathen on point with these lanterns to try and keep Kumikum safe in these fights, as if a Malphite ends up on that Jinx, Gale Force is not going to be enough to save them.
Absolutely not. And then, as we mentioned, the Malphite has come. Sorry, the Maokai has come through here for Blackbeast. The second game for them on this champion, and they are looking very comfortable with this support pick with that Senate as well. A lot of poke, pretty hard to get on top of them, pretty good disengage, and it's actually the Cho'Gath locked in as the last pick for Victoria.
I quite like this, because if you look over, there aren't too many tank shredding tools. You do have the Lilia, but if they opt for something like the Moonstaff build, it's definitely not as much, and it kind of edges them towards wanting to go down that Liandry's route, which isn't going to be as effective against the rest of the London roster. Then if we take a look at this Maokai that you touched on, this is a pick that has been really big for Lucendi in these weeks. All of their wins have been on Maokai, and in the support role, it is something that I believe covers up one of the team's main weaknesses. of it helps very much around setting up for objectives.
Sure.
So look to see, whenever there's a dragon spawning, keep an eye on what Blackbliss is doing to see where they're putting those saplings down and if they're doing a good enough job at zoning away these very squishy champions that are going to be on the London roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if we're looking forward to these objectives as well, something that stood out to me in Luchendi's previous games was Highlander was playing very well. Once he got out of the lane on the Senna, he was looking super good in these team fights on this pick, doing a lot of damage, a lot of utility. People would, he's getting dived on, but he's not going down. He's always positioning properly. He's got his summoners ready. He's not losing them in any silly situation. So the Senna, for me, has definitely been Highlander's strongest pick so far. And I'm interested to see how they can match up against Kumikuma and Heathen, which are quite an aggressive duo. They're gonna try and kill you in lane. They're gonna be diving in hard. And with the Senna Maokai, I think Luchendi have maybe set themselves up quite well for this matchup.
Yeah, most certainly. I do like how they are all stacked up. I think both teams are coming away from this draft pretty happy. The only person I would say is a bit upset with their current position is Paper MC player, and that's just because when you blind pick a tank like the Malphite, like the Poppy, for example, champions like this, Cho'Gath can come in as a counter because they're just going to stand in lane and slap you with their max health damage on E. Did get hurt a little bit for the base damage, but frankly it's negligible unless we see, a 30 HP survival from this Malphite this game. I don't think it's going to be too impactful.
No, I imagine not. And I guess the other matchup we haven't quite talked about yet is the mid lane with Limsey and Articuno. Articuno's got kind of the mid lane pick of the last few seasons in the Syndra. If you don't know what to pick, just take Syndra, you'll be fine. And this is against Lucian. So Lucian, is meant to be a lane bully, meant to be someone who can take control of this lane. Do you expect this to still go that way here?
In the early levels, certainly. I feel like Articuno would need to play quite well. They can do a good job at poking out this Lucian in the early levels. But what I'm going to be interested in to see if they opt for the cleanse, teleport, potentially even a defensive summoner like the barrier is going to be very key, as we saw Thursday even when we had Lucian come out. They opted for the cleanse, and it meant that they ceded a lot of lane priority in a matchup where they should be bullying. So it's going to be waiting to see what we end up having there, to see how Articuno has to play around this lane. Level 3 is where I expect things to pop off one way or the other. Whichever laner in the mid lane has got priority is likely going to be looking for kills or just shoving in to get priority at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just really excited to see that Limsey is branching out a little bit. It started the game on these very supportive champions like Orianna, Galio, and now we're into the Zoe, we're into the Lucian. I'm liking that Limsey has taken a bit more of an active position in the team because I think that they do have the skill to flex that, and Luchendi sometimes look like they could use another carry. Now that Innocence is gone especially, they need another consistent, strong force who can lead them through these team fights to victory, and Lucian, gives Limsey the power to be that force in that early and mid game at least.
Most certainly. It's going to be, as we head into the game, something to note though, is that the tank shred is going to be rough if this Lucian doesn't get ahead. It kind of makes them want to opt for the Kraken Slayer, but that means they lose out on Gale Force, lose out on the Immortal Shield, both very nice items against the Grave Syndra for just evading their damage. So we'll have to see if they end up opting for that build to try and take Cho'Gath. So I personally want to focus on the top lane to see how much jungle pressure gets put up there in these early levels.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on that one. We'll be into game very, very shortly, I imagine. So, looking at these two team comps lined up 5 versus 5, you mentioned that there's a lot of disengage on one side, or at least there's kind of a good mix, I would say, on Luchendi of engage and disengage, with Senna Maokai can kind of do both, and the Malphite going in. On the other side, it looks like London United, they've gone for some interesting comfort with the Jinx, and they've gone for these generally strong picks like Syndra, like Graves, who kind of fit well into any plan that you want to run with. Who do you feel has stacked up better throughout this draft? Who are you going to give an early advantage to based on that?
Ooh, certainly for the early advantage, I'm favouring the London squad just because of how they've executed on some of these picks, and it's a lot easier, or their plan is a lot less reliant on them getting ahead in the first few levels. So it's going to be looking to see how they can use these Syndra setups heading into fights. Obviously, we mentioned the Maokai on Blackbliss is going to be very impactful for setting up around the early dragons, but I think until those start to come online, I do think that London have the laning advantage.
Yeah, well, we will see if that pans out as we are going to be getting towards the lanes very quickly. We have arrived on the Rift for Game 1 here on this beautiful Saturday. It was started out quite dreary when the stream began, but the sun's already come out outside my window, so I'm taking that as a good sign. London United versus Lucendi, going to kick us off.
Most certainly, and as we see a very standard 5-point opening from both teams, mainly just try to stay defensive. Looking like, actually, London's stacking up. They may just go for an aggressive ward here.
Yeah, a little cheeky step into the bot side jungle, Heath and Articuno. They are going to get a couple of wards placed down there on the Raptors, so both teams going to have that information. We'll see if Shady wants to adapt the way they start this game accordingly.
And Lilia is one of those champions that is so powerful in the level 1 and so good at stealing the Raptors level 2. In just this area where they can fight around that. It looks like they're not opting for the invade. It was something that was potential from this pick, as Graves does okay in the first level, but is not remotely as oppressive. So I want to see what Marwa decides to do this game, because they had some really intelligent pathing the last time we saw them. And they did a very good job of leaving the enemy jungler just out to dry, where they pathed around their camps in what looked like a sporadic matter at the beginning of the game. But once you saw how it left the enemy jungler with nowhere to invade, wrong side the map, it was a very good path that we'll have to see if they go for something more standard this game on the Graves, who is a bit less flexible in this early game and mainly just wants to farm.
Sure, I'm spying something a little interesting on Highlander. Has gone for the press the attack. Is this just kind of lining up with the Kraken Slayer build, so your third attack is just insanely powerful, or is it kind of a bit of a questionable pick when things like Glacial Augment are still there?
We certainly haven't seen much of this press the attack build. I didn't watch the LCS last night is the only thing, so unless it was played there, I haven't seen this PTA center before. So I'm assuming that that logic does hold suit. It makes sense once they do have the Gwinsus in their inventory and are doubling those hits. It will just be on the auto queue, where they'll be able to proc that as a full combo, potentially. So I can see the logic. It does mean that in the lane they are a bit less oppressive with the Maokai, as they can't chain into the saplings using slows as much. So we'll have to see. I think in a raw jungle fight it will end up going better for Highlander, but as far as laning power goes, it's definitely going to take them a bit longer to stack up souls at this rate.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see if Highlander can get over this lane spike. We saw Heathen and Kumikun getting aggressive already, as is Victorio. Lands the knockup with those rockets firing through onto Paper MC player. First blood! He just gets level 3 and shouts at the rock, and the rock falls to dust.
Well, there we go. That is just how it is, Victorio. As we said, go and pull out, but look at this mid lane.
Yeah, Shady and Limsy trying to answer back on Articuno, getting the early summoners out. There's no mana, no health, there's nothing left, and Shady will pick it up 1-1 now.
I really like that aggression. They see that they're top lane.
Oh no. The shotgun. Bambi walks into a trap in the jungle and Marwa will take it back. And in the bot side, it's another kill. I don't blame our observers for not keeping up with this game so far, Manevers. This is a crazy open game.
3 minutes on the clock and we are 4 kills in. This is just insane back and forth by the two teams right now. I'm really loving how Lucendi decide to respond to having their top laner just frankly bopped by Victorio in these early levels. But obviously Marwa pathing nicely, waiting in the bush. Bambi runs on in and there was really no escape. So as we saw, especially from the net positive in London side, this is going to give Marwa a lot of priority to kind of see how they want to approach the map. All their lanes are now give or take ahead. Even Articuno picking up an assist there and not having to burn TP. They're going to do just fine in this mid lane.
Yeah, that's overall, all things considered, very okay for London United. They're going to be happy enough with that one. And with an early game getting this exciting, this scrappy, you mentioned that you maybe would give the early advantage to London United here. Is this just that holding true? Do you think they're just going to take this advantage and run with it? Or do Lucendi have opportunities to fight back?
I think until level 6 we're not going to see Lucendi make too many proactive moves. Just by the factor of their champions don't really do a good job for it unless the London squad steps vastly out of position. We already saw just from the level 2-3 how annoying for like tanks like this Malphite Cho'Gath can be. And I imagine this is going to stay all but the same without jungle interference. Then for the mid lane, it was about just a general good counterplay. We saw at level 3 exactly as expected, so nothing too out of the ordinary here. Lucian getting a really good back at level 6 right now. We'll have to see now if they just go for Noon Quiver or if there's anything in the build they're opting for as this dragon is started.
Yeah, Mauer's going to start that one off, dropping the vision down, good control of the river. They are going to be spotted on the blue ward, but there's no movement from Lucendi, so this is going to be the first dragon secured easily by London United. At least Shady is stealing away some raptors, as you mentioned earlier, Lilia loves to do.
Yeah, and they're very good at it. Oh, that raptor does die in the end, so the camp is going to reset. We'll have to see if Shady can return for those in 2.5 minutes. They should be just about... I think they barely hit 6 off of this full Krug camp. So there is the potential for a big skirmish in this top side if Mauer sniffs them out.
Mauer strolling up through that jungle is actually going to bounce over and find this Krug steal in effect, and Shady now with low mana once again is getting caught out. Victorio round the corner has the ultimate ready, and they're just going to dive into the tower to avoid giving more gold away. Shady now going aggressive into the jungle, punished again.
Shady was, give or take, 10 XP off of leveling up there. If they had smited a minion, they could have instantly leveled 6 and then slept Graves to try and run away. That was really the only chance they had to survive there. So, unfortunately, they don't want to opt in for that. Maybe they just didn't take a look at their XP bars. We see a big play bot.
Yeah, Kumikum has to force the flash away, and Highlander steps up, but is going to get hooked up. Heathen threads the needle through the minions, but Highlander takes it anyway. Will he get the kill on this Senna? Looks like Highlander's going to clean that up 1-1, and now Blackbiss has got a little bit of health left. Heathen wants to go forward. In comes Lily, though, snipes him with the swell seed. It's a double for Heathen. The absolute battle of millimeters in that bottom side. It ends up 2 for 2.
An uncharacteristic misposition from Kumikum with Heathen right there. They lined up so that Highlander got the double Q through the pair of them, knocking Kumikum down when they were otherwise going to be safe to just take the free double on the Jinx. That does mean that, as we see here, Heathen ends up picking 2 kills off of it. Really good for them, but not good overall when you consider that Lilia and Senna, 2 champions that can get really nice acceleration if they could get to their first items sooner, managed to get the kills on the Lucendi side.
For sure, that is way better gold distribution on the Lucendi side, and now let's see what Heathen can do with 3 kills. Okay, he's gone straight into the steel-plated toe caps, does have a lot of movement speed, a lot of defenses there, and we know this guy likes to play aggressive. Looks like he maybe is looking for it. Stands up, gets rooted by that last embrace, and unfortunately will get goal posted with the hook, so not able to find something here. Kumikum does have the ultimate, though.
Mauer looks like they stole that Scuttle Crab away using the smite. Dragon is down. We saw London manage to pick that up earlier during the chaos. But as we take a little read... Okay, well, mid lane. That looks like shenanigans.
This is certainly a game that we have on our hands right here. Looks like Articuno goes down to Limsey off the culling, but Mauer is there to trade it back. Shady is holding this mid wave as well. So we have the Thresh getting 3 kills, but now Mauer on the Graves is 3-0-0. So it's not like London United don't have a carry in the works.
Yes, certainly, and even in the game where they lost on Graves, Mauer has consistently got fed on this pick one way or another. So as we see them kind of skulking around the map, they're just trying to accelerate into their full item after they've got this Noon Quiver. It makes clearing and just generally farming so good. That's why you see 3 of them in the inventories this game. It just accelerates you really fast. Bit less combat stats than other items, but when you're against a Lilia who's going into the Landries, it's not exactly the nicest build, so... Frankly, it just doesn't mean too much for negating Graves' skirmishing power.
Sure, I mean, we've got 1 Noon Quiver on one side of this bot side matchup. We do have Kumikum not quite able to secure theirs just yet. What mythic would you expect Jinx to go here? Is it just the Gale Force survivability, or is Kraken Slayer damage too good?
I think that the Kraken Slayer isn't all too necessary against the enemy team. They do have double tanks, but you're Jinx anyway, as the hook barely whiffing there. And I think just generally the Gale Force movement speed from the Mythic passive is going to be really important for Kumikum to try and get to this Lantern when it starts to get a bit sus, because there's Maokai flash Ws, there's Malphite ults, there's if you're ever put to sleep by Lilia, you have very few seconds to respond. So these are the kind of things that I think Gale Force just helps a lot with, and is why we've seen so much prevalence of it in pro play.
Yeah, Kumikum is now getting more aggressive on this Jinx, stepping up and trading with those long-range rockets. Though Shady is waiting around this bot side. Looks like London United are not going to get baited in this time. They're going to step back, maybe just go for a little reset, and Shady's not going to be able to find too much there. We've seen Shady 2-2 right now, had a couple of misplays, giving some gold away to Mauer. Has some gold in their pocket as well, though. I'm waiting to see how much effect they can have on the game right now. Because as we said, Shady has been a bit questionable at times. We had a lot of questions over, how this player can affect the games and whether they're being the catalyst for the wins, whether they're just kind of along for the ride. On Lilia, this should be a game where they can show some impact.
Certainly, and I really like that swell seed there. They just want to have, Lucendi want this pushed out lanes, so Maokai can set up here. We see they're getting ready for the objective. We don't want this Scuttle Crab to get stolen though, otherwise that takes away a lot of their pressure. Does mean that the smite is now down, so we saw the bot lane reset maybe about 20 seconds too late from the Lucendi side, which means that now, as we look, they're losing their pressure around it. Marwa just strolling on up, Rift held in inventory. I wonder if he's going to decide to place this in a lane before going to the dragon, or if they're just going to start it off raw now.
Yep, everybody has now arrived in this jungle. Actually, a TP coming down from Paper MC player. The Malphite ultimate's going to be ready, and Victorio has not responded yet. In comes the ultimate. The cleanse comes through, but it is absolutely over in that bottom side. A beautiful Malphite ultimate will secure the double kills on the top side in the mid lane river. London United find one back, but with the jungler down and both carries at that, the dragon is easily gone.
Absolute carnage for the carries of London right there. That is exactly the worst case scenario for them. Losing not only the Mountain Dragon, so they're going to be a bit slower to kill off this Malphite, as we see a big force with the Lilting Lullaby.
Yeah, Shady flashing forward, drops that ultimate, gets the sweep onto Articuno. Another Q will drop them very, very low, but they are going to escape. Heathen covering the retreat there.
That was so good by Heathen. They actually managed to do the QE at the same time, so they stunned the Maokai, so they couldn't flash W onto the slept Articuno, and at the same time they flayed away Lilia's W, which would have one-shot them while asleep, as it does true damage and triple damage. Triple damage in the middle, Q does true damage, but yes. Really nice play from Heathen there to keep their mid laner alive. Proactive from those two to see, okay, we've just lost both our AD threats, but Limsy's a bit too far up in this lane, so they get a counter play, but not enough to really negate the swing that Lucendi just got off of that dragon.
Yeah, that is the Mountain Dragon taken for Lucendi, and we have a Cloud Rift on deck for us here. So ultimate cooldown gonna be the name of the game, and with Malphite here, Lilia, Senna ultimate, even Maokai ultimate, I think Lucendi here particularly looking at this, well actually, I mean, I guess look to Victoria's got Shogun ultimate as well. I think this is actually quite an impactful Cloud Rift game.
Yeah, I actually think that this makes a lot of difference to jungle skirmishes this game, because there's a lot of skill shots that can be just straight up dodged. This is really annoying for Victorio.
They've got to catch onto the Black Beast Maokai, and they're going to get that kill under the tower. Heathen, as always, looking for those picks.
Ooh, okay, that's not great. Maokai very good at defending jungle objectives, not that good at towers. They didn't pull out the ultimate there, couldn't stop it, and we're going to see all of the plates go over in London's favour here.
Yep, mid lane, Rift Herald is dropped, and they've actually caught out the Malphite in the jungle as well. Heathen finds another. Victorio given the kill over here. London United, despite losing out of the dragon fight earlier on, they are fighting back powerfully.
Yeah, it's only one objective, and it's not going to put them behind too much. It does negate that soul win condition for a good 5 more minutes on the London side. Right now, they are set up to continue to keep pushing, and if this Cho'Gath keeps getting fed, once we see them tick over to 11, they are literally going to be so big in these fights and are just going to be a nuisance for the Lilia, for the Lucian. Not so much for Highlander because they can actually queue through, but you know who is going to be a nuisance? Marwa.
Absolutely, and Mao is going to find this bot lane fight is absolutely blasting Highlander, who is fighting back with that Kraken Slayer on deck, but is no match for the Graves at this stage. Dark Harvest with Shady comes through, drops the Lilting Lullaby, and Mao is going to be dropped very low. He'll have to block that Maokai ultimate. Limsy coming through as well, blocks the root. Kumikum doing the work for the jungler, and Heathen has now thrown the lantern down onto the enemy team, and is now boxing and flashing away. A little bit of a strange one there as Limsy's around the corner, lands the hook onto Maokai, but in comes Lucian to finish off the kill. A beautiful stasis will keep them alive for a little bit longer, but the shutdown is still coming through. Articuno now arrived, and Lucendi can walk away.
Yeah, I think those kills got a little bit to Heathen's head there. Not very sure what the lantern was. That was a very I honestly can't tell you. Maybe they were trying to try and think it was a Q and force the flash. Marwa may actually get invaded on here, and this is going to be... No, nothing from Shady. Decided to not opt for it. Saw them the sweeper that there was a control ward there. Didn't really want to walk into a trap.
Yeah, they've had bad experiences in jungle so far, and speaking of bad experiences, Highlander evaporates and Limsy gets chomped up. The solo laners of London United both taking the kills against their counterparts.
Gameplay buttons unite on this Cho'Gath and Syndra point and click R's. That was just, as we saw, the carries from both teams really do struggle against the tank lines from the enemy. Earlier, we saw Paper MC player get a nice two-man ultimate with the Malphite, but, you know, the solo laners for London are no slackers, and they'll happily repay the favours onto your ADC and mid laner.
Yeah, Articuno going to keep taking things away as well. Yoinks the blue buff over the wall, and Shady will have nothing to find right there. Actually has some vision, stacking up some balls. Might be looking for a little bit of a kill. Steps up, doesn't have the ultimate, but is going to find Shady around the corner. Doesn't get the stun, looks to maybe take the Gromp. Not going to find it, doesn't get any more. Just maybe causes Shady to sweat a little bit harder.
Yeah, so the thing we need to look at as we head forward, the Cloud Dragon is up in 25. It's not a major objective to either team. It's mainly just a tool for stacking for Soul. But we do have some very clear beneficial ultimate abilities if they get reduced cooldown. Right there, Articuno was probably about 20 seconds off of their R when they walked into Lilia there, while the one Cloud Dragon would not remedy that. As they stack up, it can certainly get a bit nutty where you can see that they might be able to throw out 2 Syndra ults in one fight if it's extended for long enough. As I like this TP, as we see Victoria's actually taking the Herald on the side, so good split map right now from London if they don't get forced on.
Yeah, once again, we could see Victorio not being there for the 4 versus 5, and we saw what went down last time this happened in the Dragon River. Luchendi were able to find the engage onto Kumikum, who once again doesn't have flash, but it looks like London United have learned from that mistake. They are staying pretty safe, they're sitting far back. Mauer looking to maybe find an angle onto bot lane, but could find himself a little pinch in this jungle. Lantern, is it enough? He's going to get caught out, rooted, stunned, and slain by Shady. Blackbeast gets hooked up and will be counter killed, but in come the ultimates over the wall. Can Luchendi find any more? The root is going to go down, but there's not going to be more kills. But now they start the dragon. They've got the smite advantage. Victorio has taken and summoned the Rift Herald in top side, so trying to get some money down there. And here comes the TP now. This time Heathen finds a hook onto Shady. Kumikum burning down the Malphite, but now Shady escapes into that jungle. Limsey has arrived. Can they take the dragon? There's no jungler, but they have the Cho'Gath ultimate. It's gonna be secured by London United. They take their time, they play it slowly, and they come out on top this time.
Yeah, a little bit sloppy from the team overall, just coordination and positioning, but Shady is most certainly going to get picked off here. It's just if they could get anything in return. There we go. Nothing to happen. And I like the idea there of what we saw was Victoria was just soloing the Herald on the side, and then it didn't matter that Marwa was dead. In fact, one of the main reasons that they didn't get that Lilia quicker was that there just wasn't a place for Victoria to TP to. You could see them standing still on the minimap, looking for somewhere to jump in. I don't know if I necessarily like the Herald placement there. I like the idea of it means that the enemies don't want to commit to fighting you. They want to back off and peel because they're going to lose objectives on the other side if nobody stops it. So you could see the intent. It was just a bit rough execution on the London squad. Still comes out much net positive for them, as they do secure the objective, the kills, and river control. And frankly, even the Rift Herald on top of it. It doesn't get anything, but still nice as we see Victoria is continuing to get bigger off of this feast.
Yeah, it's at least taken the Rift Herald off the table. You got a bit of tower damage on the inner there, and Luchendi do get nothing from it. They could have used it to maybe break this mid lane tower, so it's off the table. And with a 5k gold lead, London United can just take things away from Luchendi and continue to scale with Mauer's Graves, with Kumikum's Jinx, and they're probably going to keep getting more and more powerful. I'm really loving watching Heathen's Thresh in this game. It's always a joy, but today I feel like he is on absolutely titanic form, hitting every single hook where it matters, turning these fights around, and you've just got to take this champion away from the Heathen, really.
Oh yeah, I've never seen another aggressive Lantern like the Heathens, but just generally speaking, other than that smaller misstep, they have been performing very well on this pick. It is something that they are, as well, you could say a Heathen on, to be honest, but as you look forward to this game, something to note is that you mentioned the mid lane tower for Luchendi is down. Heathen got the Lantern.
Yeah, Limsey is actually going to step forward and force the Gale Force defensively from Kumikum, but now the rest of London United are here to support. Maokai ultimate has been dropped. They're going to just step away from the Nature's Grasp. Heathen throwing out a zoning hook, we'll call that one, and they do get away from the aggression.
Just both teams testing the waters there to see how happy are you to take this 3v3. None of these include the solo laners, so it was really just the bot half of the map and jungle like, come on. I see that you've both got one mythic item and nothing else on your ADCs. It's really just the jungles slapping each other here. But That's the power of the Gale Force we talked about. They were really just close to death there. Would have had the Flash in any other season, but that item is so ridiculous for just keeping yourself safe. It allows ADCs, even the Graves, to feel way more confident when they push up, and it just enables them to go for poke on the towers that they otherwise just shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking, once again, the builds this game are fascinating for me, Melvin. So we've got a Chem Tank on the Malphite. It looks like we're not going to Guinsoo's second on Senna. It looks like maybe, you know, going towards the RFC second instead, which of course is a common item on Senna. But with the Kraken Slayer, I feel like Guinsoo's is just such an important part of that combo that you need to get it as soon as possible.
Yes, certainly. That's one of the main reasons that Kraken started getting built on them in the first place, is it's just so much frontline shred. As Articuno does not manage to get that blue buff there. But yeah, I can't really say I get the Chem Tank. This is probably one of the more negative parts of the recent tank changes for Malphite, where they move the Ability Haste Mythic passive onto Chem Tank and away from Sunfire. I think Malphite would have generally preferred that item, as in fights, it's Malphite, so you kind of expect them to just ult and be done with it. And if you don't kill the enemy carries off of that, usually Malphite doesn't offer all too much more. So being able to run and offer a second slow is more so of a consolation prize than it is a good plan, in my opinion. Because if you just look at it, you really don't want to have your Malphite initiating twice in a fight. You want it to be one done, burst the carries, as we see Victoria potentially getting picked.
Yep, Lilting Lullaby has got that. Sleepy is very tanky, but this is 3 members of Lucendi with 2 more coming over. There is no support for Victoria right now. This has got to be the end for the Cho'Gath. Everybody piling in on top of him, and a nice tasty shutdown secured by Highlander. Meanwhile, London United getting this mid-wave pushed, but not fast enough. Looks like they will at least grab a bot lane turret in trade there, as Mao steps up on vision, shoots Blackfist right in the face and forces the flash out of this Maokai. So, still something grabbed on the backside, but Victoria losing that shutdown gold.
But wait, there's more.
With another hook with the box, and Articuno with that 3-man stun, dropping everyone so low. And the Kumikumi ultimate gets crucially blocked by Shady. Malphite ultimate gets killed in the ultimate animation, and that is the go switch for London United, running forward to get more Kumikumi. Getting real excited right now. He does get rooted and can't follow up, but London United still just playing and always going aggressive off the back of these heathen hooks. Articuno now goes a risky way back to mid lane, force the flash over the wall as Limpsey is ready to punish. Nonetheless, this will be Dragon number 3 for London United.
Yeah, Limpsey was just kind of edging off the end of the fight right there. They managed to get the ultimate over and does drop Marwa with it, but nothing else is going to come in the favor of Lucendi. Obviously, we saw that brief Attack on Titan episode against Victorio up there, and it eventually goes down after it took 5 people all of 15 seconds. This is just one of the things that you can see visually how ridiculous Cho'Gath can get in some of these fights, as they are just this giant brick wall you can't walk past. Only Malphite can get past, and that makes it really tough for the Lucendi squad to actually engage there. I really liked London's individual positioning on the carries right there. If you could see how everybody was standing, they were just far enough apart that it was never a good ultimate for this Malphite. They could never get the 3-man, they could sometimes get 2-man, but it would have been a pick on very rare scenarios. So I think I really like that as a solo kill for Limpsey.
Yeah, it looks like he's taking a lot of damage. You can see the ball scattered, and the Kumikumi ultimate will just take him down so easily. Lilting Lullaby is used to try and do something, but isn't going to get much achieved. Heathen now pulling Mawa in, and London United pushing Lucendi back out of the river. Victorio here, trying to cut off the retreat from Shady. A flash does not quite make it over the wall, and the knock-up rupture will not land, so they crucially get nothing more there. But the Baron is right here. Highlander is on bot side. They could just sneak this one away.
Yeah, and with mid laners off the table, it's only Shady for DPS. You can't do much to Victorio here. He's just going to walk at you like this, and they can't stop them. Kumikumi is just safe in this fight.
Yeah, Rupture lands, and Paper MC player once again dies in the Unstoppable Force animation. Articuno respawns and is here to support the team, and this Baron is just going to be sewn up easily by London United. So they're playing these fights quite well still. They're pulling Lucendi around, keeping that 5k gold lead, and I think with Baron, it's about to get a lot bigger.
Yeah, and the thing is, because Limpsey tried to teleport away there to escape after getting the solo kill, good on them for that, but the choice to teleport where he was clearly seen by the minions recalling allowed Kumikumi to get a great ultimate, pops them while they're standing, and it just meant that they couldn't come over and deny this Baron, because they had already used the Summoner. Articuno got in there, and at that point, when you're down your Initiate, the Malphite, you're down your ADC, the Senna, and you're down your mid laner, Lilia has no hope in hell making it into that pit, so they just have to back off, cede the objective, and this Baron will carry them over to the Soul, if that is what London opt for, or they could even decide to just threaten inhib towers now, and frankly just choke out Lucendi before the objective.
Just noticed something a little sad in Articuno's inventory is that the fresh Medjai's instantly lost all the stacks, so we're down to 2 there. So a little bit of a sad moment for Articuno, but they are still doing a lot of work. We saw the damage that they're able to do, even just with the 2 completed items, onto picks like Highlander, who has now completed their RFC and is now going towards that Rage Knife and the Guinsoo's further on. But to be honest, it might be a little too late for that one, as that Power Spike is going to come far down the line, and with London United knocking on the base at this point, it's getting a little risky.
Yeah, Senna, notoriously bad at wave clear. Even with this build, it's not too much better.
Oh, flash forward from Malphite, lands onto Kumikuma, and the ultimate from Senna will get them very low, but the kite back is here. Maokai diving forward with the ultimate. Can they get onto the carries? Mawa has fallen. Lucendi finding the fight with the slows. Can they finish this one off? Articuno stuns through. Victoria on the side looking for more. Kumikuma's going to get shut down. A lot of low health bars for Lucendi, and Victorio's looking hungry. Articuno in tow. Gets hit by the Swell Seed. Going to get burned down. Lilting Lullaby, and that's going to be the Syndra falling. A 4-0 for Lucendi in mid lane. That could barely have gone worse for London.
And that's just a lack of synergy with the team. They're trying to play 2 lanes without their frontliner. And at that point, it's just because of that kill that Limsey got onto Articuno that they don't want to side lane against them anymore. You can't send the Jinx. You don't really want the same Graves because they're too short range to threaten tower. So at that point, London decides to opt for, well, we'll just send Cho'Gath down there. But without the teleport available, Cho'Gath, no map mobility, they can't exactly run quicker, so that we just see Paper MC players spotting the perfect engage, managing to pick out Kumikum, and there was nothing that London could do to peel them that hard without their tank there. There was nobody tanky enough to hold up against the, to be fair, relatively starved out carries for Lucendi, so they just ended up getting the picks and completely nullifying that Baron lead that London could have picked up.
Yeah, I said I expected the lead to get bigger, but it has in fact gotten slightly smaller, and that is it. But now we have the Cloud Dragon coming up, and London United, we see even in just the this particular game, just the microcosm of the season so far, inconsistency runs amok and keeps this team from cleaning out their games easily. Now they have a chance to swing the pendulum back in their favor as we have a 5 versus 5 around this Dragon Soul point. It's been started up by London. They're burning it through very quickly. Mao looks to just secure this one nice and easily off the bat, but what can Malphite find? There is so much engage potential. Heathen finds a hook onto this engage, and the stun comes through and absolutely pops them. Victorio takes that threat away, and surely London United can just walk away with this one laughing.
Yeah, there's really not too much Lucendi can do in return here. They don't have a split pusher. Lucian does not have TP available, so they weren't able to threaten anything on the other side of the map. And frankly, they just let London walk into that objective. And I don't even think it was a particularly good fight for them. The best they could have done is send Limsey to threaten one side lane, then just hard shove mid and bot as a 4. But they end up getting nothing in return. They're going to have to do a base defense now, minus the Baron. And I don't think it's going to get any easier. Shady needs to get a miracle Swirl Seed to get a multi-man sleep for any chance of defending this base.
It seems like these fights for London United go best when they just hook the Malphite, as now Limsey steps in and gets slapped down to the grey screen. Blackbiss instantly following. Heathen and Mawa stepping up. The hook will force the flash from Shady, and the inhib's about to go down, but now Malphite comes in, gets the knockup, but not onto Kumikum. He's in, and now he's got no more buttons to press. Gets pushed back by Articuno. Victoria dropping very low. What can Kumikum do? A lot of low health bars for London United, but Jinx is stepping forward. Shady's managed to heal up. Can push them out of the base, the inhib will fall, but still, again, London United, they flip it back. A good Malphite engage keeps them alive.
And while it didn't go completely in the favour of London, we just got to see how different the fights are with Victoria's that frontline. They didn't even die in the end, and they tanked up a total of, what is their health bar right now? 6k HP! They stood there for give or take 5.5k HP, and that is so much damage negated from the Lucendi squad that could have just gone into last tapping all of those carries that were surviving on minuscule HP amounts. Marwa barely died to a sliver at the end there from the Lilia burn while asleep. Kumikun went down to the low hundreds, same for Articuno. And it's just the thing of, it's so much easier to fight when you know there is just this giant meat shield for you that can just 100-0 somebody with their ult if they get a bit too close. I'd like to see how much damage that Cho'Gath ult is going with Victorio on 13 stacks right now.
That's going to be a huge amount of true damage coming through, and another way that is going to affect the game is with these objectives. We've seen Victorio secure some critical dragons with it, and when the Baron comes back alive, that is going to be a way they can take this one down, as they've got so much control of the river right now.
Thank you very much for that little hover over the Cho'Gath ult. For those that didn't see, that is 1,000 true damage to champions and 1,600 to objectives. With that smite from Marwa right now, this is unstealable, short of just complete miscoordination from the London United squad.
He said it's unstealable. Yeah. That's the challenge, Lucendi, okay? You've been... London United, they've literally just been caster cursed, but can they actually beat the odds here? Shady is round the side, Victorio trying to zone away. Baron below half HP, Mao still burning it through. What can they do? The Rupture only finds one. Shady steps forward, the route onto Victorio, trying to get near the pit, and actually London United, they're peeling away. Victorio is being burned down to the front line. The caster curse is coming true. Limsey at least will fall to Articuno on the side, but can Lucendi coalesce and find the win without the front line there? Blackfist comes forward, finds Articuno. Shady goes unstoppable, and London United are forced back into their own jungle. Here comes the hook, and Kumikun trying to follow up with the damage. Mawa is so low, and the heal from Senna keeps them topped up. Lucendi, they just... this pattern, it's unbreakable.
Technically not a steal, just gonna say it now. Point being, though, as we see, are London actually going back onto it again to try and punish during reset? Heathen spotted out. They're going to get picked here.
Yeah, Heathen's going to get caught trying to see if they're there. The answer is yes, but Blackfist falls as well. Mawa and Kumikun left in the 2v2. Malphite has been used. Can they kite this one out? Highlander pops Kumikun. Mawa trying to get the shotgun blast off. Will take down the center, but Paper, MC player, secures the ace. Another extended fight leaves Lucendi alive at the end.
Malphite says you will lose, and they are doing all they can to make it so. But as we see here, this didn't go that well for Lucendi. On the side, they lost a Nexus tower, and they were near on losing this one. I believe it's just about to hit below a third HP, so it's not going to regen that much after that. So if we take a look at the map right now, it's really open for the side of London. They can pretty much go and set up picks wherever they want to. The issue there from the London squad was they weren't fighting with their front line. Victoria might as well have been in a side lane, as they were split off so far from just the zoning of this Malphite ultimate, and then the Maokai threw their ult in the middle, and it pretty much just zoned off the carries. They had to back away. We saw Articuno trying to solid snake their way out on the side, but does not get away. Marwa doing their best work at the very end there to keep the game going, as if Senna's alive with a tank, that is most certainly Baron for the Lucendi squad. We are now on a razor's edge for both teams. One ace leads to Baron, leads to Elder, leads to game.
Lucendi has done such a great job of keeping Kumikum's flash on cooldown pretty much the whole game. We saw another fight there where it wasn't ready. It's not quite ready yet, but if he can get it back up with the Gale Force, which is about to come off cooldown, this could be the chance. Maybe that's why the fights keep going back and forth. Just one fight Kumikum doesn't have flash, the next fight he does, and they win and lose based off that fact, as all 10 players have once again arrived for a little bit of an ARAM, and Victorio is just stepping forward on this front line. Lilting Lullaby lands onto Articuno. MC player gets the ultimate through, but doesn't land to Kumikun. What can they do? Can they burn through this Malphite? Both the tanks are absorbing so much, but the carries are starting to fall as well. Limsey dives forward, but loses the trade versus Kumikun. But will he burn away? Mawa is so low. Victoria's still alive. Kumikun escaping on the cloud jungle speed up. Can he keep himself alive? This one, Mawa has fallen already, and Kumikun is the last carry left. What can he do on this Jinx pick? Highlander, one shot will do it. That's a pop. That's a dead Jinx. And Lucendi, they've actually taken 2 fights in a row now.
And this is starting to get really scary for the London squad. No QSS is available. Just makes it so hard for them. But Victorio, they can one-tap people still.
If he got to Blackfist, I think he could do it. He doesn't quite have the feast ready, though. He's going to keep stepping up and try to stop them from getting this Elder using that health advantage. Highlander, this is not a super high DPS pick. This is a Senna. This is a pop you in 3 hits champion. And Victorio can step up and take control of the river.
Thing is, if you look at Highlander's build, though, they are scary for Victorio. It is not as bad as it looks. If they have any peel, they can actually run through this Cho'Gath in longer than most ADCs would, but still quite quickly, relatively speaking. They have that Guinsoo's, once it's stacked up, they're going to be doing every other auto attack for this Kraken Slayer, plus the Lord Doms, and with the added safety of that rapid fire cannon, just means they're a little bit more able to fight, as Lucendi is starting this dragon up. Articuno has TP, but there's no good window for them to teleport to. Limsey's on the flank.
Yeah, Limsey waiting to try and punish, and the Elder's actually just going to fall without them needing to do it. Victoria's gotten rooted up, he can't get into the pit. There's the Elder for Lucendi, and they've got the roots to follow it up. Mawa is going to get burst down, shut down by Highlander. Lucendi, they get a huge advantage off this objective. The Baron's live as well.
I think they're just going to try and collapse this onto the inhib. I don't know if I like that strictly. They prefer the odds with Mawa down than the odds with Baron.
Yep, a stun is going to force Shady into stasis from Articuno. Nice little takeaway of the utility there. Victorio trying to cut this wave, but in comes the ultimate flashed away by Kumiko. Articuno on the side has got hit by the Lilting Lullaby. Is surely to fall. Can they burn through Malphite on the base side? It looks like they will. Kumiko gets that kill. It's a 3 versus 4. A hook lands onto Limsey. Can't quite be followed up. The slide away from Lucian will keep him alive, but Lucendi, they've still got the man advantage. They've still got the Elder Dragon, but they are too scared to push mid further.
And London managed to repel that push. That is so big. It means that the time of overlap between Baron and Elder is going to be all but cut in half now. I don't think that London want to contest this objective, and I don't think they should, frankly. Marwa is coming off a base, so they can try and poke at it, but I think it's a lot safer if they were to just push the mid wave and bot wave and just avoid it altogether.
Yeah, Victoria with no feast and no flash cannot get it, and Lucendi will at least take the Baron on the backside of this play, so they still have a lot of wave control. Their inhib is back up. They can stabilize this. They've actually got a 1k gold lead. I think for the first time in this game, they finally have that in their favor. So many items coming through for them as well. It's full build for Highlander. The quick blades have come through for Limsey. I honestly feel like we could have seen more out of this Lucian so far, but you know, as the build keeps continuing, maybe they can start to flex it up.
Yeah, if anything, this is the time where Limsey could be pressuring a side lane. They don't have the TP available, but between Baron and Elder, they can take anybody on the enemy team. Even Cho'Gath cannot catch this Lucian with the amount of dashes they'll have available in these fights.
Yeah, they're going to just run it down mid once again. Sidewaves are more or less in their favour, but there's plenty of towers there to protect London United for now. Heathen looking for hooks, as always. Articuno as well. Malphite does have ultimate. Jinx does not have flash, does have the Gale Force though. We've seen how this pattern tends to play out, and there goes the inhibitor tower. Looks like they're going to take this inhibitor. London United too scared to make a kind of concerted defence here. Malphite ultimate will cover the retreat, and looks like Lucendi just going to take the safe play.
Yeah, only 30 seconds left on the Elder. They're opting for the fact of London aren't going to force a fight unless we massively misstep while we have both. So they're just moving up to top lane now. They're going to, potentially just set up. They have a lot of good tools if anybody face checks, and they're opting for it. This could be so dangerous if Victoria fishes this bush with a Q. But it's down now the flank.
Malphite's around the backside. Kumiko is far down that mid lane though. They got the hook onto Malphite though. Can they burn him through? He's going to step back with the silence. Victorio on the front line burning through. Can they get damage down? Malphite ultimately lands onto Articuno. Can they at least trade? Limsey on the side gets taken down by Mawa, and this is so close again. Blackpist eats a fat stun to the face, and a last Q will get Articuno that win. Now Kumiko, this is maybe the chance for him to flex this Jinx, to get excited, to run through this fight. Heathen is there with the hooks, lands onto Malphite. Once again, Shady trying to take down this Jinx, gets Mawa sort of by accident, and Articuno stuns Malphite. On the other side, Kumiko 1v1ing this Limsey, or this Lilia I should say, goes to sleep, cleanses out, gets the rockets, gets the damage, shuts him down, but taken down by Highlander, and now Heathen is forced to flee. Articuno is on literally 1 HP, and they cannot win this 2v2. What is it with London United games? Why can they not just end cleanly? This is such a back and forth fight, but the Malphite ults back up, and he gets the kills. Highlander secures the ace. Lucendi, they wait it out, they kite it back, they re-engage and find the kills.
And the Chem Tank ability haste give the paper MC player their second ultimate in that fight, and blind killing Articuno. They were setting up for the bait there. That could have been the game. They would have been able to burst out Highlander with the full Syndra combo, but I don't think Victoria can hold this wave. Nobody's up for 6 seconds.
Yeah, Mao's gonna have to come off, all guns blazing off the fountain. One tower is gonna fall. A flash from MC player to get them through. Tries to get on top of Senna. Can he get the ultimate? He's gonna get rooted back. Mao is now here. Can they push back the aggression? Limsey dodging and diving, but he goes down to Victorio, and Malphite falls as well. Highlander's gone godlike though. Mao gets rooted, but here come the cavalry off the fountain. Kumikkum out for revenge with the home guard passive. But what is that damage? Senna, are you serious? He takes a 1 vs 2 double, making a triple. Lucendi, can they win the game yet? Heathen's alive. They're still not gonna win.
Senna learning a lesson from Lucian with the 2-tap there. They just absolutely obliterated Kumikkum. They didn't even get to look at them. It was just Q auto and they were dead. This build is disgusting.
Oh my
and now,
God.
if we take another look back, Elder up in a minute. Baron up in 2 minutes. London respawning all before then. They will have every TP available for London, so we need to see what they can do. They need to be a bit smart with these teleports. They could do cross-map plays. There's only one tower left at the base of Lucendi. We've seen a couple backdoors in UKEL so far. They do have some decent champions for it. Now let's find out if they opt for this dragon or if they opt for trying to end the game with guerrilla warfare. Because frankly, as we've seen from this Senna, Highlander is too scary to fight right now.
Yeah, 15, 5, and 16 with 300 plus CS on the Senna. We spoke that Highlander, I mentioned that Highlander Senna, this is my favorite pick for this player. He's looked so good on it, and he is keeping that pattern true once again, doing so much work now. London United, they're back in the mid lane. Can they find it better this time? Kumikkum has flash. Can he get away from Malphite? Malphite does not have flash. There are so many factors piling into this one, as we're going to just smash into each other in a 5v5 in the Dragon River once again.
I think this is about reactive stopwatches.
Oh, hook lands onto Malphite, but can they kite back? The Lighting Lullaby catches so many members of London United, but Malphite's not in range. Victoria's getting burnt down. Articuno has fallen. Lucendi, can they get an actual win here? Mao once again beats Shady in the 1 vs 1. Malphite ultimate straight up misses, but here's the Maokai grabbing onto Kumikkum, and Limsey finally gets the follow-up. I think this is it, Melvin Izzle. Another fight goes to Lucendi. It's a 3-for-1, and Heathen's about to fall as well. An absolute titanic clash between these two teams, but London United cannot keep the streak going. Lucendi is going to take them down. They're both going to 3-3. What an ordeal.
I don't think we're getting anything defined for us other than the fact that Highlander Senna needs to be stopped. That was a ridiculous performance in the latter part of that game. I've never seen such a scrappy game in the 40 minutes. Those people were coming off a respawn timer the entire time between the first Elder going down and the second. There was non-stop fighting. It was ridiculous. These teams, I feel bad for your throat. We have another game after this, but dear Lord, they just wouldn't stop. Highlander was popping off on that Senna.
I've been waiting for my first London United game this season, and it delivered, Melvin Izzle. It was worth the wait. That was so fun. I don't really know on an analysis level what to think of it at this point, but the very least, it was an absolute blast. That woke everyone up, okay? No one's lying in on Saturday and coming out of that game still half asleep. That's better than any cup of coffee for me.
Most certainly, and as we look through, it's kind of hard to break down the game because so much was happening, but London got off to a good start. They very clearly knew how their comp wanted to play, but it started to fall apart in the mid-game. When Victoria wasn't there to be their beefy frontline for fights, we started to see the power of this Malphite come in. MC Paper Player was coming in with these ultimates, and those Chem Tank, I hate to say it, but it was actually somewhat impactful after the fact, partly due to the ability haste or getting more ults off in these hyper-extended fights, and also just partly for the fact that they managed to stay on top of the backline. Something we didn't get to talk about is we did see for the support Maokai that game, they also went for Chempunk instead of opting for the Mandate build. And in that very last fight, you could see its impact, where Kumikkum did not get to play the game. They instantly just beelined that tree on top of them, and they could not DPS for anything. They never got to hit anyone. And that's the thing, Highlander, when Asena's hitting people, they're healing their team too. If Kumikkum's not hitting people, they're doing absolutely zero on this Jinx.
Yeah, the Jinx pick, it had its moments throughout this game for sure. There were times when it was able to push through the fights, but most of the game it felt like it was just trying to stay alive at all points. There was never a point where they didn't have to have eyes in the back and sides of their heads to know what was all coming at them. And I mean, it's a decent pocket pick. You know, it's coming back into the meta, maybe. But I think with the Kai'Sa open, maybe it was just time to just be like, well, I need to live, man. I've got to get away.
Yeah, the lack of independent survivability tools really made it tough. I think London definitely had this game in their hands. If they had tried to end earlier with a potential Baron threat over opting for the Cloud Soul, which I think didn't end up turning too much good for them. We saw there were a couple good snipes off of Kumikum's Jinx, and then obviously the Cho'Gath and Syndra ult, but they never really got to do repeat ults in a fight. They were either not there or burst out too quickly to get multiple ults, so really you didn't see much use of this soul. And one Thresh can't peel Syndra and Jinx when they're both getting gooned on by a Malphite and a Maokai respectively.
Absolutely, they cannot. So before we go to a break, let's just cover it very quickly. Let's talk about potential player of the game, Melvin Izzle. I mean, there's one person who stands out for me. I don't know if you're maybe...
I think it would be a bit unfair if I didn't give it to Highlander, despite
Yeah.
some shaky earlier and a very odd build going for the rapid fire. You could see the logic behind it of, especially at that point, the 2-item point of the game. Victoria was so scary, and Articuno, those two were particularly playing really well in the mid game. They were the thriving force for the team, pushing forward the leads. And against a Cho'Gath and a Syndra, Senna, I'm standing back. So, you know what, Highlander, nice adaptation, well played, and disgusting late game. I'd love to know how many souls they finished that game with.
Yeah, truly exceptional performance by Highlander. And with that, we are going to go to a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the second game of the day where Nerd Rage are taking on Monster Rugby Gaming. We will see you all there. Welcome back, everybody. That was a short break for sure. I feel like I could have done with an 8 hour sleep after that game, to be honest, to get me prepared. But let's just reset. Let's go back to first gear with Monster versus Nerd Rage. Melvin Izzle, give me something calm. Give me something chill that I can ponder while I massage my throat.
After their performance so far, I believe Nerd Rage is exactly what you need right now. They are the equivalent of the sleeping pills for how they will let you play out the early game. They like to be reactive, and they like to wait until skirmishes, and then they jump at you after the fact. They wait until somebody steps out of position as a group, not necessarily individually. They are known to overstep one by one if they are not coordinated in a fight. So, you're not blessed. You shouldn't see too much action from them in the very early game. Monster is another beast entirely. As we look at them, it's they kind of just do whatever comes up, and they try and commit very hard to death ball comps. However, the main problem we've seen from them is they've been getting skill checked in lane across the board pretty much. Whether it be by different laners, we've seen it from everybody but London, who were on an uncharacteristic down, kind of like we saw last game almost. So, something to note is coming into this one. I don't think too much is going to be happening, but as far as it goes, Nerd Rage do not punish that hard in individual lanes, and Monster do not do well if they are punished in lanes. So, I think this is going to be a pretty even fight coming into the first few dragons.
Sure. Something that could throw a bit of a spanner in that works is we have another new player on the Rift here for Nerd Rage. They have a new jungler, Spray X, who is currently Master Tier with the most ranked wins in that lobby of any player. So they could shake up the situation for Nerd Rage and maybe bring a little bit of a new style here. And as you say, if they can be maybe a powerful early game force, then they might be able to trip up Monster.
Certainly, and I believe that you were saying that they were playing a lot of the AP junglers at the moment. Now, while they aren't necessarily at their peak, as long as Udyr's on that list, I'm pretty happy. And that's mostly because they are such a machine, it kind of needs to be banned by whoever's on red side, otherwise it's really dangerous to play against. We've seen it do extremely well in next to every game it's come up in as we head into the draft. Let's see if Zyke Z, well, there we go, enough said, hits the ban desk.
Yeah, it falls away very quickly there, as you say, like Monster and Davidoff in lane have had a little bit of a struggle of a time so far. As we look over at the first ban for Nerd Rage, they're going to take away Keverman's Kai'Sa. Keverman's been a great carry for Monster as well, so taking away some of those hyper carry options, definitely a good shout.
Certainly, I think Keverman has been a shining light for this team. Synapse in the recent time has shown some promise. But Keverman with their carries, and you can see it right now, Nerd Rage recognize that. They want to take all these priority champions, people that you can see Keverman try and push the lead on, and try and force them back onto something that's a bit more risky, a bit more experimental like the Samira, something different, maybe even trying to get them onto the Senna as a much less impactful pick. But to be fair, as we saw last game, if you don't force them out early, this Senna can get pretty ridiculous, and that's all too possible.
Yeah, for sure. Keverman, I would have plenty of faith in Keverman to take the game on his back with any kind of these hypercarry scaling picks. So we go back at the bans. Flajian's Thresh has been taken away, and SprayX's Karthus, which I believe is his most played jungler. So that's understandable there, but there's still plenty of AP options. The Lilia is still available. He's put a lot of Elise games in. So I think he's not been banned out just yet. And Flajian has played a fair few Nautilus games recently, but definitely I think looked better on the Thresh.
Yeah, certainly. It is something that I've not been a fan of their Nautilus remotely as much as the Thresh. It's just something that, by the namesake of Flajian, clearly they do prefer the Thresh to some extent. But as they have been performing on this Naut, they did get counterpicked in their most recent game by the Leona. And as we saw, it resulted in a level 1 First Blood for the London bot lane. Here's what we were expecting to see. It's the junglers, the Hecarim and the Lilia. If you don't play Udyr, are the two pretty much king and queen of the jungle right now. As its namesake, letting all the animals back in.
Yeah, for sure. Goose, I think, Goose was a pretty big force in Monster's 1 win of the season so far as well. The Goose was loosed on that day, and we'll see if he has the juice today. But looks like we've got an Amumu, which will likely be a proxy pick. We'll need to wait for production to tell us what it is. Actually, the Elise. So Spray is going for that early game strength, but Elise is something we really don't see that much in competitive right now.
No, certainly not. This is definitely a proactive one. That Shaco, by the way, is Rel.
Yeah.
So we currently have Elise Rel on the Nerd Rage squad. And looking through, Elise did get a little bit of a nerf on the most recent patch, but if you're very proficient at her, you don't notice it too much because it's more about her scaling than her early game power. They haven't been seen too much in competitive, I think not at all actually, as we do see Kevin pick up that Senna. So it's going to be about what tools can Nerd Rage pair with this Elise to try and mix up their play and actually get proactive early.
Yeah, we saw Nerd Rage there, crucially without their third ban, which potentially could have been the Senna to remove that trifecta of AD carries away from Kevin, but it is going to be locked in nonetheless, and there is a Nautilus picked up most likely for Mask of Jelly as well. So Flajin, the Rel has been locked in there in that matchup, a lot of CC on both sides, and we've seen Flajin play one Rel game so far, I believe.
Yes, it didn't go too well, but the champion itself is very overtuned at the moment. They do a lot in these fights. They can be interrupted by things like Alistair or the Nautilus R if pressed quick enough. Even the Q can pull them out of their jump. But this Rel Ashe has been picking up a bit... Oh, Ashe is Ori. Never mind.
So just ignore that right-hand side
Everything
of your
on the
right
doesn't exist. This is
It's
a
all
lie.
Yeah, don't trust them. We don't. So that is going to be... So we've got Orianna, Rel, and Elise. Orianna and Rel, great CC combination, of course, if you can get that combination going. And then with an Elise, maybe just to boost them through the early game to get them into that mid-game nice and comfortable.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks at it and I think to myself, okay, so I see the plan between those two, but the Elise really just needs to be like an initial pick tool.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to commit an Orianna or a Rel jumping in to get off of a single pick. So this is clearly just something that SprayX is a really big fan, and I haven't seen Elise really at all. We know it can be played, it requires a lot of effort, and it requires your laners to play around you a lot. So integrating this character into a new team with the SprayX being their first game with the team on stage here, so it's going to be pretty scary to see if they can try and supplement them with winning lanes that can actually bully, get the priority, and allow them to punish Goose on this Hecarim.
Yeah, the second round of bans is quite interesting so far. We've got what I assume is a pair of mid lane bans from Nerd Rage taking away the Victor and the Vel'Koz from Davidoff. On the other side, it's a pair of top lane bans, the Camille and the Aatrox. That does leave Matchy X Renekton, which we've seen more than once. And I want to see what the Spoon is going to take in this bot lane now. With so many Premier ADCs taken away, and the Spoon is a recent addition to the roster, not, I believe, a long-time ADC player. And against Senna, you know, there's a lot of power over there.
Yeah, certainly. I think based on what we saw from Spoon yesterday, they were a mage player, so we'll have to see if anything is flexible between them. Lucian is one such pick, the Orianna not so much. So it looks pretty standard as is, unless they're going to pull something silly on us. I think we can, if we can remember what all the picks are, then it should be okay.
Yeah, so hopefully this Lucian is real. For Zyke in the mid lane. Not going to get to play the Zed, but still going to play a strong AD lane dominant champion. We saw Limsey's Lucian have an okay time in the lane, then kind of disappear off the map for 25 minutes, and then reappear right at the end to get some kills. So maybe Zyke can do a little bit more. And they have the Elise, so once again, it's a very strong mid-jungle 2v2 they've built here.
Yeah, this is the thing. They need to be able to get priority, and if it is into Davidoff's Annie, that could be a bit rough. We'll have to see. Davidoff does play a lot of Annie. This is their main champion, as I think they're picking the Elise as a counter proxy pick right now, potentially.
Oh, please. Oh,
it's okay. We'll just, we'll just stop talking about draft.
Okay,
Let's just talk about
yeah,
the teams
it's
until
fine.
they've done the redo.
It's
So
a secret.
looking through, like we're talking about, Munster, they want to try and pick off in these big fighting skirmishes together. We can see that already in their comp that seems to be truthful, as they want to line up and just deathball at you furiously. Whereas on the Nerd Rage side, they've opted for actually more of the same to what they did on Thursday, and they want to try and use these potentially winning lanes to push in, enable their Elise in this case, and snowball very quickly, because that Elise does fall off pretty hard.
Sure. And this is time for Nerd Rage to look to break their losing streak that they're unfortunately on. They started off week 1 very powerfully, 2-0. Kind of bucking a lot of expectations, and then they went on this losing streak, and now they've arrived at a matchup versus the bottom team in the league in Munster, who have picked up that win over London United. So can Nerd Rage pull together and find a way back into this one? Because if you add a 4th loss on there, it becomes very hard to turn it around. Whereas, if you can just bring it back, start from the bottom again, and work your way back up. This is a double round robin. You get to play everyone else again.
Yeah, and speaking of, they have actually paid their demise tax. That was
They
last
true, yeah,
week
they
that
have.
they managed to do it. So they should be looking to pick up only wins in this latter half of the first round robin. And if Nerd Rage can do so, that'll leave them at a nice, comfortable 4-3. So that is something to pay attention to because that is a very good position to be at, especially when team like Munster's already at 4. So assuming you win this game, you will pretty much decisively be able to beat them into that playoff bracket at the end of the season, and that's important to avoid relegation.
Yep, for sure. Looking forward to that end of the season, though we are still fairly early on, plenty of games to play out. But I'm really watching. We wanted to see definition coming into today. That's what I wanted to see, and game one gave us nothing. Nothing at all.
No.
If anything, reduced the definition, right? They're both 3-3 now, and you said there's a possibility to land with 6-3-3, so we're well on our way to that one right now, but Nerd Rage is going to have to step up and get this win just to truly spite me even more, I think.
Yeah, I think that it's all too doable. We expect Nerd Rage to pull out the win, but with this comp, I'm not as sure anymore, as Elise is a pretty much unknown quantity, as is Spray taking them into the jungle. So we're going to have to see how they can approach this game, which lanes they choose to play around and when. I'd be interested to see what pathing they take, if they even start with a potential early invade. Maybe they do 2 camps into invading the Hecarim. Likely going to do a 3 camp involving red, grump, and blue. It just depends on which side they opt to start for, based on how they want to invade Hecarim. Because, as we know, Hecarim is relatively weak in the first few levels. They need to get around about that 4, 5, 6 mark when they start to come online. If found before then, champions that don't take flash don't run away very well. And Hecarim does not get that wall mobility until level 6.
No, that will be most likely an important factor to keep an eye on as we go through this early game, as we can see the picks now coming through in the correct order, in the correct state, and Machiek has gone for the Gnar this game, which we haven't quite touched on yet, into the Ornn for Synapse. So I'd imagine Machiek is looking to be taking control of this game, but Synapse, can just be happy to sit back, scale up, get those ornaments on your teammates.
Yes, certainly, and this is one of those champions that we actually saw it on Thursday. With Ornn, despite being a tank, you can't really do the same thing as Malphite. You can't just drop ridiculous amounts of levels and be useful as an R-bot, because Ornn adds so much more value if they get higher levels. As they start gaining max HP, max armor, max MR on top of their champ with each mythic that they upgrade, they need to be staying in level parity. So, another good target for Elise potentially to focus down if Machiek can get a good lead on this Gnar. Potentially even force a freeze on them around the level 4-5 mark. That leaves Synapse in a really rough position where they can drop a lot of CS for all but nothing.
I'm seeing something
Yeah, I just noticed that too.
On the old pick ban here, Melvin Izzle. So we've got the Spoon, who I believe is an ex-mid laner, on the Orianna. Now, they could lane swap, I think, if they want to do that. Maybe just Spoon's a great Orianna player. But what I think is likely happening here is we've got an Orianna bot lane into Senna with Rel. So they've got the combo paired up from level 1. Pog.
Yeah, it doesn't come online till level 6 though. I didn't want to say it, but I was just hesitantly looking of... It did strike me as odd why mid lane would proxy pick Orianna. And that does lead me to believe that this is legit and Spoon is actually going to try and play this Orianna bot lane. There could be a lane swap for all we know. Zyke might actually opt to take this Lucian into the bottom lane. And yes, we have seen Orianna go bot once before. I think it might have been Gadget. I'm not too sure on that off the top of my head.
In Worlds, yep.
Yeah, so it's been seen?
There's a precedent? I think they won that game? I think.
I don't know if it'll follow through this game is the only thing, as if you look at targets Orianna wants to put the ball on, you've got Rel and you've got Mega Gnar. If either of those are not allowed, Rel very easily can get denied. They have a lot of tools. They have the Syndra E, they have Nautilus R. Both of these could quickly stop Rel getting that big jump in. And then as for the Mega Gnar, that's conditional in of itself. It needs to have the Mega available. So I think it's very tough for Nerd Rage to play out this comp. They are doubling down on what they did on Thursday, and they want to try and play more aggressive, more proactive, and with this new jungle, they're hoping to prove they can do it.
Sure. Specifically looking at Orianna and Rel in bot lane versus Senna and Nautilus, it feels like the range disparity here is pretty huge. Senna and Nautilus surely are going to be the ones, like, how do you get caught by Rel and Orianna when you can sit so far back on this duo?
Yeah, I would be interested to see if they actually opt to do fasting Senna this game at this point, just because I don't think they'll be under really any pressure until level 6. Obviously, Oriana, they can clear the wave and poke at the same time if they're good with where they put their ball. But frankly, I wouldn't expect to see really any threat onto Kevman, which, we saw it last game. I hate to keep bringing it up, but it's very dangerous if you leave a Senna unlocked. So there's a damn good chance that Jelly just stands there and face tanks everything, maybe drops a few kills just for the sake of keeping Kevman safe. I would expect to see level 6 be really when Nerd Rage starts exploding this bot lane, but every moment up until then, this might be a time when Senna could even get push priority. I hate to say it. I don't think it'll be the case, but this is like pretty much the only time you're going to see it. Unless the Nerd Rage do something clever with this bot wave, potentially look to crash it on 3 and look for a cheater recall for a tier. I think it's going to be actually quite tough for this Oriana to stay in lane for so long, because the poke will get shrugged off by Senna and Nort shields. It's going to get healed off. You have to fully commit to get a kill, and that's not easy until level 6. So really, this is theory crafting, with key point on the theory.
We are in uncharted territory right now. We are in unknown waters going forward, as if the bot lane is going to be a bit of a question mark as we see how they choose to play it out, mid lane at least is a matchup that we know with Lucian versus Syndra. We in fact just saw it in last game, and in that one I feel like it was a game where Lucian did not get as much done as I expected. They did okay. I think they got at least one solo kill in lane, but didn't have a huge CS advantage and didn't have much going into the mid game. Davidoff has struggled quite a lot this season as well, and now Zycon potentially a champion they're quite comfortable on. Maybe they can get more done.
Yeah, I think these are two of the lower down mid laners for the UKEL at the moment, so this is going to be a bit of the chance for each of them to try and almost struggle for breath and climb on top of the other one to make their way to that mid-tier upper echelon, try and prove themselves. This is their moment to do so. Davidoff has games on Syndra, Zyke has a game on Lucian, and neither of which saw all too much success. So it's going to be very important for both of them to try and say, okay, we know we didn't pick up the win last time, but we can do it. We can beat on these picks. And they work with our comps. They both make sense for what they want to do. The only thing is I think there's a lot more pressure on Zyke because you need to be the one forcing. This Syndra, they need to be under pressure. And that's not just because of the lane matchup. That's because you have the Elise compared to the Hecarim. If I'm sitting there as Davidoff, I just need to scale. If I can get to 2 items, I'm still going to one-tap basically everybody on their team. And frankly, they don't really get that much tankier. Like, there's Rel and there's Gnar, but the other 3 do not have the luxury of building tank stats. So Syndra is always going to have targets throughout this game.
Yeah. I'm interested to see, for Nerd Rage, the pattern that seems to be coming through is that they, despite whichever jungler is playing, they're still tending towards these less meta-heavy picks. Before, they had the jungle Mundo coming in for Magikarp. Now they've got the Elise, very different, but still not a common pick. I guess I'm wondering how important you think it is, Melvin Izzle, to stick to the meta in jungle right now. A lot of the roles have like pocket picks in all lanes, right? But when jungle feels like such an impactful role, do you think it's still worth it to get these kind of off-meta, more specific picks, or is it just worth just learn the meta, guys?
Now, it's tough to say, because obviously the point of meta is because it's been proven as the strongest. Hence why we've seen Udyr rise to popularity recently. That was just a one-trick champion that people didn't think had any legs to it. But we started to see, as the season turned around, Chem Tank became a really good item for the champion. And their base stats were just so damn high that they could just sprint it down and full clear the jungle rapidly. I don't think this is going to result in a level 1 kill. Master Jelly just nimbly dodging away from the ball. But yeah, I think playing meta is very important, mainly so you understand it and you know how to beat it.
Sure.
If you want to play these champions, like Elise, like, well, Oriana bot lane, you need to at least know how Senna plays the game. You need to want to see everything else so you can beat it when it's at its weakest.
Yes, as we see both laners, both bot sides just returning into that river. No one going for any early hooks or early engages just yet, and we'll see how this matchup develops as the builds become clear and how they want to play the game becomes clear. But both junglers going to be starting on this top side as well. So red for Spray and blue buff for Goose. Could potentially have both junglers ending up at that bot side in a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah, unless Goose spots out this, and I don't think they can. They are question mark pinging their top side, so not actually too sure by the looks of it for the Nerd Rage side where the Hecarim is. They assume it's starting blue buff, whereas the Elise, they're a bit more invisible. I see they're actually opting for the Wolves here. I'm not 100% why they're doing that. I imagine by their 3-camp start, they wanted to try and invade the Hecarim. But, as we see, Senna actually being allowed to get priority means that Elise cannot invade this Hecarim. It's too dangerous. If Nautilus or Senna follow you, that's really scary. So we're likely to see level 3, I would guesstimate, a force onto this bot lane. And if nothing happens, then SprayX is already so far behind.
Yeah, the CC combination from Nautilus and Senna is not to be sniffed at all. The combination roots and stuns and AoE power that these champions have really makes for a tasty combination following up on Hecarim damage. That's going to be the Gromp taken by SprayX as Goose arrives on the red buff. So here they are on this bottom side, but as you say, the push for Monster and the vision for them around that bot side too. Now SprayX going to go for a little journey, a little sneaky little tie into the Monster jungle.
And this perfectly illustrates why it was greedy to go for that wolf camp if they wanted to invade the red, but it looks like their plan was always to go bot.
Yeah, they're going to come around and spot on this vision. Goose can follow up in a little bit, but a flash will be burned. The root lands. The cocoon does not catch Keverman. And now Muscadelli with the hook. The double TP is coming in. This game is absolutely exploding at level 3. These guys wasting no time. SprayX get forced back, but a 3-man knockup from Synapse's Ornn will secure the first blood for Goose. What a committal. What a TP. Zyke now coming down the river. Magic gets dropped quite low, but Goose has the double buffs, and I think Zyke knows he doesn't want any piece of that one. Monster returning fire on that bot lane fight.
And Nerd Rage went for a play that was just unnecessary after a point. Once you see that the connect does not happen with the cocoon, you can just back off. This play is doomed. A non-Mega Gnar TPing in, as we saw, did literally nothing. That felt like a TP out of obligation because Ornn was leaving and I couldn't stop it. At that point, you might as well just leave it, get a good wave state, and then try and freeze it under your tower. Because as we see here now, Davidoff, nice roam up here, gonna push this wave in, no freeze allowed, and frankly it just means that Synapse is not gonna get hard denied like we talked about needed to be done to keep this Ornn in the dirt.
Yeah, and it looks like Nerd Rage is not going to get their usual chilled out passive early game. They're getting TP plays at 3 minutes, and the first blood already taken by Monster. It does go into Goose as well, so Hecarim going to be accelerating this jungle power very quickly, and we'll see what he can do with it now. He's got such a big CS lead over Spray as well.
And I know we're only 5 minutes in, but Spray really does need to get something done soon, and it's got to be a lot of pressure for this new player playing with this team. First time, presumably on a champion they're very comfortable with at very least, but when you're on a comfort champion who's not meta, it's so much more pressure to perform. Because everybody looks at you and goes, okay, well you know what you're doing, you've said you know what we're doing, we trust you. And that can really hurt any future chances for SprayX with this team if they do not manage to perform. The issue with what happened bot lane there was just nerves. They didn't get the cocoon, a good juke onto Keverman right there, and then they were punished by the rest of the team. Synapse getting the excellent 3-man knockup just completely sets up trouble for this Elise. As we see now, they're doing the same thing again. They aren't going to look bot, they're just trying to fish for the invade.
Yeah, they come over the wall, they're going to spot Goose there, lands the cocoon this time, and will have the burst, getting that electrocute combo, but now, can they get out of here? They're in the middle of 3 members, repels up and down onto Mask of Jelly, gets rooted up by Senna though, but it looks like the team of Nerd Rage can fight back. This time, they are going to take the win in this bottom lane. That is a kill support. Flagian's going to pick that one up onto Mask of Jelly, so once again, it looks like a little dicey, but Nerd Rage this time, they get the win.
And that actually does interrupt Goose taking that Krug camp, so they're going to have to go back and clear it before they reset, otherwise that'd be really bad for them. And that does mean, while they do tag 6 here, they had to opt for that one or try and steal the dragon, and without 6 they just couldn't. If they had got that camp, then there was actually a real possibility of a level 6 Hecarim just dive bombing in at you with this dragon. So, good play by them to opt for it there. We saw a little bit of indecision right there, where the Elise was clearly intending on going bot, and the fact that Hecarim was there, they actually pivoted, got a little bit of poke onto them, forced them to back off. Good coordination with Flagian there, manages to collapse, absolutely destroy Mask of Jelly in that choke point. No ability to escape there. They managed to collect the kill, but it does go to Rel.
Yeah, Mask of Jelly demonstrating once again how just really deceptively squishy Nautilus actually is. The damage coming out this champion is so nice, but the tankiness is really not that much of a factor despite his size and imposing stature. So Flagian on the Rel, really the true tank here, and does get in. Spoon getting a little bit of an assist there, does have the Tear and the Doran's Ring, but is keeping up in CS as well. So far this bot lane strange pick has kind of worked out for them.
That, and while Rel is a very basic champion to look at and you can see what they're doing, they have a lot of things just hidden away in that kit. Their passive is that they steal your resistances. So it has a similar interaction to the Trundle ult of old, when you would ult a Sejuani or ult somebody who's just had Aftershock procced. If Flajian manages to get that auto attack in while Aftershock is up, you'll steal way more resistances, and then when the Aftershock or the Sej passive wears off, they lose a lot, which makes them so squishy. And we saw it right there. That Nautilus looked paper thin, level 3. And right now, a big force, actually, from the Monster Rugby Gaming squad heading to this top lane.
Yep, they're gonna find Spray on the Krug camp there. Maciek has been slowed down still in mini. Nar does have the ultimate, but a lot of bar to charge up, and Goose now popping the Ghost. Goes straight in with the ultimate, gets that first kill. Goose and Davidoff are trying to catch Spray X now. It looks like they will definitely do it. A double kill for this Hecarim, flexing the power spikes and taking more of a lead.
And when the Hecarim is invading the Elise, there's a real problem happening here. And just as we saw, there was really not much that could be done by the Nerd Rage squad to collapse back on. They're going to make a counterplay onto this Ornn after the really nice lane swap from the Rugby Gaming squad. But they're actually a bit indecisive whether they want to or not. Flajian's just clearing the ward, but no, they're going to walk over it. This is sus, I will say.
Yeah, a little bit sus for sure, but it is not going to come to too much, as now the Herald on the top side is picked up by Goose, so this top side of the map looking very comfortable for Munster so far. They're going to go straight up to this top side, and Maciek, I think, knows what's coming, just going to back away. It's going to be first tower dropped.
Yeah, and the thing is, Nerd Rage, it's really looking scary for them at this point. They need to go for some desperation plays because they don't scale. They're against Ornn, first of all, and that's without speaking of the rest of the team. They need to find something with this Orianna Rel combo. As soon as Rel tags 6, that's your moment to jump. They have Oriult, so it's possible, but only if it's really good. And frankly, they're just getting run around across the map. This is really nice by Munster Rugby.
Yeah, Maciek actually does go and gets that stun with Rel, but has to flash away. Can he get the Mega Gnar? In comes the Orianna, but where's the ultimate? Shockwave lands onto only one. Zykas here trying to do the damage. Goose will at least be shut down by Gnar. Davidoff looking to support. Out comes the culling, forces the flash from Kevin, and Sprayex now joining the party in topside. Can they follow up? Flash Cocoon nails Davidoff, and in comes the damage. You said you wanted them to make a play, and Nerd Rage say, alright mate, we'll take 3 kills for none.
And thank the heavens for Nerd Rage's fans right there. This is something that I think has been a genuine problem with a lot of teams, but from what I've been seeing and the excessive VODs that I binged, was that teams don't make desperation plays. They're just too scared to. And Nerd Rage, one of the teams that I thought were the worst at this for trying to find that last moment, where you know that you have the last chance. The odds are getting worse and worse. It's gone from a 60-40 to a 70-30. You need to do something, as the Spoon just gets dropped on the side lane.
He's making that matchup like 100-0.
Yeah. Don't know what happened down there, but point being, Nerd Rage found that moment. They found the one golden opportunity they had left, and they managed to pick themselves up at least a kind of neutralizing factor in this game. But it's not over for them yet. They need to do it again.
Yeah, so now Spoon falling down in that bot side, loses the TP from that as well and still dies. Synapse have to just TP up to this top side. So Munster Rugby, they get something back and they hold on to a 1,000 gold lead. So definitely after getting pushed back, they're still more or less in control of this game. Goose still 3-1-0 with a CS lead over SprayX, and I think we're really just kind of waiting to see what Goose does next, because that feels like a really pivotal point for me, as he's arrived in this bot side with the Spoon and Flajian. There are no flashes available. If he can get in behind them, this is going to spell death for Orianna. You know it's coming. In comes the Mask of Jelly, roots up Rel, jumps over the wall. The Goose is trying to get behind them. The flash hook will catch Spoon, and Shockwave is still far too weak, but Maciek and SprayX have arrived. In comes the damage. Onslaught of Shadows will get a second kill, but slammed the horse into the wall. Maciek does take Goose down after the triple kill, and now Zyke arrived late to get that kill with the culling. Now Davidoff is here once again. Can they get the stun onto Mega Gnar, who is about to go back into mini form very quickly? Keverman healing themselves up, but is it enough? They still fall. Synapse, the last to arrive, cannot stop the double kill, and this is just an absolute mess once again.
And the Nerd Rage solo laners are giving it all they've got. They really managed to just remedy that at the last few seconds. Otherwise, it would have been a critical loss where the tempo would have just gone too far in the gaming squad, and Rugby would have just been able to run away with this victory. But because of the timing right there and the hard force, they sniffed out that it was going to be Rel Orianna. Where we see Rel Orianna, they want to make a play. So Goose was waiting there, counteracted the play, got on top of them beforehand. The Orianna ult didn't get to combo with Rel, so nothing really amounted to that. Please don't steal this.
Yeah, that would be too much for me, I think.
Yeah, I would be. If you were the Nerd Rage squad and that happened, the mental is all but gone at that point. That requires a lot of resilience to stand against a steal, especially from something as mundane as that. As Masker Jelly is just kind of taking this downtime advantage to scout for vision, but they may die for it.
Yeah, they're going to get caught by Maciek. If he can get the speed boost, he might be able to find more, but the backup from Munster is there, and Maciek realizes he does not have the vision to be making this, but actually does. He had the pink ward to see Hecarim coming there.
Yeah, lack of boots right now on this Gnar is what I just noticed. I was like,
yeah.
Wait a minute, they should really be able to catch up to this person, but no. Just getting to stroll away, Masker Jelly, getting some nice deep vision that's going to get quickly sniffed out, though. But in the time it takes them to do that, they can look around on this top side of the map, set up again. Frankly, if I'm the Munster Rugby Gaming squad, I'm just farming. You just want to be farming. Get this Hecarim even more ahead. We saw how disgusting they were in that fight. They tanked the entirety of the bot side of Nerd Rage's map for a good 10 seconds while out DPSing them in the process. This champion is too damn strong at 1 to 3 items, and this isn't the time to be fighting them. You either need to pick them or counter-engage on them if you have your flashes available to dodge the Hecarim ult.
Yeah, we've seen Zyke able to pick up a lot of damage in the backside of these fights as well. Probably the only person who can kind of match them for damage if the ultimate is ready. Because they are 2-3, they've got the Kraken Slayer. The only problem seems to be they're arriving to the fight a little bit after they've started and more playing cleanup crew rather than kind of following up on an engage from Spray or from Flageon. So let's see if Zyke can get more stuck in here. So far this Lucian performance has looked a little better. He's got a nice CS lead developing. He's got the gold in his pocket. Let's see what he can do.
Certainly, and they've opted for the Ignite this game, which will give them a lot more side lane threat, but means that, ironically, side laning becomes less viable for the squad, because they are not the TP user. They want to be more with the stack, and then sending Orianna or Gnar to the side, because without TP, this comp can look at Baron pretty safely. They don't do it quick, but with the Senna and with the Hecarim, you can do a lot of damage to the objective without really taking much in return.
Yeah, we now see them just clearing the waves out here, dropping into a little bit of a blessed lull state as we near the 15-minute mark. 2 dragons in favour of Nerd Rage with Ocean Rift on the way, and another Herald spawning now. So it looks like Goose is going to go straight towards that Herald on spawn, so maybe look to crack a little bit more pressure here. And on the bot side, SprayX is near enough to that Dragon Pit, but there's plenty of time on it. You see Maciek there actually flexing a little bit of power here. Now he's got that Divine Sunderer. This matchup becomes a bit rough for Synapse.
Yeah, the Ornn isn't really allowed to bully the Gnar as much. When it's mini, there is still the chance for a kill, but as we see, Spray shadowing quite nicely, but timing it just as the Mega Gnar fades means this is going to be a really tough attempt for a dive, but the entire squad coming down, counter-attacking. I like this. Stay proactive. You know the enemy's on Rift Herald. You've got to at least do something, even if it's forcing a tower.
Yep, Synapse has the drop on it though, has to use spells, better not get stunned up, but Zyke just peppering them with the culling, and they are going to commit to get that one now. Munster, they see so many members in bot lane, they've got the Herald, let's see if they're going to drop it down here. It's just Spoon and Flageon on the defense.
And I really like Spray's influence on this team so far. The team is playing better to what their win condition is. They're not just rolling over and getting stomped, they're doing at least more proactive plays, and while it may not be necessarily the best comp, I do like how they're going about it, and they're executing better now once they got out of the initial jitters of getting used to having the new player. They seem to be doing a lot of good adaptation and forcing these fights. However, it is the Ocean Soul that obviously is disgusting when you have triple frontline for the Rugby Gaming squad. You don't really have the equivalent, but important note, while unconventional, the Elise did manage to get 2 of the dragons, which means that Nerd Rage is in a pretty good position to force a soul point fight in a good minute's time, where if they get that, then it becomes a bit scarier for Rugby Gaming. They're allowed to scale, like, don't get me wrong, you don't really want to be team fighting against them, but it enables side laning pressure for the Lucian, for the Orianna, for the Gnar, if you manage to get these initial objectives.
Yeah, and those champions for Nerd Rage are scaling up nicely. Mythics on the top side of the map for Nerd Rage, but Orianna critically still missing what I presume will be a Luden's Tempest going forward there. The tier still stacking as well, so these shockwaves are not going to be as impactful. It's going to be up to Maciek and Zyke to really push through the damage, I think, on these fights, whereas Monster Rugby Gaming, we're all Goose fans over here. They are just following in the horse, whatever he wants to do. 2 items completed with the Triforce and the Death Stance with those Merc Treads is looking absolutely terrifying coming through.
Critical to note is that Ornn does have exhaust right now. So, if Magic can get to that level 11, or frankly even just get Mega, the counter engage can get nullified a lot for the damage aspect.
Yeah, that is, we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's trying to stack up that bar right now on the Krugs, as the Dragon has been tentatively started by Spray, but looks like they don't want to commit just yet. Magic actually going to come through and start stacking it on the Dragon. Munster are standing very far back right now. Looks like they might have looked like they were going to give away this Dragon, but now they are coming back with the wave in their control, and here comes the TP behind them with Synapse. Here is the fight coming through. A 3-man Shockwave bursts and gets the start off to a great start for Nerd Rage. They get a couple of kills off it, and Synapse in the back does get the shutdown onto Zyke, though. There goes the exhaust onto Spoon. Maciek tanking up that front line, trying to keep Kevman and Goose unchecked, but now the red team will finally get the Ocean Dragon. Munster commit to the fight first. It looks like it goes bad. They get the double kills, but man, Nerd Rage, they're on sole point now.
They do have that, but the critical point that we talked about beforehand, it is a team fight comp. At the end of the day, that is what the Munster squad has. So when you opt into these team fights and you say, hey, we're just going to do this, burn the objective, and then try and escape with as many people as we can have survive, Munster's fine with that. We're more than happy now to just sprint this Hecarim in, and while the combo is almost perfect between Spoon and Flajian, what you have to note is Orianna bot lane, still level 10. Doesn't have the Liandries, doesn't have that much damage to burst after it. Obviously, Rel themselves doesn't really pump out too much DPS. So, while the combo is good in concept, they don't really get too much off of it. And it pretty much saved the fight for Nerd Rage. But even that still resulted in a 4-2.
Yeah, they're getting these objectives, but falling further behind in gold every time. It's now over 2.5k in favor of Munster, and these dragon fights are only going to get tougher if you keep losing out in the gold trade. Zyke's still strong. Spray has had an okay game. I mean, they've got the Night Harvester, but look at the differential between the gold on these two characters. It is going to be massive.
Yeah, that is
4K.
4K. Well, double the effective gold lead. Now it's not as much, but 3/4 of the gold lead is solely on Goose. Well, actually, it's more than that even, because they have more gold. And yeah, basically, point being, bad at maths apparently. Yeah, they have a lot of money. Goose is very rich. They run into you very quick, and we talked about how strong Goose will be on this Hecarim for the 2 to 3 item mark, and they are far and away the one hitting 2 items before the enemy is even close. So that's pretty dangerous around these fights, and watch an early Baron force, if not bait, from the side of Munster. That's what I'd like to see. If not, they just try and opt for getting massive bot side control around this dragon.
Yeah, we now see them returning to this river here as the Baron has just leapt onto the rift. Obviously a little early to be looking at that one, but both the teams are just kind of feeling it out, going back, farming up some items perhaps, and maybe just waiting for the next dragon from Nerd Rage's perspective. I don't think they're really likely to take wins at many other points in the game, but if they can at least get this dragon, then they can maybe start thinking in a more proactive manner again.
Yeah, Nerd Rage don't want to touch this Baron with a 30-foot pole. They do not want to even attempt a fight like this. But if they go for a pick, free real estate.
Mask of Jelly, force the flash away, definitely nothing lost there.
No, certainly. If you're going to walk into them one by one, then you know what, Nerd Rage is more than happy to do that. They want to play guerrilla warfare. They want you split up across the map one by one. That's where Elise thrives. That's where Lucian is going to thrive in these fights. But it's moments like this where it's all 5 stacked. It's scary. It's really scary for them. So we need to see Maciek force pretty hard on this bot side to try and draw Ornn away.
He's got the Sterex and the Divine Sunderer, so still scaling up in power for this Gnar, but he's yet to reach that wave, and Munster are still operating in this 5 stack. Nerd Rage giving them all the space they need, because they still do have the pink ward on Baron Pit as well, so they can see if it starts up, and I think, you know, we're already at 21 minutes. Munster have a gold lead, it's not massive though, and they don't really, I think, have the power to just start it off rip. I think they'll lose a lot of HP doing that.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out just now before it comes up is an important, I would say the most important summon of this game is Spray X's Flash. The fact that they are on red side means that the team fight comp is a lot more scared to start Baron, because Elise is one of those champions that does have enough inbuilt burst with their Spider form Q that they can always threaten a steal. Even with 2 levels down, you can see that if it was any other jungler, Munster would have already started this Baron. They would have already baited you into a fight. But the fact that Elise can just stand there behind and make you flip the objective means that it's way more intimidating to force. And to be fair, even without the flash, they can still E into the pit. It's just a lot harder for them. And when you have things like the Orianna to pair it with that ultimate, it's not great. You need to be looking for a fight if you're Munster, and by the looks of it, they decide, you know what, Baron, it's way too flippy for us. This is probably our best executed game to date, so we're just going to set up around this dragon, and we're just going to wait for you to walk into a choke point to own you.
Absolutely. Keep going with what works for Munster Rugby as they are now running around this dragon pit, tentatively stepping up. There's a fair amount of Nerd Rage vision there, but it is easily cleared out. Flageon there having a wee look-see, trying to see where they are. This really tightly knit 5-stack of Munster is just running around the map right now. They're looking to try and catch out Spoon. They are going to force that flash out pretty easily. Zyke just going to eat the Call of the Forge God and walk away, but Spoon now very vulnerable on this Orianna with only the TP and no flash. Munster still looking and searching.
And Rel, while very good at initiating, does not peel that well in this case. They can't stop a Hecarim, so this is going to be a tough choke point to get through.
Oh, in comes the ultimate, but the combo whiffs only onto Synapse now. Can they get more on the front side? Mask of Jelly is dropping quite low. Flageon deep into the backside is going to get traded. The support for support. Sprayex now has to go into stasis, and Maciek does not have Mega Gnar. Goose comes out, lands straight on top of Sprayex for the double kill. Now chasing down Gnar as well. Goose, ever the frontliner, taking control of the fights again, pushes back Nerd Rage and denies them soul.
And frankly, they can just walk this over to Baron if they're feeling greedy. It looks like they're not going to opt for that, but I don't think it would have been too dangerous considering that it's only Lucian Orianna available. The Orianna doesn't have flash, so if they get tagged by a Syndra stun, it could go very badly, and it looks like they've caught onto that, but maybe they've waited a bit too long.
Yeah, now TPing straight into that pit and doesn't even start clearing out the pink wall just yet. They're starting up the Baron now, and Nerd Rage are responding quickly. Spoon coming through, but he still doesn't have the flash. He's being a little cautious about it. Flageon is there, they have the Blast Cone, but Spray is so far away. Maciek now TPing in at the back, but doesn't have any Narbar stacked up. Below 5k HP for the Baron, and they're peeling away to try and catch Maciek. They force him over the wall, but they're going to easily sew up this kill. Now that the Baron is fully recovered though, can they even do it?
They do have the option to double smite with Synapse taking it, but frankly, I think that was the wrong decision. You didn't need to acknowledge that now because you could just have one of your frontliners, one of your many frontliners, go back and aggressively stand at them. Nautilus can frankly even give their life at that point to just stop the Baron getting stolen, because it's very hard for an Orianna to do it. Against double smite, even more difficult. So I think this is just Munster. It's one of the few times they've had a lead, so they're just being very hesitant to force it now. And I don't like to see that. I want to see them be a bit more confident with what they've got. They know it's hard for the enemy team to combat you, so you just need to play it smart instead of getting picked by Rel.
Oh, but here comes that triple knockup. Can they get the combination? In comes the shockwave. A huge shutdown comes through, and Synapse trying to fire back. Zyke and Spoon will be dropped very, very low. A Spray comes around the corner. A hook lands onto Rel, but followed up by Spray's Cocoon onto Mask of Jelly. Zyke is still alive, but there comes Nautilus Ultimate, forcing him to dash away once again. Spray dropping low, but Maciek returns to the fray to try and keep them on the winning side here. Another triple knockup from Flageon, and Nerd Rage finish off the fight with the shutdown onto Goose. The Baron is still alive. Nerd Rage, did they just fight their way back into this?
And Flageon, yeah, I think they almost did at this point, because if you look at the timer on that dragon, this Baron gets them to the dragon. This will give them the ability to side lane, get pressure, and have the actual, well, hopefully nobody dies to it, okay, and have the pressure to be able to force a potential soul. And it is a lot easier now for them because teleports are down across the board. It's so much scarier to lane against this Lucian who was going so big in that fight. Zyke was absolutely ripping the front line apart. Excellent job from Maciek and Flageon to peel off this Hecarim. And while they did manage to pick up Spoon and Spoon even, it didn't mean much after the fact. Flageon on proactive champions. That's what we said this team needs. And you know what? They are doing a hell of a job on this rel.
Listen, Munster, I know you're rugby players, but you're not supposed to throw when you're playing League of Legends. That's the wrong game, guys. Now the goals is 1,000 in favour of Nerd Rage, and they've got the Baron, exactly as you said, to help them get the push here. Flageon on the rail doing so much work. The items are now coming through for the crucial carries. That's 2 completed for Spoon. Zyke is almost on 3 now. And now Munster, they're going to try and claw their way back and not give them time to regroup as Flageon drops the ultimate. Can they get another shockwave? Catches 2 members. All the front lines are burning through. And looks like Goose has actually managed to turn it around once again. 2 have fallen for Nerd Rage. The Baron buff be damned. And they're going to get pushed back behind their own mid lane tower.
And just because you have a gold lead, just because you have Baron, that doesn't make you a team fight comp. It doesn't turn you into a team fight comp. How they won the last fight was off of a pick. Flajian saw the perfect 3-man ult, which followed into the perfect 3-man shockwave while they were getting gunned down by the Lucian ultimate in the process. So that was really just an advanced form of a pick right there. It still wasn't a team fight. You had already killed 2 members effectively and still managed to get threatened by Goose throughout the entirety of that last skirmish. So what we saw here was they just thought, okay, we're ahead of the game. Now we're back in it. We can team fight. Or at very least, they were trying to set up the lanes like they were. And it backfires completely. And that ward right there that is in the mid lane for the blue team, I want to point that out now because Ornn will have teleport for this Ocean Soul, and I don't think it's ever going to get swept now. There's another one in the Wolf Pit by the looks of it, so there's a lot of great angles for Ornn to flank in here. Keep your eyes out for how they approach this fight.
Yeah, they did get that win, Monster, but they didn't get the dragon off it because the timer is still too long. Baron is still live, but the waves are not really being affected at this point. So it looks like we're going to go for another dragon pit coin flip, everybody. He actually burns the TP early, doesn't get the good flank off, so that's another tool off the table. But Monster love to play in this 5-man stack and just roll over you. Spoon could be caught out. Call of the Forge God not going to get a good start, but is going to land Flajian on the second impact. No hook to follow up, and looks like they've escaped the engage here for the first time. Nerd Rage, maybe can they turn this into one fight? Machek's got Narbark on at the time, but he's been rooted by Kevin, and he's over the wall, followed out with a stun. Spray goes through to try and combo it, and Flajian is back in. Meganar has popped. Can they take the win here? Goose and Synapse on the front line, burning through Spoon. Spray on the top side, staying alive, but Nerd Rage looking to turn it back. Another fight goes the opposite direction, and this is just game 1 all over again, Melvin Izzle. Nerd Rage come out on top, and the Ocean Soul is their reward.
It could have been so easy, Monster. You just needed to take the dragon. Ornn does not opt for the teleport. They decide to just straight up run at them. I think that must have been the Ornn minimap bug right there. That can still happen where sometimes it just pings your ult to the other side. Because if you just flip the angle they're going for, it makes sense. Yeah. So, really unfortunate there. Synapse, either that or they just hard whiffed, one way or the other. I'm giving them benefit of the doubt on that one. But they do not manage to get the initial pick. Goose is pushing them, actually. I believe they pushed Flajian out of Mask of Jelly's hook. So a bit of just desynchronization with the team right there results in them losing not only an ace, but also the soul. Nice one there, Machek.
Got him.
And that is going to be so big because now Machek is actually starting to feel like a tank, and Flajian is possibly going to get a second item.
Yeah, we could see Machek getting caught there, but he crucially doesn't actually die off the CC combo. Still gets the Meganar and the Sterax, keeping him alive, and then he is just tearing across that fight. He's got 3.5 items completed now. Looks like he's going towards a Guardian Angel by the BF Sword and Locket in his inventory, so it's going to be even harder to take this Gnar down. Meanwhile, Zyke is scaling up well, and Spoon to get in the ultimate. So Nerd Rage is finally starting to come together, and now they've got the Ocean Soul. This is what we wanted to see from them as their ticket to get this win in the bag after a very rough mid-game.
And if we want to talk about wishful thinking, something to note about the Ocean Soul is while it goes so well with tanks, I do not see, other than the Thorn Mail on Ornn, healing reduction. So, if Davidoff on this Syndra tries to burst out Spoon, Zyke, potentially even SprayX, if they do not get the kill, which is quite feasible considering that Orianna Ball gives you resistances and the shield, so it is completely stoppable, then that means whichever carry gets focused out initially has the option to scale back up. They can actually heal themselves, and with how impactful Zyke has been on the edges of these fights, it is going to be so massive for them specifically. If they manage to survive the initial jump in from a Monster, then they are going to pump out so much and stay healthy in the process.
Yeah, Machek's going to get spotted in this mid lane, and once again, Monster have gone back to this stack up, but they don't have Synapse for any kind of long-range engage just yet, and Machek, as we said, is a real tank now. He can take these fights. He's got the Narbar stacking up properly as well. Here comes Flajian over the wall, looking for the engage, trying to get on top of David. The stun nails onto that carry, and can they follow up the fight? Onslaught of Shadows will disrupt them on the backline. Flajian absorbing a lot of pressure on the front side. Zyke dashing on the backside, dishing out the DPS, and they're finally starting to break through the Monster line. Zyke is still full HP. Spoon finally making it through. Machiek goes so low, but the Ocean Soul will make quick work of that disparity, and now Nerd Rage, they are just kind of decided, okay, we're a team fight comp now, we've got Ocean Soul, we're just gonna fight.
Yeah, they've accidentally scaled into an ability to team fight at this point. What we see, it really does no favors for SprayX. When Flajian manages to get an initial pick, it's still very big. And while it looks like no smites on the map, just double checking, no attempt at a steal, Sentinel not even up, not there, damages the Baron. So this is just going to be a second free Baron at this point. Nerd Rage going to pick that up. Can they learn from their last mistake with the Baron? And now the only difference is they have an Ocean Soul in pocket. So it isn't likely to go as bad if they opt for a team fight. We'll have to see if Machek finishes the GA here, because they have been so massive in these team fights for just getting the initial picks right there. They got Davidoff to start it off. Then they continued forward, and just with the Ocean Soul, this Gnar is doing so much for the team.
Melvin, are you ready for another Elder Dragon dance in this game? Because, let me tell you, I don't know if I am. There are so many turrets still alive for Monster, and despite the Baron on Nerd Rage, it's gonna take them time to burst through them and get towards the inhibitors. Elder's only 2 minutes on the clock, and I don't know if I'm ready to cast another one of those.
Well, I'm going to make you even more upset here, because if you want a feeling of deja vu, take a look at Keverman's inventory. He's just hit the 3-item point where they are going to start to shred through. The only problem is, and, well, I say problem, is that now we see some healing reduction has come up for the Monster squad. They do have the Oblivion Orb, they do have the Blade onto Keverman now. So this Ocean Soul is going to be not necessarily nullified, it's still a ridiculously powerful effect, but it is going to be mitigated ever so slightly.
Yeah, the chance now for Monster to find a better fight. Flajian has been key for Nerd Rage in the last few fights, finding these massive engages, and Machek that you mentioned as well, but now they're going to try and kick it off as SprayX is not there. They have forced the flash out of sight. Machek takes a fair bit of damage, but isn't going to be too impactful. They've got the Baron Wave, SprayX is going to come here. That's a major engage tool for Monster down with nothing gained.
I think Zyke will have culling back up for the next fight, which, while it doesn't seem like much, has been ridiculously big for this team.
Spoon is on their own right here. That is such a risky move, and they get flash hooked straight away. Spoon is going to get completely destroyed in the river there as the rest of Nerd Rage are resetting. It's 4v5 now when the Elder Dragon spawns. This could be the counter throw.
I want to see Machek either look to get Mega Gnar in Fog of War and then use one of the many good wards that they've got as a potential flank TP, because there is 7 seconds where the Dragon is up and Spoon is not. So if there is any chance for Nerd Rage here, they need to drag the team away. This is great. Keep them off the objective before it spawns. Right now, Monster's just thinking we can get a force quickly while it's 4v5. But in actual fact, they're getting kited away from the objective and try to buy time for this Orianna. Culling is about to be back up.
Orianna does have TP as well. They can come up the fountain and come straight in there, and they saved their flash, getting semi-caught there. Sprayno has just lost theirs, and Goose dives in with the Onslaught of Shadows, catches 2 members, separated once again. The repel comes up and down, but there's no more flash level. The jungler is about to fall, goes into stasis, and Nerd Rage are scrambling to get something. Machek has the Gnar, goes over the wall, gets a 3-man stun, and here comes the counter engage. Godlike Gnar from Machek, and Zyke now trying to clean up on the backside with Spoon with the shockwave. Nerd Rage, they look like they threw it out of the park twice, but they still find the counter fight, and Monster will fall at their hands. Elder is there, the waves are with them. How do they keep getting away with it?
If this isn't the game, I am going to be shocked. What an amazing leap over the wall from Machek there. They have been single-handedly carrying these fights on the Gnar. While yes, Flajian has got some good initiates, right then they were all on follow-up duty, as they managed to get right in there with the Magnet Storm on top of the big Gnar for 3 people, including Keverman, the primary carry for this team, as it looks like the game is all but over. There's either going to be an FF or the game's just going to end naturally. Point being, congrats to Nerd Rage on the dub for this one, as I'm just going to straight up give the MVP to Machek with a side note of Flajian.
Yeah, that was really powerful engages here. I'm gonna wait just for confirmation that it's not like a pause that isn't showing up, because it's possible. I see a lot of low timers on Monster's side, and maybe they could push them back. Maybe they just get dived under the tower. We'll wait for confirmation, I guess, just to make sure that has happened. But at the very least, Nerd Rage are... it's not clean from them. They're still not having the kind of strong victories that we saw from them in week 1, but at least they did manage to get this win out of the bag, but they're just going to end up at 3-3 again if that's the case. So once again, definition out the window.
Yeah, I'm going off of the assumption that this is the game ended, because even with 2 people alive, we're waiting to find out. But I'm going to mark that down as a Nerd Rage win until we get told the contrary. So, assuming the game's over, which it looks like,
why can it not be easy?
No, why can't it be? I mean, we go through the draft of everything being lied to us, and now we're getting... But that's just a matter of There is a bug at the end of the game when you're spectating, which is why I assume it did end.
Yeah.
Where it just randomly pauses. We're getting a lot of words saying that it's probably Nerd Rage.
Many people are typing in the broadcast chat right now trying to work out who's won this game.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it was Nerd Rage that did take the dub, and we're going to fingers crossed that it was just that being the case. So, yeah, okay, we've got confirmation now. Nerd Rage did take that win. Congratulations, you do manage to beat the monster of Munster that really did put up one hell of a fight.
Oh, yeah. That was great effort by Munster. A really strong early game from them as well, taking control of it, really putting the pressure, putting the screws to Nerd Rage and not letting them have the calm, passive scaling early game that they like to have. And I mean, it was, as you say, all down to Maciek and Flajian pushing them back into this one, dragging their team back into this game when Spoon's getting caught out, SprayX is getting caught out, and they're still not losing the Elder Dragon. True grit, I think, shown from Maciek there to clutch that one out.
It was a straight-up robbery after a point. That should have been Munster just taking the win to the bank, but clearly they just haven't had enough time to practice when they are in this ahead state, and it should have been the win, frankly. It's kind of sad, if anything, of just the fact that it was a really nice performance from Nerd Rage to recover the game, but there were a couple key moments around the first Baron. If they had forced it before the Dragon Soul was even possible, if they had committed harder to stealing the first Ocean, I believe, which put Soul Point on the table, then these were all key points that Munster need to go back, check the review, because you had everything right, you're playing well into this very abstract comp, and frankly, it was just those last little bits of dotting the I's and crossing the T's that they dropped the ball on.
For sure. Definite progress being showed by Munster Gaming. This is a new roster. It's a rebuilt roster coming in for Munster, and they've got progress coming through here. Goose especially, I am liking a lot of what this guy is doing. And Nerd Rage, you got away with it today, guys. You got away with that win, and you got to 3-3, but plenty to work on for them still as well.
Yeah, this can't feel like a good week for Nerd Rage, even with that win at the end. The thing that they have learned, though, is regardless of if they're going to keep going with Spoon and keep drafting these very abstract comps, the thing you need to remember is you want to keep stuff happening early. I really do like how Nerd Rage have advanced their compositions over the past few days, and more so about how they execute it, because they could have won on Thursday, but the main issue was they just weren't ready for the style. It didn't synergize properly. Adding SprayX to this roster has clearly added that extra spice that they needed. The Elise pick, it kind of just lights a fire under you, saying, if you're not proactive, you know you're going to lose. So you got to get stuff done, and putting Flajian on things like this Rel gets that done.
Yeah, and with that, we are going to be calling it here for our first 2 casts. We're going to be passing the reins over to Initialize and Nymera, and I mean, you guys, we barely made it through these first 2 games, so all I can say is good luck with the rest of today, man. It is a wild one here today at the UKEL. I have been Trajan, joined by Melvin Nizzle on the guest caster slot. There was an absolute blast to get the Newell duo back together, my friend. And everybody, stick around for those last 2 games. Today is far from over. We will see you there. Thanks for watching.
Prepare for trouble.
And make it double.
To protect our league from devastation.
To flame all teams within the UK nation.
Sam.
Alex.
Team Hapgood casting at the speed of light.
Surrender at 15 or prepare to fight. Lapras. That's right.
That's exactly right. The brothers Hapgood are back to cast some UKEL. It's good to be back. It's good to be doing stupid intros. I am, of course, Samuel, initialized Hapgood. One part of the Hapgood brother duo, and on the other side is, of course, Alexander Nymera Hapgood. And
it's been a while since we've done an intro. We've probably prepped more for intros than we have done for actual games at some points, but we do have some really good games coming up.
Don't give that away!
That ends up being leading us into some really good sets of games, which I'm really looking forward to, actually.
I genuinely am. We've got two fantastic series to round out the day here on the UKEL. First up, of course, will be a pretty interesting one here. We've got Hive versus...
Mythos.
Mythos, thank you. I had a moment of madness. And both of these guys are kind of fighting here to pull their way up the table. It's really tight right now, Nymera.
It is, because, of course, both these teams are 2 and 3, and I know exactly why you were trying to go, it's not Munster, they were just on stream, and they also begin with them, so it is, of course, Mythos. Both these are 2 and 3 teams. Hive are a team which came into the split with a lot of expectations put on them. Sad at 2 and 3 now, they've struggled to meet that kind of hype, but, of course, it is still only week 3. A lot of games in the regular season, but as Sam and I will know from various other leagues, and of course you will too, regular seasons do fly by at quite a click, really. You can end up getting to the point where, when it does stay very tight in the mid-table and every team is taking games off each other, you will get tiebreakers. It will come down to singular games. And between these two, which are literally neck and neck, and heck, Mythos just got leapfrogged yesterday by losing to Viperio. They're really looking to keep pace and not drop those singular games, which might cost them later on.
And of course, for Mythos, coming into this split, you know, we're kind of being talked around about this blue shell dark horse by some players and teams, but they did just lose that game to Viperio you mentioned, who are very confident we'll be seeing them in our second series, but it's a bit of a frustrating one for them. And on the other side of the rift, of course, is Hive, who... a lot of people had a lot of hope for. People were pretty excited about this squad, and sad at 2 and 3 is not what you want to see from these guys, and they really want to prove themselves here.
So we're into pick and ban already. I guess just quickly going through all of our our notes on these teams and whatever. We've kind of decided that, you know, if there's going to be a matchup which is going to be our match to really go through, it's probably going to be Rengus versus Extra on the top side. Also known as I won't lose. However, with that 3 in the lost column, might want to be stepping up for that naming convention. But still, he's the player which has really carried this team more often than not. Vanguard on the other side of the map has also had some really good performances, but it's just not been as consistent from the bot lane for the side of Hive.
And what an apt ban it will be, that Vayne first one off the table by Mythos. Do not want to give Vanguard the eponymous champion. Bard as well off the table. Of course, Hecarim was the ban here away from Dunloss, who's definitely pulled that one out. And of course, Goose in that last game nearly got Monster Rugby off to a win, so we know that Hecarim can be very, very deadly. Camille, I think, is a smart ban, very strong right now, away from I Won't Lose. And of course, Seraphine, which I know you think is very strong at the minute, Nymera.
Yes. As long as you have a front line, Seraphine, when you've replaced your tank support with something else and you still have a fighter on top side, can kind of suck. I think we've had a couple of teams even in the UKEL which have, oh no, we've lost My Chemical harrowing. Seraphine without a front line really shush you, can really fall behind in the vision game if you start falling behind a game. It's very snowbally when you have Enchantress supports and not a great front line. Maokai being locked in, I don't know whether this is going to be AP Maokai in the support role. That's where we last saw it. Could also be going up towards the top lane side of things. I'm not really sure where Tank Maokai really stands in the meta right now. This could be a learning experience for me.
I know I should be focusing on the picks here, but I've got to come back to My Chemical Harrowing. Really? Was that what you're calling for? Is like Zhao now part of the Black Parade led by Viego? I would be down for that skin, by the way.
I was about to say, like, we have a running theory that Viego's actually John Bon Jovi.
Yes, that's right.
Now, it might take a bit of explaining, but it started with stabbed through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name.
Yeah, exactly that. It's the heartbreaker.
From the fact that we could make a funny pun out of it, Viego is actually part of 80s rock band Bon Jovi. And Kaiser and Thresh, very different drummers and music, of course. KDA Kaiser. Gonna be on the side of Hive.
Well done. Nicely recovered. We're back into draft. And that's a nice way to talk about a very standard bot lane. Kaiser, Thresh, both pretty common picks in the current meta, both pretty nice to run with, both pretty blind pickable, frankly, so I think that's a decent option. See where, of course, Mythos want to go with their second rotation. Gonna go with the Graves for Dunlossie, unless there's some weird laning shenanigans going on. Of course, Fudge pulled that over in the Looking tournaments and didn't look too good on it. Of course, it's Senna again. And I think CJ and Melvin might be shuddering even after they've left the cast after 2 games of Senna that nearly popped off in one and actually destroyed the late game in the other.
Oh, for sure. And heck, we were just doing our own little shift on and over on another cast where we saw a Senna reach 91 souls, and we're thinking, oh, heck, that's like a quarter of a screen's auto-attack distance. Someone else who actually ends up getting really high auto-attack distance when you get that fire cannon, Twisted Fate, locked in for that mid lane over on, for Nice Guy Dom, who I believe is still the same mid laner for Hive. But, yes, TF being locked in. This is one of the higher tier list picks in that mid lane because you can just ignore lane. You can just wave click. Go somewhere else. Party's over. No one likes mid lane anymore. Go bot lane. That's more fun.
Yeah, of course. And then Nivea also now taken off the table, as you mentioned. It's one of those control mage picks. It's been a bit of a weird space. I feel like Nivea with the right items can be quite dangerous, especially now she's been given some of those buffs because of all the mana items that just disappeared from the game. Kind of curious to see. It's an interesting choice of ban there, but it's off the table. And now Udyr is the choice for Mythos. Another one of those picks is just very strong right now.
And Nivea is actually really good into TF in a lot of ways because TF doesn't have kill pressure on Nivea pre-6 because it just doesn't have the damage. Post-6, Nivea just like walls you into the ult, and it's not like you have a dash. You don't have the ability to, and you don't really have the range to play around the Nivea wall and the stuns and stuff like that. So Nivea kind of gets a free ability to scale up in the mid lane. One problem is if you're going to be diving mid, and of course Nivea can't get out to side lanes. I mean, and if we're talking about side lanes, of course, like we've got Demise later, right? Demise have shown so well how they can dominate this league so far just by playing really well around 1-3-1 and lane assignment and having something. I mean, we won't focus on Nivea anymore, but some mages like that can really suffer to have good lane assignment where they can push up and still be relevant for team fights and stuff like that. We do have the Lilia locked in for jungle for Wilhelm now. That'll be versus the Graves, and I know you've got some thoughts about the Graves versus Lilia matchup, particularly because of the True Grit only giving armor.
Yeah, I just think Lilia is generally pretty good into Graves. Of course, it's difficult for Graves to win a lot of those AP jungle matchups. If you can get in and brawl with him close range, of course, Graves still brings burst damage and Lilia is still squishy, but she can honestly rush Zhonya's pretty damn fast, which makes Graves' job a lot harder. Lilting Lullaby is also very nice into a lot of these picks. You know, Senna probably doesn't want to get hit by that. It pairs up really well with Twisted Fate as well. That's just a lot of CC. Both these guys turn up and suddenly you're in a spot of bother. They've locked in Karma Taric as a last 2, though. So that is a lot of Moonstone shielding. It's a lot of invulnerability, and it's going to be on Senna and Graves to offer a lot of the damage in the team fights.
So this does mean it's going to be a solo lane Maokai almost certainly because of the double support of champions locked in. We're going to be flexible because Taric has to be in that support role, right? That's the one thing that doesn't really flex.
Ooh, okay.
Now that Annie is locked in,
Is that actually
I'm going to imagine that's a proxy. It's going to be a proxy pick because the lobby dissolves, and that means I can't actually remember off the top of my head what everything was picked. But yay, Maokai!
Alright, we'll find out, of course, how that works out. Annie, we're assuming, is a proxy pick. We're out of picks and bans, which leads us into that. And it is, as production has just given us a heads up, Cho'Gath is who it is. So, good news for those.
I feel really bad about throwing my Lapras, by the way. It's a lovely present from my partner. I feel bad that I just yeeted it off screen.
That's the Pokemon set is going to come for you, Officer Jenny's, after you've mistreated the Pokemon. We did go for the Team Rocket intro, who are not exactly known for being, the best carers of Pokemon ever, so that might just be indicative of us being bad.
Hey, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Arbok and Weezing rather enjoyed their tenure on Team Rocket. Wobbuffet stuck around for a while. Don't know if they got any severance pay when they changed generation, but
who knows? That's a good question. Like, do they get paid?
Yeah, where's my Pokemon wages?
All right, back into picks and bans, and just going to be running through this pretty damn quickly, of course. It'll be a remake of the picks and bans as they were. Annie will be, of course, be replaced by Cho'Gath, which I won't lose. Will be running into that top lane, nearly guaranteed. And we've got a sort of team fight comp from the side of Mythos, but not the highest damage one until Senna hits critical mass, and everything else is effectively, keep them alive, basically.
So I think a lot of this, you know, the tanks coming back into top lane and stuff like that, partly that's because Camille's been removed, right? And the other thing is that this is now patch 11.3, so we have stuff like the Frostfire Gauntlet doing really well in the current meta because it's cheaper. The stats has moved away from, I'm trying to remember what the mythic stat is nowadays. Actually, I'm not sure if that's the one that's changed. I think it was Aegis that was changed away from Ability Haste to that. Anyway, a lot of the tank items have been, that weren't Aegis, have been fiddled around a little bit, and there's left.
Yes.
People like Shogas with Frostfire Gauntlet in a relatively okay position because they end up getting to their mythic a little bit earlier into the game, and that means they can play quite economical. They don't have to have so much gold put towards them. They never really needed to have that much anyway. It's just that if you were diving top with TF all the time and just making sure top lane was always punished, it was just like, well, why should I play these tanks when they're never going to be tanky in a game? At least can I try and play something that can outplay a little bit? Something like the... I mean, Ornn is, of course, one of those other champions. It's just a bit easy. It's a bit harder to dive in Ornn than it is someone like a Cho'Gath. And Gragas is also the other kind of standout tank pick up in that top side, which... and even then, they can
go Night Harvester quite happily occasionally. But there we go. We've got our rosters locked in. You can see the Karma mid is obviously probably likely going to be running that Moonstone build unless there's some weird shenanigans. I mean, there's a world where you go Leandries and go damage as well, though I doubt it in this game. Of course, for Hive, though, much more of a pick and dive comp. TF turning up to a side lane to facilitate Kai'Sa and Thresh or the Lilia and Cho'Gath to really get onto that Maokai or potentially that Senna Taric. Especially if they can put the Senna behind early. I imagine that would be Hive's main goal in this early game.
So we look at Mythos and I say, that's a pretty good 5v5. You've got a Death Ball with Karma. Karma is like the primary group up and fight champion because the shields you give and the ability to give them move speed, particularly to someone that wants to engage like the Maokai, is really, really important. It allows you to force the issue pretty hard around objectives, and with the Maokai and the Taric giving you so much healing and shielding around objectives means that you can tank stuff like Dragon and Baron for pretty much forever, whilst also having the ability to turn relatively well. They don't necessarily respond to side lane plays as well as something like Hive does, right? Because Taric can have some impact on her own, has like Flash Dazzle and plays like that. It's not nearly the same as a Thresh coming up the Lantern.
Cosmic Radiance, you know.
Cosmic Radiance is okay, but you want to save that for team fights, and it's not like it's going to be... heck, it's not quite like having your... What was that rogue play they had in the LEC where they teleported in with the Cosmic Radiance on the lane partner, and they teleported... That was really cool. You have to work pretty hard to make macro plays on Taric. You really do just want to be stuck as the 5-man group. Whereas on the other side, Thresh is really good at roaming. Flajian on side of Nerd Rage, just saw them on the Rift. One of their week 1 games was really spectacular in that regard. They turned up and they just won all 3 lanes by roaming. Kai'Sa can fly into side lanes, particularly when you get the 2nd level of your ultimate, and that increases the range. TF, of course, has to get Destiny Gate 2. I'm speaking very quickly, I'm going to start slowing down, but that's because there are so many things which can affect a side lane. Mythos probably needs to be worried if the side lane towers start falling, and you're going to get dove quite a lot, and you can't push out in those long lanes.
If they can survive the early game, though, and they have some tools to that, of course, Senna as well, with some of the shielding and healing alongside the Taric, there is a world where that can be quite difficult to dive them. Of course, Maokai as well, a lot of CC, a lot of ways through. You can outplay some of these dives. You can. If they manage to do that, or at least not fall too far behind that kind of level 6 to 9 area where Hive can really put the screws in with the ultimates from Twisted Fate and Lilia on those side lane dives, then the team fights become a bit trickier because, yes, they don't have the highest damage, but they've got so much sustain, so much CC, and they'll have enough to get through those squishy members.
But riddle me this, right? What happens if you get... so Maokai, let's say, Maokai goes in and gets gold carded before they get to Twisted Advance. And even if they do, they get gold carded into Thresh Hook, into the Sleep from Lilia, into a Chomp from Cho'Gath. Maokai probably doesn't get a second shield from Karma. Unless you're going in with the Taric Cosmic Radiance, there's a good chance you get one shot as the front line. And I think that if Cho'Gath, if Maokai ever gets picked off from the side of Mythos, they really struggle. They need Maokai to be strong in this game. If Maokai is not strong and just gets blown up at the start of every fight, Hive had a very easy intro into 5v5s too, because you're going to have that fire cannon, just chuck it straight on top of Maokai, you have the Thresh Hook following up. It's the same kind of reason why we saw like a Aphelios Thresh with the Gravitum and getting that root into the hook too. Hook champions alongside point and click stuns is really, really good for picking off the first person in a team fight, and I reckon that is what we could be seeing if Hive don't get engaged onto you cleanly enough from Mythos.
Look, I know we mentioned we thought Extra Cheeky and I Won't Lose could be really critical in this game, and while the Cho'Gath is quite important, you know, it's going to be a nice option, the Maokai for Mythos is so key, because it's so much of their engage, it's so much of their frontline. You know, Maokai with a Cosmic Radiance and a Dazzle on as he twisted advances is chains of CC and invulnerability, and then everyone else can follow up, and that will be wonderful. You see the combo there.
And another
if the
issue is
Maokai
that,
isn't miles behind.
and the other thing is that, I mean, Cho'Gath's coming back into the meta. Now let's remind people of what Cho'Gath does. If you overdive into a Cho'Gath and get hit by a Rupture,
Yeah.
that hurts. That really
Yeah.
hurts. Not just the CC, you get a decent amount of damage through from it too. It makes that engage, which we said that Mythos need to get quite cleanly, just harder to get. If that Rupture hits the backline, and Graves, for instance, is in a range where it's just, if Graves wants to do damage, he's always going to be at threat from the next CC coming in from Cho'Gath. And then one CC hits and the rest of them come in. We talked about that too. So I think that while this does look like a very strong 5v5, it's not. There are some hoops to jump through.
You can break
first.
it.
Yeah.
You can break it, exactly. And, you know, the other thing is, like, Cho'Gath, for all that a lot of his basic cooldowns can be quite extended, they're quite powerful. Like, if you dive a Cho'Gath and he hits a Rupture, and then the Feral Scream, you just have to sit on the tower and take vast amounts of damage, and then he just feasts you, and you die. Potentially, of course, Maokai able to play around some of those dives as well, and there's some worlds with that. But you're right, that Cho'Gath could be a bit scary, and even into something like Maokai, who kind of often survives at low HP because Sap Magic means he
I'm
can
just
heal
staring
out.
at Lapras on the floor over there.
Oh, that's what
Sorry,
you're
go on.
doing.
Okay, more important things like League of
You're
Legends.
really feeling guilty about this
I am.
soft
I
toy
really
that's
am.
on the floor.
This is the pain I give myself for really funny intros.
Yeah, it's you know, you're suffering for your art. Yeah, I guess to bring back to the point, I'm curious whether you agree with me on this one. Actually, Cho'Gath into Maokai can be quite nice because the Sap Magic that normally allows you to survive at low HP for a long time actually just doesn't work that well against Cho'Gath because he executes you and feasts you down.
There's something to be said about that. I mean, like, it's been a while since we've seen tank versus tank matchups in the top side. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a bit of Sion coming out. This tank set was around a little bit in preseason, and then, of course, we've always had Ornn for the last couple of years. But seeing Cho'Gath come back, seeing Maokai come back, sometimes it looks like wet noodle fights. But the thing about most solo lane trades, and this is very relevant for stuff like a lot of assassins, right, like your Zeds and your LeBlancs, a lot of it's about a series of 3 or 4 trades which actually lead to pressure, actually lead to a kill. It's a lot of laning advantages coming up through various forms of trades, and that of course happens when you've got like an extra grass proc coming through, a full set of Cho'Gath E's getting onto a target, which can really end up showing the difference between these top laners. They understand the lane states which happen while they're trying to go for these extended trades.
Okay, now Mara, I have got a problem here, and
Yes.
this is basically that I can't root for Mythos anymore in this game because
Why is
Extra
that?
Cheeky has lived up to his name. He's been very cheeky. That choice of skin is the Christmas tree Maokai.
Oh,
and
no.
It is currently February. That is just way out of season, mate. Stop it. That's completely
man,
inappropriate.
'tis the season. Oh no, not this again.
Shocking choice in skins.
Whereas, I mean, like, I like how Dunlossi is going for like, you know, we did our intro. We've got Giovanni Graves from Dunlossi.
that's exactly
I
it.
like how they're listening in. You know, like glad we're on the same page.
Actually, while we were zooming past him, he just skipped his wolves. Interesting. He does not want to start. He's actually going to go straight over to this red buff. He's going for the double buff and a Gromp start, which is not normally what I expect from a Graves.
And what's also important is that, I mean, like, Cho'Gath is now doing the old special of going beyond the wave and punishing the Maokai. And
Yes.
Tiki doesn't get the early level 2 and is now going to lose priority for any possible top scuttle fights. Of course, Dunlossi's gone straight down towards the bot lane now. It's probably not going to be going towards that anyway. And this Cho'Gath gets a bit free roam to get vision and also help out Wilhelm if they choose to do anything on the top side of the map.
Dunlossi has now got double buffs at level 3. Krugs will be around this bot lane if he so chooses to come into this play. Lilia, though, has gone for that full clear. She's on her blue buff, so it's obviously a touch behind in terms of priority, but will be able to come down with the wave shoving in from her bot lane, have a little bit easier time of getting to the Scuttle Crab, which will be spawning very shortly.
So it's going to be spawning in about 3 seconds. Wilhelm and obviously both have Smite for that fight. And Dunlossi looks like he's kind of got the memo. Said, alright, double wave crashing in towards the bot lane turret. That's actually something which Melvin Izzle was talking about the other day. Of course, it's big shoes to fill. So going into the color casting role after Melvin's been on cast, he's saying like, well, you know, there's a lot to be said about the skill of teams crashing in bot lane for those scuttle spawns to make sure they're basically uncontestable. So with that being said, Dunlossi's like, alright, okay, bot one's gone, let's go towards top side. But the problem with this is now you've got top lane Scuttle, which gives you top lane priority for a tank matchup top lane, which doesn't particularly matter in terms of like getting it does help in terms of like, oh wow, you've got priority on the top side where maybe TF wants to go later into the game. And I know we talked a little bit about getting these tanks relevant in the game, but it's not really as big as getting the Kai'Sa or the Senna ahead on the other side of the map.
Yeah, and you just saw Wilhelm get to roam in and take away those early Raptors that Dunlossie skipped over, and he's quite happily ahead of this game. Like, this slightly odd pathing from Dunlossie and the slightly desynced camp spawns in the jungle, kind of putting him in a bit of a weird spot, honestly, early on.
It's meant that Graves has effectively had 0 lanes he could even possibly look at, whereas Wilhelm is being able to get, well, I mean, you can see what TF has felt comfortable to do, getting that that ward just towards the jungle entrance on the bottom side of the map. We see Rengis, or I Won't Lose, holding the wave at tower right now, but could this just be a twisted advance coming in? This could be a kill, actually. There's a red buff and early damage onto Graves.
Would make this a counter gank, though, of course. There's the recall, and Wilhelm's thinking about the gank. Dunlossie on the recall could cause chaos. They're thinking about it. There's Dunlossie jumping out of the wall. The quick draw is there. Teleport coming through as well. They want this play so badly, and I Won't Lose will lose first blood over to the side of Mythos. Great little counter gank.
Graves gets the kill. It's no flash away from the Cho'Gath, and they still have teleport, so it's not worst case scenario. Still, well played by Mythos. Really just Dunlossie slipping in outside of vision and not really considered to be there by Hive. So, bit of a freebie, but the teleport being used from Manrobo, of course, allows Nice Guy Dom to get out onto the map. Now, the important thing with this is that you've just used both solo lane teleports from the side of Mythos.
Yeah, you have.
When TF has got ult coming up on the next couple of waves.
Yes.
How are Mythos going to play around bot side? Are we going to see Graves immediately go bot and shield this lane? Because they cannot move up to the lane if it's on the other side of the wave. Now, look at this. It's going to get hit 6 off this thing there. Has level 6, going to recall, has teleport, has Destiny Gate available. Hive have the run of the map for the next minute or two.
They absolutely do, and this could be a critical point, because you're right, they did burn both TPs, and it was to stop like waves going down, and the thing is, if Hive don't make anything of this next sort of 5-minute window or so where they've got the TP advantages fairly significantly, then Mythos will be feeling pretty pleased with themselves. That said, Hive do get to start up this first Drake, and in the bot lane, Senna is a notable distance behind this Kai'Sa early on from the lane.
So, I wonder whether Hive really should have pushed in this bot wave when they have the TF ult coming up. Of course, it's still a free dragon, right? But I'm wondering what was the maximum output you could have got from this point of TF. Has the spellbook gone for the heal? So he's gone towards a combat summoner for this first ult of the game. I don't think you really want to go top lane. You do want to get this Kai'Sa ahead, because if Kai'Sa ahead, then that's your main source of damage versus this Maokai. It's your only source of AD. Right, you've got Cho'Gath going AP, bit of true damage, and then, of course, Lilia and TF completely on the magic damage side of things. You need Kai'Sa to be relevant in this game, otherwise this Maokai does become a lot more of a problem.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. There's room in which you can punish it. The TF obviously has this window.
Oh, look how tiny Cho'Gath is.
But Cho'Gath is actually, he's a tiny little Cho'Gath. Oh, look at that. What an adorable void sea monstrosity.
Maybe we should get Cho'Gath as our like Team Rocket monster.
There is a similarity between Guard Jump and Cho'Gath.
True. Oh, you're so big brain.
I know.
Oh.
Thank you.
That's the one time I'll say that ever. But yeah, you got this one.
I'm gonna write that down and get this. Someone clip that for me, because I'm gonna treasure that forever. Until such a time as that, though, we may be looking for a gank in topside as Mythos is about to find their way onto Zerg, who is getting rushed, which is a little ironic considering his name, but a flash away will keep him alive. And here comes a TF as the counter gank. Dunlossie has his shield. That's the joys of Manrobo being there. They don't find as much as they would like. Bowling ball misses. Wilhelm now stepping forwards, has got Lilting Lullaby, but just a couple summoners and ultimates burned. No kills are going across the IET.
So that's the first TF ult used, and it didn't really get much. You get away some summoners. It's not like Mythos had any teleports to commit, so you didn't even get any of those. The other side of the map, nothing's really been gained because, again, it's Cho'Gath versus Maokai. It's not exactly going to be knocking turret plates off of each other. So Hive get a very low value window of pressure, I guess. I mean, they do get that dragon. That's the one thing, right? They get the one dragon, but it kind of feels like Hive could have maybe gotten some more out of that teleport, which was used to get the first blood from the Karma, and then, of course, the return back to lane teleport from Maokai up in that top side.
Of course, you're looking over. It's flash and heal down for Vanguard right now, whereas and obviously the Destiny went down for Twisted Fate, whereas actually all summoners aside from a couple teleports are available for Mythos right now, so they could honestly think about continuing to contest this Herald if they'd so chosen, but jungler's not around, top laner's not around, and that will mean that Hive get the early Herald, they got the early break, so they're feeling okay about the way this game is right now.
Yeah, for now, yes. I guess another factor of this is, okay, we talked about the Graves-Lilia matchup. Lilia can get in and brawl with the Graves every so often. Still goes for first item Zhonya's too, so gets that AD and can be that pseudo frontline where you do kind of Q ult, buy a lot of time when you're Zhonya'ing too. But the thing about Graves is that doesn't really clear that well on first clear, right? First clear is okay, but it's not your Olaf. Lilia clears quicker, so does Talia. Although actually no, on this patch maybe Talia doesn't because of the fall off on monsters. I haven't actually seen too much on the jungle clear timings for Talia. But Graves has had really bit of a after that early first clear stumble, really free run of the jungle. Not really been denied in any serious way. So they're relevant. Got the first blood from a timely counter gank in that top side, as we were saying. Donossi very relevant now in the game, and now Hive have to deal with something which maybe they could have leveraged a bit better earlier, but then of course Mythos on the other side of that, very happy to get away with that in the early game.
And speaking of Dunloss game over there, he gets to walk in, take a blue buff for free, take a Gromp for free, and feel pretty happy about it. I won't lose. Looking for the interrupt. There's the rupture, and that's just a dick move, man.
Why would you do that?
Just took the earlier gank personally, that's all it was, and now he's just angry.
So, another important thing to say, no teleport still for Mythos, and Destiny's back up, because of course this is Lucidity Boot's first 40F. That gives you 20 ability haste, which is really good for a setup boot. It's very cost efficient, which means that potentially we could be looking for top lane, bot lane dives. We see that Duo there. Wilhelm's heading towards the bottom side of the map too, with Raptors respawning. This is the kind of time you're thinking, okay, we've got like 30 seconds to a minute where we still don't have teleports, globals to respond from the side of Mythos. Can we get anything for that again? And just looking, having heads-up play, seeing what they can get from their momentary advantages.
Vanguard getting another shove in the box by Agent AU, trying to get some work done. Zerg on vision. Wilhelm has got the Herald spawn. This is the first turret over to Hive.
I'm going to pretend I heard any of that because I think we got the initialized Tron. And actually we have the Herald and bot turret instead. Or is that me?
This Herald. My ping is disappearing briefly. I hope I come back shortly. We'll
yes.
stick around.
When we said
back.
like casting off at the speed of light, we didn't mean like your ping went with it.
No, I know.
So we are going to have
randomly
a setup for the dragon fight coming through. Vision currently controlled by Hive. Mythos entering the river.
They are looking to try and get on this. A teleport coming back. That's a big lilting lullaby. And the turnaround is not bad though. You can see the Dawning Shadow came out. Cosmic Radiance armed and stayed alive, but now it is finished.
Oh,
Can
Dunlossi.
this work out? This is Dunlossi trying to get something out the back end. Vanguard over the wall, staying alive. I won't lose. Now in a 1 versus 3, trying desperately to stay alive, but will not do so. And Dunlossi gets the kill.
Might not be called Disco Dano in the mid lane anymore, but certainly there was a lot of staying alive from the disco genre in that fight. If Hive managed to teleport in early, get the chomp down from the Cho'Gath, maybe they get to use that numbers advantage to run over the rest of the fight. Not quite coordinated enough. They do get the dragon. It's an Infernal Rift too. 2 early dragons. That's something important to play around. But Mythos walk away with just that 1-for-1. Get themselves a play on mid lane. Push in a couple of waves across the map. So in terms of the gold value shared across the board, Mythos come on top of that. But Hive now have that extra neutral objective factor to play into their late game.
And it is, of course, an Infernal Soul as well, which is definitely one of the more coveted options. And yes, Mythos get the kill, but Hive got the objective, and that's kind of a nice touch for them, as you mentioned. But, you know, you saw the Cosmic Radiance come through, the Dawning Shadow come through, the shields from Man Robert. It was quite difficult to blow somebody up. It was a fantastic lilting lullaby. I thought Wilhelm had it, but just not enough damage to get through all the defenses.
Yeah, Hive are going to have to think very tactically now about, okay, they do manage to get themselves a plate there. 30 minutes crossed, there's not too long left to get more plates across the board, but Hive are going to have to be very tactical about where they're focus firing. Who do you need to get down? Who can you get down? You can't always get the gold standard of killing the Graves, killing the Senna early on into the fight. Sometimes you need to just take what's given to you. Wilhelm just playing bit of a defend the Vanguard in the top side as he does take down a 3rd plate there. So again, using the time window left those plates to get as much as they can do Hive on that top side of the map. But yeah. Going back to kind of like oh yeah, that was really hard to kill people. You know that about Mythos comp. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to do it while the ultimate's
Start
down?
a fight is what they're going to try. That was a decent dazzle to prevent the easy engage. Dunlossie goes to sleep. They're looking for the gold card, but that last embrace meant that Nice Guy Dom couldn't quite get in range for the gold card, and they'll have to back away. Lilting Lullaby is down for the count. Death Sentence misses, and we're back to playing some ARAM around this mid lane.
But that's how well it goes when you don't have Cosmic Insight or the Dawning Shadow to worry about. I'm a little worried for Hive now. What are you going to be doing about these picks? Because that's the kind of point we think, oh wow, Graves is the one that's caught. We have a gold card locked in. Maybe we can get something through that. But even with just the Moonstone on the Karma and the turret coming through, really difficult for them to find the right spacing, and it's disengaged by Mythos relatively well. Mythos definitely had themselves the better rotations coming out of there too, because Vanguard was not in range to follow up. It's only the first level Kai'Sa ult, whereas you did see Maokai making it into that fight in a relevant timescale. And this game is left kind of waiting for the first explosive moment again. Yes, it's a gold lead to Hive, but Mythos are very happy with the group fights right now.
Yeah, I was just about to say, for all the Hive have been looking a little bit nervous in those skirmishes, like, yeah, we can't win this. They've done a very good job of getting tower plays. They got 3 in top for Vanguard. They got a full tower for Vanguard on the bot side. Nice Guy Dom and Nine Won't Lose got 3 in mid as well. So that's, you know, good gold, good map rotations, and maybe that's how you play this game, is just refuse to play the 5v5. Just split this map up. You have got the better side lane options, as we kind of thought in the pre-game, and if you can play around these early towers, then there's an option there as Nine Won't Lose.
He's a gourmet. He's a gourmet. He's just getting himself a crab dinner. None of that for the chunkless. Been fed far too much in the last couple of patches.
It's another neutral objective. That's another.
Yeah, it is, but this is dangerous now, right? Because there is a worry here that Hive will get to Infernal Soul Point before. So Mythos actually just locking in the Destiny to get back to mid lane, wave clearing that. This shows what Hive are thinking. We just took the Herald. We have that. And maybe they're thinking, we don't need the Destiny for the next fight because we're not going to fight for the Dragon. But the question is, if Mythos let the Hive get through to like an 18-minute Soul Point, that's horrible for them because they might have to fight as a 5v5, even though that's their prepared composition, before all of their items are online and potentially risking going against the Infernal Soul for the rest of the game.
At which point I think it is wise to talk about some of those items before a potential dragon fight. 4 mythic items in for Mythos. That is the Chem Tank on the Maokai, more speed. Of course, Gale Force Graves, Moonstone on the Karma, and of course Kraken Slayer is the choice for Senna, which is of course being the more standard option there. Lilia is perhaps the interesting off choice here, who has rushed the Zhonya's.
It's just
something
Zhonya's
we've seen a few
functionality.
times.
It's so important.
Yeah. And we've seen it quite often, but now we might see a bit of an engage, a collapse of the Nice Guy Dom, and Zerg, who flashes out of that dazzle. Gold card as well bought. Time on the other side. Wilhelm and I Won't Lose stepping forward, extra cheeky in a difficult space. Good. Lilting Lullaby. The arm of the Cosmic Radiance, though, buys time. And what a beautiful set of stars those were. Once again, the defensive stats are good, but now they need to back away because their health is very low. Flash forward for the exhaust and the rupture and the death sentence. And Vanguard gets a kill onto Man Robot, and this is a much better fight. You can see the consistent picks are there. You called it out. What happens if they can turn it around? Big turnaround damage, though, is big, but it's a triple kill for Kai'Sa. Triple already looking for more. Wilhelm gets Agent O, and this was the team fight we were worried about. What the hell? Hive gets massive fights. At least extra cheeky gets extra cheeky and gets the 1 kill. Zerg might fall to the dragon, but won't do. It is a full 4-for-1. It might even be a 5-for-1 because I think Arkarath fell as well. So great fight for Hive, who also get themselves Infernal Soul points.
Yeah, so that's the whole, what happens if you go in with your frontliners Mythos and they just get locked up to oblivion. That's what happens. And then with the numbers advantage, Hive get to chase down and down. This isn't quite enough on the Karma side of things yet, because of course you max your Q first when you go into mid lane. You don't have the lower cooldown in your shield. You don't have the same amount of unparalleled mobility for your team unless you've got something like a Sivir ultimate available to you or whatever. Mythos cannot disengage the fight, and the TF gold cards just keep coming in. Hive take the fight, and it's pretty much in the way that we thought they might.
Yeah, they get the fight, they get the dragon, they even used the Herald in mid before and got the tower there as well. That is a critical change in the game here. They're now up 5,000 gold. They've got Infernal Soul Point. They've got map control where the towers are at, and Mythos needs to try and stabilize this game before that just happens every single fight.
And another terrifying thing is that, okay, so there are 6 kills in Hive. If you think 3 of them are on the Cho'Gath, okay, right, maybe you don't have enough DPS to blow people up. There are 3 kills on the Kai'Sa, 2 on the Lilia. Hive are going to have the correct damage profiles to really punish Mythos if they don't end up using their ultimates in a good enough fashion, right? Because we saw in a couple of times, like, wait, what happens right now when there's no Cosmic Radiance, when there's no Dawning Shadow? If you're not fighting around those ultimates, particularly when you didn't get that Cloud Soul yourself to reduce that window of time when they're down, what happens? Can Mythos even fight? And actually, judging on the last fight, maybe they can't, because there are a lot of gold down. The 6,000 is not insignificant.
Dunlossie and ManRobot are just hiding around this corner looking to see what's going on, but they are now on a ward that was well placed earlier by Hive, who now back away. Remember,
Teleport.
Destiny is down, and that means that Extra Cheeky has got a fantastic teleport flank. Nature's Grasp comes out, and that will be a kill onto Zerg. A little bit of an overstep in the side lane from Hive.
Okay, but that's a teleport, and it's a Maokai ultimate, and Cho'Gath is alone in bot lane. You don't have a dragon, there's no Herald to take. It's something. It breaks the map lock up from Hive, where they were just full court pressing across the board. But now they don't really have another punch to throw at Hive for quite a while, because that's the one true engagement they have. And then, like, you're going to have that teleport for much longer than the Destiny as well, is going to be down too. They're losing red buffs, they're losing some waves on the bot side. I'm not actually sure if they're going to lose that bot lane in a turret too. They actually might just get away with it as TF backs off, but this is still what Hive can do when they have the option to make the map just much wider than Mythos can play to.
I don't know, we kind of worried about it a little bit in the draft, saying, look, if Mythos can hold on and not lose all their outer towers and kind of stabilize towards the mid game, they've got a great 5v5 comp. If it hits the point where Hive can just split the map up, look for picks constantly, delete the front line, Mythos have a really difficult time now. They have to keep, like, they're kind of running around the map trying to stop the split pushes going on, but you're trying to catch up to a TF who's, of course, got Teleport and Destiny and is a very slippery customer. You're trying to maybe catch a Kais who is similarly Flash, Ultimate, 2 items as well, not an easy person, especially with a Thresh Lantern on top of that to keep her safe. It's quite difficult to actually collapse unless you've got the Teleport, which you've burned already and didn't get loads from.
This does, I mean, the game does change, right? If Graves manages to get on top of Vanguard or Nice Guy Dom or Wilhelm, just kind of lead them. With a 3-kill Gale Force Graves, that's a possibility.
It is.
It's difficult, though, because you're getting pushed in all lanes. You have to clear a lot of vision. You're not getting much of your vision down. There's going to be an Infernal Soul and Baron up at the same time in the next minute and a half. Hive can very happily trade one Infernal Dragon for the Baron and try and crush an inhib or two, fight for the next one if they want, but it forces Mythos to make hard decisions, and if they do misstep, Hive do have those macro tools like we talking about, the teleports, the Destiny, and of course the second level Kaiser ult coming in now to punish any of these missteps which Mythos might have.
It could not be more apt. The team with Twisted Fate has a few more cards up their sleeve. Of course, they can play for that Infernal Soul, and they would happily do so, but they don't have to. They can play to the split push. You can say, yeah, we can do this 3 more times, where we trade Baron for the Infernal Drake, or we trade loads of towers even for the Infernal Drake, and they'd be kind of happy to do that if they wanted to.
I guess another important thing to talk about is that it's actually an Executioner's Calling second on Vanguard. That's going to cut a lot of the healing down. You need to hit a champion 3 times consecutively with auto attacks to get to that 60% healing reduction. Marcus Extra Cheeky gets the sidestep, luckily enough. But the thing is, though, when you've got so much attack speed and Hail of Blades from Kaiser, that's very likely to happen. If you get that onto the Maokai, you're going to lose out on a lot of the healing which your team comp is dependent on. When you do have a Moonstone, when you do have Sap Magic, when you do have the Center Heals coming through, we have a Twisted Fate ultimate coming through too. Well, it's not been popped aggressively, it's just been there for vision right now as the dragon spawns. Hive look like they're committing for this and not going for a Baron trade.
Indeed, I won't lose teleported in, but so did ManRobo. So, 5v5. This is where Mythos comp is supposed to shine. The last one did not work out, but they are going to try and deal with the front line here. Cho'Gath in front is a challenging customer. Who here kills I won't lose right now is Dunlossie over the back of the wall. Maybe trying to go for the steal. Hive still holding. In goes the Maokai, stunned up and pulled down. Cosmic Radiance buys time. I won't lose, trying to stay alive as well, flashing out, but collateral damage is big. The Lilting Lullaby is a huge turnaround now, and Alkirath falls down. Big shutdown onto Lilia. It's a 2-for-1 right now. Watch out as Agent O is being sped up, and we'll get one. Vangel goes to the backline and at least gets the trade, but Flash in, and the slows it here from Senna. Flash over the wall from Dunlossie, and the last embrace lives up to its name. A Mythos find the team fight they were looking for.
Why do Hive feel like they're forced to commit to the 5v5? Regardless, that's what they went for. They took that gauntlet which was thrown down by Mythos, and Mythos said, okay, right, we're down in gold, but we have the ultimates this time. We have the positioning this time. We know the Destiny's down. If we take this front to back, we can take the fight. That's exactly what they do. Hive commit to it and are slapped in the 5v5.
Oh, what a little series of plays there. You saw both frontliners get in, both frontliners get out. And then the kind of fight continued. I thought Hive had it when they landed that massive lilting lullaby, but the shields, the heals, and just the sheer damage out of the likes of Dunlossie and Agent Hour was just too much.
It is, and also it's not like you're really diving into the backline. No one was picked off early.
Right.
Maybe they can do that with a Destiny, though.
Instead of a team fight, they'll go for the pick. They're going to try and get onto him. Arcura sped up, difficult to keep a hold of. The lilting lullaby pop forces the flash. Now they're stepping forward. Goldtard is in, and the pick CC chain is huge. Arcura stays alive longer than people might expecting as Dunlossie now here, but he gets cocked. The death sentence come through, and he is stuck into the lantern. What a hook from Zerg, but now the health
just
bars are
can't
pretty low.
miss.
They just don't miss. Double kill for Kai'Sa. Vayngod running rampant. The Maokai is here, but extra cheeky just doesn't happen. It's a triple kill for Kai'Sa. The extended skirmish, the extended CC chains will get Hive a massive team fight victory. They'll move over to the Baron, and they are back in control of this game.
Tarrakal can save you from one hook. It can't save you from 5 in a row. They win that third. Well, they take an even fight around the Dragon against the run of play. It just doesn't matter, though, when they don't have all pieces of Exodia put down on the playing field. They don't get all their ultimates. They don't get to fall back, keep using those shields again and again while the damage is being output. Hive have the continued pick CC, and they use it to roll into a Baron and a next dominant phase of play for the next few minutes.
Oh, Dunlossie at 6-1 tries to quick draw away, but Zerg was heat-seeking. Utterly unreal with those death sentences in that fight. Nice guy Dom, though, might be in a spot of bother as Dunlossie quick draw, Gale Force. The smoke screen was good, but that was a decent gold card to disengage, but it will be flashed down from Nice Guy Dom.
That's a really good smoke screen. Stops the instant gold card response coming out, force out the flash. Now you don't have a flash gold card? Okay, that's an extra degree of safety you have in team fights for the likes of your Maokai or whoever's trying to back off from the fights after trying to face check or whatever. Now, Hive still have themselves a couple of globals. They got that Destiny, but they're playing against the Maokai teleport. Are we going to see Mythos try and go once again for a Maokai teleport flank, or will they try and go front to back without any of this flank malarkey?
We have got an 8,000 gold lead at 26 minutes in favor of Hive. They're still at Infernal Soul Point. They've got Baron for at least a little while longer, and they've got 5 of the outer towers. It's just that top lane tier 2 that stands. I don't know how much more Hive are going to get off this Baron play, but for now, they are very, very in command of this game, and Mythos needs to find another one of those dragon fights if they want to try and find their way back into a game that they seem to have recovered in briefly.
So the Baron buff's going to fall off, you know, at some point, right, within the next minute or two. But while they still have it, Hive get to reset. They get to push in waves, and when you have the waves on the enemy side of the map, that leads to vision. Look at the bot side, red side jungle for Mythos. Look at that, that's 3 wards in there, one of them a control ward, and there is no ward even close to the river on the bot side of the map from Mythos. That's great vision toggling. You can see if they don't manage to push into this river in the next minute and a half, Mythos are going to very much struggle to scout out every opportunity that Hive have. They haven't managed to have a Destiny pick really yet in this game, but the threat is still there. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen in the future.
And what's happening in a minute and a half, you may ask, dear viewers? Infernal Soul Point again. Hive have got 3 dragons. They want that. And honestly, if Mythos can't get into the river to contest in team fight, they can't win the team fight they're set up for. And that's what that's the problem with the match stage we're at right now.
Yeah, it reminds me of, you know, your big Wimbledon matches. When you are just sat there and you know it's like championship point, game point, set point, all of this stuff, and you're sat there like, okay, I've got to fight through this one fight, and if I win that fight, I still need to win probably another 2, another 3 to stand a chance of winning this game. Hive have themselves this Infernal Soul Point. They kind of gave up that one chance at the earlier one. They took a fight after that point, but we can see that Mythos in the 5v5s front to back have a chance of winning. Maokai is walking up. There's a Moonstone, of course, onto the Karma, not built up yet for the Taric, importantly, but they have that ability to walk in and form up this phalanx.
Okay, well, they've managed to make their way into the river. They
TF's
have
on
forced their way
topside.
through that. TF is topside, and maybe this time Hive is saying, we've not got teleport, we just want to be as
Oh,
awkward.
big
That's a big
sleep.
lilting lullaby. The Cosmic Radiance in response is big. Hooked out of the
didn't get the
Cosmic
ult.
Radiance! He got hooked out! Zerg, you god! You monster of a man! And now Vanguard in the back end is on a rampage. The tree is felled. Agent AU tries to survive, but in goes with the Killer Instinct, a double. Make that a triple kill for Vayne, who picks up a quadra kill. And it's a gorgeous team fight victory for Hive.
It's just these swirl seeds. Wilhelm lands a 4-man sleep. I can't even see how many people. Well, it might have been the whole damn team. And the Cosmic Radiance doesn't cover everyone. You don't get to see Graves getting the invincibility. Mythos fall apart at the seams. They didn't even need Twisted Fate involved in that fight, did Hive, to take themselves to basically the game-ending state. You've got an Infernal Soul, an Inhibitor down in mid, an Inhibitor sure to fall in bot side if they stick around for it. Baron will spawn in 2 minutes. They can reset, and honestly, Hive, it's their game to lose now.
Are they gonna even back here? Zerg gets hooked. They're going to try and get on him. He's taken pretty low, but it's another lilting lullaby that comes in. It's respawn, ability haste. I name thee busted. Zerg gets the kill on his opposing support. Supportal combat indeed. Flash for I Won't Lose going in, looking for the beast onto the Graves, who's dusting around and will get the shutdown. And I think Hive might have overstepped a little here, but Vanguard, still a terror, will not find the Acathian Rain, unfortunately, for him, which means Dolossi's still alive. Throwing out some ends of the line, but I think that name of an ability is just a little too apt. Nexus Turret 1 has fallen. Still around our Hive, getting Nexus Turret number 2 down. Agent AU staying alive. Dunlossie will fall. He gets a return kill, but Twisted Fate shuts down the center. And Hive, 22 kills to 10. Still fighting as Ingo's Akirath as a Taric. Desperately trying to survive. The sad BMO is out, and Hive win a convincing win over Mythos.
And their last pick faints, and they black out, losing some of their gold and losing that Nexus. I was trying to make a reference, you know what it is. But a really convincing win. I love to see people going very heavily towards a very stylized comp. They're like, these are going to be big team fights. These are going to be really big 1-3-1. And seeing the mental gymnastics and this, almost like this fencing between the two teams where they're sat there like, well, okay, what about this counterplay? Well, have you considered the TF? Or have you considered all of these individual moving pieces? There's too much to handle at the end of the game. And of course, it will be that Nexus falling.
Yeah, you saw some of the split push shenanigans. TF was a nightmare to deal with. They tried to close it down, didn't they, Mythos? The one time with the teleport from Maokai. It wasn't enough. They did try, but it just wasn't there. And then those hooks from Zerg, man. Utterly unreal in some of those fights, which maybe could have been a little bit more Mythos favors. The likes of Dunlossie have been able to survive. And I suppose at this point, I've got to ask you potentially a little bit of a leading question, but who do you think is the MVP?
So, I am sat there looking at Lilia and looking at the sleeps. I'm thinking, ooh, that's really nice.
Good.
I'm going to give it towards Thresh. I think Zerg ended up having a really good game. There were 1 or 2 times where they stepped up a little too far, particularly in that top lane skirmish.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll forgive those blushes for the ridiculous hit rate on those death sentences, which honestly probably sealed the game. There was an even map state, and suddenly it just wasn't. It was Lilia, it was Thresh. Both of them played an equal part in it. It's kind of a coin flip between both of them. You can flame me for not picking up that Lilia as the player of the game if you want. But for me, those death sentences were just a beauty both hold, and beauty to hear you cast that, Sam. Really getting into it.
I know. It was some beautiful stuff. And of course, you're right, Wilhelm, on that Lilia. Some of those, that was like multiple times you saw quadra Lilia sleeps, which is just unheard of. So hard to pull off. Alas, that will put, of course, us going towards this break. But when we come back, it will be a massive showdown between Viperio and Demise Academy. So go absolutely nowhere, because I need to catch my breath, because I've got another big game to cast. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. But I appear to have lost my color caster. I don't know where he's gone, but it's just me at the minute. We've got a game here between Demise and Viperia, but it looks like I'm solo casting here, unless there's something else going on. Nymera, are you there?
Oh man.
Am I hearing sirens?
Jeez, wow. I just really hate people that do intros sometimes. Oh, are we casting now? We good? How long we got? We good?
Yeah. We
Oh,
Dude,
okay. Yes. Hello.
Oh, he's back. He's alive. And we don't script intros. Never. We never do that. And of course, we've got
Who does that?
Viperia versus Demise to talk about here. Viperia, having leapfrogged Mythos on Thursday, are tied for second. But they're still a little ways away from our undefeated top of the table Demise Academy, who they'll be facing down today.
And Demise, of course, took another win on Thursday. It was in a very different style to how they had taken the majority of their wins, though, because we have seen Demise be really, really good around playing around sidelines, going to 1-3-1s, just diving relentlessly around stuff like Twisted Fate, around Rise, having strange and unusual top laners like Kai'Sa with Ignite and Yone with Ignite. That age-old adage of why should you split push without teleports, like being Internet Explorer, but actually no, Flash is no longer supported on this browser. We don't take that summoner spell anymore. And
you might be running Internet Explorer, but if you want to take Ignite, then at least you've got a couple killer viruses on board to blow up your opposing
It's a
lane.
firewall.
And nice, that was better.
Yeah, there you go. So there's going to be a question about, well, have the teams in the UKEL cottoned onto this style and figured out the key picks to remove from Demise? Do Demise even care for that style, or is it just, what they've been doing so far? How much have they got left in the tank? And is that going to be enough to keep them undefeated in this split? Because Viperia have been on an upwards trajectory.
Yeah, they came into the split very confident, and then things looked a little bit awkward. They lost a few of their early games, were kind of down at the bottom of the tables, but they climbed their way up from down at that bottom of the pack, now to near the top at 3-2, and they are basically, if they win this one, they kind of narrow the gap to just the one game between them and Demise Academy. If Demise Academy take this win, then the gulf between them and second gets very difficult for other teams to overcome.
And also it means that it knocks down Viperia into that bracket, but now high if you picked up that one to go to 3 and 3. So again, that second place spot and that third place spot as well end up getting a lot more snarled up, and all the things we've been saying about dropping singular games gets really, really relevant, because at that point, after we finished off week 3, each team will have had 6 games total out of 14. That's getting close enough to that halfway mark, and you think, okay, right, that's actually not as many games as you'd like to go in, particularly when a lot of these teams are taking away games from each other. This is still going to be, you always cast from both sides as a caster, right? And we've talked to a couple of different teams in terms of their staff to get their opinions on stuff, and I've talked to Cobalt from Viperia and kind of kept up with their progress and whatever. We try and cast from both sides, and I think that Viperia have done some really good jobs improving. But Demise are just something else right now. The way they play around 1-3-1, the way they play around lane allocation, and always having a way to get Crush and Sin into the game is frankly terrifying for this level of play. And these guys are the team to beat. It's a matchup which, of course, every team wants to beat now, but it's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination.
That's exactly it. And Demise are kind of living up to their name. They have been the demise of every other team in the league thus far. The Reaper has been hunting. Viperia, though, talk a big game, and if they do want to be competing for the best in the UKEL, then they need to be able to take on the best in the UKEL as it stands, and that means Demise Academy. This is their chance to prove themselves, and that they talk a big game, now they have to play it, and this is the match to do it in. We're into picks and bans. Demise Academy will be on the blue side, Viperia are on the red. Got a couple bans that have come in already. Thresh, Camille are Demise's opening options, whereas Twisted Fate has been taken away alongside the Senna by Viperia.
So, I think the Sen is quite important, because often it's Sin and Crush who are really put on the playmakers for, as we said, this very broken map style of play from the side of Demise. Senna just allows you to throw an ult down into those side lanes too, and also it just the extra damage in the shield can swing those 1v1s in the side lanes so very, very heavily. One ban left for Viperia. Is this going to be Rise? That's the big question. It's not. It's the Viego. Does this mean that, of course, Demise are going to pick it up? Instead, they're going to pick up the Kai'Sa for Fuyu.
Oh, well, you say it's for Fuyu, but I recall the first game we cast
no,
these guys,
not
it
this
was
again.
Ignite teleport Kai'Sa top. So I refuse to believe that is necessarily going down bot, because Demise Academy have been very, very willing to
I'm going to
flex.
need a few more firewalls to get this off my screen.
All right, well, now that I've tilted my color caster a little bit, we'll see what the response is from Viperio. They've locked in the Karma. It didn't work out in the last game, but the concept was there, and some of those healing, healing moments, not to conflate the two words, were pretty scary for Mythos. They didn't quite manage to make it work in the team fights, but the concept was solid.
Concept solid, but I think this is something which Viper have had to evolve with in terms of what concepts are they actually going for. So Kaz had a really good game on the Lucian the other day. That's also flex between that and mid. Hacker could even go towards top lane in a couple of different compositions, right? But Viper had been struggling to find what their comfort compositions were. They played a lot of gangplank top, and In4 as a rookie top laner has done really well in the laning phase versus much more experienced at this level of play top laners. It's not been banned away in this game. Hackering's been locked in for the side of Demise 2. The question is, of course, what do Viper want to play around in terms of, are they going to go more standard front to back? Malphite's been a big pick for them, for instance. What are they going to lock in?
Indeed. Well, they've locked in the Herald of War, Cry Havoc and Unleash Him, and they've gone for Annie, but we kind of know this is regularly
Seraphine.
a proxy pick, and it is Seraphine according to the production notes, which does mean, of course, though, that it will not be played by Kurosh because it is a proxy pick. So we know it's not a flex.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't considered that at all.
So that also means that Viperia will know it's not a flex because Kurosh clearly doesn't know the champion.
That's actually... you know what? You are just far beyond me. I know that the players will playing chess in pregame, but wow, that's actually pretty incredible. So Malphite has been locked into
Clip that one for me. That's two games in a row where I've got serious big brain compliments.
I know I said that's the only one I'm going to give to you, but I just hadn't considered that at all. And now Malphite brother on the other side. So Sandwich Viperia have played in mid, they've played it in top, they've played very well, having a strong front line to play around and allowing the Lucian to start running around in these team fights. And also another thing, Seraphine is 0% win rate in the UKEL right now. I've had a lot of issues with it at this level. Viperio, knowing that of course the Rise is not going to be, well, hasn't picked up yet, they're going to ban that away. No sense in letting that through and allowing Demise to have one of their comfort picks. And yeah, the draft goes on.
It does indeed. We've got some more bans coming through, as we mentioned. The Rise and the Silas were locked in from Viperio. Lilia and Graves, that jungle focus over from Demise Academy. I am now interested to see what Johnny Record decides to go towards. His Talia is unbanned, and this man has a disgusting win rate on the champion, so we could definitely look towards that. Udyr as well is another strong choice in the current meta, and neither of those have been touched.
So, I mean, Udyr was banned in the first round.
Oh, sorry, yes, you're right, he was.
Talia was nerfed in some ways. There was a little bit of a shifting of power because the passive movement speed, which allows Talia to move fast when you move next to walls, that's been buffed up a little bit because that was nerfed in previous patches. But the Q, every Q bolt after the first has a fall off of 80% damage compared to 100% on secondary stones, which means that your clear speed, it does go down and that means that you don't get to keep up with the likes of your Olaf quite as much anymore. It's still not bad, and as you're saying, Johnny Rico really good on the champion mechanically. Giving it over to Viperio seems like a risk from Demise, and maybe that's why they think, okay, let's get something which can get on top of the Talia at some point in this game. Alistair, Hecarim, Kai'Sa, Seraphine as well, firing that ultimate through her own teammates to extend the range. That might be the tool to get on top of this shorter range Talia and Lucian.
LeBlanc is the last one locked in, which means it will be Seraphine, Alistair, Seraphine,
support.
Alistair bot support. There we go.
Oh,
I'm assuming that will be
yeah,
Kai'Sa top. Kai'Sa top, Hecarim jungle, LeBlanc mid.
That's the one. I just see the Annie on screen. I'm like, oh, that's a Seraphine support. I'm like, Alistair's in there. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, that's something.
Seraphine
so of course,
wow.
Yeah, so Kai'Sa will be up against the Malphite, presumably in that top side, as the Galio is locked in. That could be, of course, Galio support Karma mid. I would imagine it's Galio mid to go up against the LeBlanc. It's a fine matchup. Galio's pretty fine versus a lot of these AP burst champions. But Kurosh, when the last game where they did have their Rise and a lot of their choice picks banned away from them, did pick up that LeBlanc. Had some pretty scary damage. That was, of course, Lucendi on Thursday, if I remember correctly, where Lucendi they had some really interesting picks and bans too, right? Where they were like, okay, you guys want to start picking up like all these global champions again, so we're going to pick up Nocta. We're going to go pick up this anti-global comp, and we're going to start like flying around the map at the same speed that you are. Now, they didn't quite pull that off, but I love the thought process. And one of the things which I've really enjoyed about the UKL, because of course this is our first split casting the UKL, is that all of these teams just have like no holds barred. We're just going to play our style, and we're not going to pussyfoot around. We go straight into it. There are no eggshells that we don't want to step on, and we're going to go play our own style.
Yeah, also, I've got to call out that you've gone for this Kai'Sa top, and you've gone for a kind of scaling weak side bot, but you're doing it into double global of Galio and Taliyah. Like, these side lanes could end up getting hard dived very quickly from Viperio.
They absolutely can do. And when you talk about this LeBlanc roaming, having the instant magic shield coming in from Galio as you cast the ult on someone is really important. It can be really important, because if that allows Taliyah to survive through to getting a Zhonya's activation, because that's an item that you often build, or survive through to your next shove or your next whatever, Lucian, who's going to get in close too, there are a lot of ways why that Viperio can outplay the typical side lane dive composition of Demise.
So Seraphine Alistair is confirmed to be the bot lane. That's what we assume, but we'll see it now. It's Lucian Karmas. That's a lot of shove in bot. And effectively, Taliyah Galio will turn up and try and blow up the Seraphine and Alistair as soon as they can. And Lucian can do that in a Seraphine.
Yeah, and one thing which I really liked about what Kaz was doing in their previous game, again, when they had the against the Karthus bot, was it Karthus Karma, I believe it was? Lucian often goes press the attack for those short bursty trades, but you know you can actually lose them versus your mages of Seraphine. Alistair also puts out a good amount of burst early. So you actually go Conqueror in that 2v2, because you're like, okay, I'm going to go down for the extra auto attacks. If I hit the W and I keep running at them, have the Karma shields, I'm going to run you down, and those extra stats are going to get me more than a press the attack over the course of this trade. I'm looking forward to seeing how this 2v2 plays out, because while you think it should be Seraphine bullying out, Karma is really strong in a 2v2 as well.
Oh, yes.
And Kaz showed that he can play the 2v2 versus the more mage-style bot lines pretty proficiently.
Lucian, of course, is another one of those lane dominant picks as well, so it could be an interesting one. Of course, hit those mid-game team fights, and Seraphine throwing an encore over a onslaughting, shadowing Hecarim is a devastating combo. Anybody who saw, yeah, absolutely, massive combos. Kai'Sa gets to fly in afterwards with the LeBlanc, and people can just get blown up before anything like a Taliyah or a Galio can turn up to save them.
Absolutely. So now we have to ask, well, of course, what are the points of pressure? Where are people headed? One of the things I'll say about Viperio is that it's really telegraphed that they're playing around bot. Like, super telegraphed in a lot of ways. In terms of, like, wanting to get the Lucian ahead. But then you think, okay, well, you look at just that draft in isolation, that's what you say. And that's exactly what I just did. And then I forgot that there's actually a Kai'Sa top lane on the other side. And I'm like, oh yeah, actually, you could probably go top side too and try and shut down the Kai'Sa. So it's actually not quite as bad as you think. The side of Viperio. That's why I need to, like, lean back from the screen so I can see both sides at once and see all the champions in the game.
Well done.
No, I'm figuring out how to use my eyes. Yeah. It's incredible.
I'm really proud of you. Well done.
Thank you.
At the age of 24, this is where you ended up.
Hey, don't tell my age.
But, of course, you know, that is a potential thing. Right? Like, if Demise get a free lane in top because they're a hard-focusing bot, then Sin on the Kai'Sa's kind of done it before, where he's run over games a little bit with that pick. On the other side, if they focus down the Kai'Sa, Seraphine and Alistair get chance to scale, hit their level 6, hit their items, and become the teamfight monsters they can be. So, assuming Demise don't get pulled apart too heavily early, they should be able to teamfight well enough. But the thing is, Viperio definitely had the tools to put them to the kosh pretty quickly.
And the other thing is that you have two ranged solo laners from the side of Demise versus two melee from the side of Viperio, which can be a problem for Viperio if Demise get ahead in the game and they get vision, because you have to start walking up to clear vision a lot more dangerously, and you don't get to kind of like wrangle it back quite as easily. You do have a lot of tank, right? Malphite's pretty happy to face tank, until, of course, LeBlanc gets really, really fed, and you get to follow up with Alistair, Seraphine, and Chains and all the rest of it, really. So, again, because there's so much random burst damage from both of these comps, and you've got Taliyah trying to pop people, or LeBlanc trying to pop people, is once again, and if you listen to my cast, I always say it, it's vision game. So much of modern League of Legends does come down to what you can see, and because these players are smart enough to know what possibilities they are when you see everything in place. So if you remove that vision, and you remove, like, you put the Alice into Fog of War, and they just flash over a wall, that's a lot harder to respond to.
Yes. And I've also got to say that, you know, if this is a game where Sin decides he's still going to run his Ignite rather than Flash, he might regret it in this one when he's got the
Obviously,
likes of
just
Malphite,
gotta go Ghost.
Taliyah, Galio,
I'm glad you agree, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, this should be it. Ghost Flash.
I always go revive.
It's
No.
that's not even a summoner spell anymore. It's been
No,
removed,
that in fact, that's the joke.
Oh, okay, well done. I just had a moment of like, I know that's the meme. I was thinking, oh, isn't that spell gone as well?
Wait,
a
what
moment
are
of
the other ones that
clarity,
were?
so
There
to
was
speak.
promote. That was one that was removed.
Was that what the
Banner of
minions
command,
or something?
effectively. Yeah. It was really funny running on Malzahar, because I'm pretty sure you could do it on his void minion thingies, his voidlings. It's just
Go, my
yeah.
ginormous void
But that was back at the
monstrosity.
time where it wasn't like his W. You could cast 3 spells and a random, like the little Zorot thing would pop out. It's like you just get to like level 2, level 3, and you get one of these things out, and suddenly it's like, oh, why the heck is there like an extra super minion in my line? It was horrible for everyone involved.
What season was that in? I don't remember
I
that
don't
at
know.
all.
Well, Malzahar was reworked in what, season 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah,
and it's actually
I'll
completely
forget.
irrelevant. It's not in this game, nor is he in the
Should
meta.
have.
But that's what we've driven ourselves to. That's it.
Alas, moments of madness. That's what we're kind of known for, frankly, at this point, Namera.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, do you want to expand on that?
No. I think it's probably worth leaving that one behind. Moment of self-reflection over with. We're on to the Rift, which means we don't have to reflect on ourselves before. Let me try that again. Reflect on ourselves
Use your
any
words.
further because we're on to the Rift. There we go. I didn't flub that intro at all. Instead, we've seen a massive engage with Demise, who are stacking up. And look where that Alistair has gone. He is so
Oh my God.
wanting this go. The summoner is down. They don't know he's done this, but I think Kaz might get caught here. He's going to walk around. Oh, here we go. And that's actually
Dodgy.
Little Pants
Oh.
get the beat drop. They're going to have Kurosh go forwards. Kaz just gets to walk away, and instead, it's a summoner burn from Little Pants, trying to be really, really clever, and it does not work out.
It's as the saying goes, Little Pants, huge backpack, and apparently huge cojones too on the Alistairs. Little Pants is really trying out some of that more pungent cheese. I appreciate it. I was thinking
Punch what in Little Pants?
Huh?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. I was mid-flow, Sam. You
I was
ruined my
being
flow.
massively immature.
Oh, lovely, cool. But no, I mean, like, I appreciate the attempt, because if you get this Lucian behind, again, we talked about how Lucian is, like, the majority of the damage for Viperio. It's quite telegraphed if you look at just their draft, who they want ahead. On the other side, they know they want the Kai'Sa behind, but their Lucian is still the core of their composition, unless, of course, Johnny starts really popping off.
Of course, it does mean that it's a little bit late to lane all the Karma and the Lucian, but not massively so. And will they know that Little Pants doesn't have flash?
Yes, he has Hex Flash.
Can you see that?
Yes, you can see if Hex Flash is currently the summoner available. So you and you just flash the Mastery 7, and honestly, what else can you do? Honestly, like that's all you got.
You've got to play the emote game because Haas and Kaz are going to be able to shove in pretty aggressive, especially. So that just goes to the headbutt. Like, yeah, it's my bush now. What are you going to do?
A level 1, I mean, headbutt's still decent damage, right? It's okay, and it means that when you're still a melee champion, it gives you the ability to trade back at least a little bit. Thing is though, like when Karma is against a melee support and gets to auto attack, the more you auto attack champions, the lower your ultimate cooldown gets. So you're going to get an extra ult Q at some point. You get the level 2. What you also want to do on the first couple of waves, you don't want to overshove it and get it into tower and effectively give the extra DPS onto the wave because the tower shots are hitting it. You want to make sure you're zoning them off, make sure you can hold it on their side of the wave for the first scuttle spawns. Sin doesn't have Ignite, first off, so shame on you. And also, secondly, is trying to come up with some really big brain plays. But Infor should know that, well, it should be telling his team that Sin's gone.
Oh, that is a fantastic chain, and Killikin flashes, but is killed instead. Great first blood between the two solo laners, Demise Academy. Very smart roam.
It is, but also that's also on Infor and the communication between the rest of the Viperio team showing that, okay, well, Sin's not in lane. This is still frozen. This is going to be Kai'Sa either losing a teleport or losing a huge wave in topside. I mean, at least a couple of minions. It might end up, he's teleporting up to try and break the freeze, I guess. But now you've got no flash on Galio, no teleport on Galio, and Galio is not exactly a champion that gets out of ganks particularly well, as you can see. And yeah, Killikin's a bit of a rough spot now.
He definitely is, and of course Leon's on that top side to help, or was on that top side, so shielding the Kai'Sa who got to go back in, and instead of her losing a wave and not getting anything out of it, gets to just roam mid, pick up a kill, and then just head straight back top and gets most of the wave anyway.
No, it's really, really creative play out of Sin, and I think you could say that for most of Demise as a team and as players. They're just very creative. Actually, as we look at this, it's going to be still a CS advantage to Sin after Infor gets his wave out. He must have been bullied off a couple of the early minions, and Sin really having an impact on this early game as a AD carry top lane.
It's the Kaiser top again that's just the Demise Academy. Like, I feel like it's the mascot, the signature pick at this point. Leon's around this bot lane as our observer just zooms out to give that little bit of perspective. And otherwise, it's a bit of a lane shove from Kaz and Haas. That's about it right now. There's the headbutt away again. Little Pant's main choice is relentlessly pursuing forwards is Kaz, and that's about all she wrote.
It is about all she wrote, and now we look at Killikin and Kurosh's lane. This is really pretty horrible for the Galio, because this is... You look at the health on the ranged minions, and Killikin has to push this in, because it's, like, pretty much frozen at this point. This is almost a certain kill. Jump forward, chains, that's death.
And that kind of point, around that wall closest to your own tower, is the kind of Irelia kill threat spot I know you like to think of it as. And it works for the likes of LeBlanc too, where people are too far up the lane for them to be safe, basically. And you get to jump in and get the CC down and really look for the aggressive plays.
I mean, we kind of talked about this with the tank top laner point in terms of, like, actually, a lot of where the cool-out plays come from is after a series of smaller plays which set up the lane and HP bars into the correct situation. There's no Ignite for Kurosh, but having the lane at that point against a Galio who has, like, nothing in items, doesn't have level 6 yet, is really suffering in terms of his lane positioning, is really good of Kurosh to have the lane at that point, and now Sin is coming back down because Killikin just has to keep this wave push. He keeps trying to farm with his Q, but he keeps the lane in an awful spot.
He is on a wall, he's going to back away, but, like, actually, where's Johnny Recco? He needs to be here to help his mid laner shove out, because he's in a dire spot.
It is slowly coming back. I think actually Killikin loses a cannon, which is very unfortunate. Does get level 6 this time, though.
At least has that, but both Leon and Sin are on vision, because that control ward has not spotted both of them, and neither of them have seen it in the bush. Kurosh will instead be helped to shove out this wave as the rest of Demise turn up, and they're looking to maybe start off this early round.
I think they probably will. I mean, it's kind of difficult for side of Vipero to decide what to do with this dragon, right? Because you're thinking, okay, at least we have Galio ultimate. We did have a bit of a priority in that bot side, but that's not really going to lead to too much because they knew how many people were off the map, and they knew that, of course, they needed to have resources around mid to try and bail out Killikin, who's had a rough early game. Does mean that the early dragon goes over to Demise. They'll start stacking. Next one's going to be a mountain dragon, which leaves us with, of course, Cloud and Ocean as those two remaining options. I guess what Vipero are just waiting for now is just the first big team fight, because Demise are, once again, trying to punish isolated members. Little Pants might come around the back of this turret to see if they can punish Killikin, but Johnny is here in time.
Be a 4v2 plus tower. In goes Little Panther. There's the teleport in. Malphite will be here soon. That's going to be a lot of damage. Leon gets it and gets out. That is a massive moment. That was good timing on the ult for Leon to get himself out, and they get the kill. They get out, and the teleport is still burned from Infor. He's not there in time.
But Vipero saw that coming. Johnny was there in time, sees it coming, but misses the combo. Doesn't get it in time, and that means that the teleport from Infor is kind of misused. At least he gets back up into top lane in time for that play. But Demise, once again, being a little bit quicker to the punch, being more decisive about their action, Vipero kind of don't connect with the counterpunch.
That's 2 deaths now on the Galio, who is really suffering in this lane. We already saw the wave positioning was rough before that Drake when they finally shoved it out and allowed Killikin a little bit more access to the wave, but 10 CS in mid already. It's 2 assists and a kill apiece for the top and jungle of Demise Academy, which is a very scary space for Vipero to be in.
And importantly, that's a teleport away from Infor, who has level 6, wanted to make a play somewhere around the map.
Yeah.
Even if it was just a defensive play, doesn't really work out. It could have gone worse for Vipero. They got a lot of cooldowns for it. They got the Kaiser ult and the Hecarim ult, which means that for the next minute or two, they have less things to worry about, particularly from the Hecarim diving in under turrets and whatever. And I guess the other thing is that Malphite's still going to be a relevant frontline in this game, because he's managed to farm up relatively well, and does, of course, have the ultimate still.
Yeah, he does, and like at this point as well, like maybe he can get something,
this
maybe
could
they
be
can
a
find...
play.
Johnny Recco's here, but so is Little Pants, and it'll be a 2v2, but there's a bit of a level discrepancy. Leon also on the Raptors, so at the moment, a 3 versus 2. Little Pants off vision. Depends how this one goes. He's only level 4 as Little Pants, so he could get punished. They're going in, but there's Johnny Recco looking for the seismic shove. Does miss, though. The taunt's onto 2. Make that 3, but Leon buffers his way out. Now looking to try and chase this one down. Johnny Recco gets 1, but it's traded back from Leon. The Encore is flashed away from, but now the Talia gets hopped onto distortions, and the chains are there. I wonder who they give that one over. It will be Kurosh who is gifted the kill. 2 for 1.
And it's one of the oldest strategies in League. Go to the source of the global. There's no way Kaz is making it up there because you can see that they're in lane. And sure, Lucian's getting ahead. That's good. But Galio now at 0 and 3. And Johnny having to put so much time into this mid lane. Not able to go into the enemy jungle. Not able to go help out this Lucian and actually snowball some kills elsewhere on the map. Is becoming a bit of a problem. 1,000 gold at 10 minutes, actually slowly increasing because of this Herald, which will then kind of be money in the pocket, and plates going down to Kurosh, means that Demise will be coming in with an item and stat lead into an important phase of the game, where the first big team fights where you think Viper are kind of waiting for should try to excel. Demise might have the advantage now instead.
Absolutely, Kurosh does go in for the double sword. Takes a tower shot there as well. Has to be a little bit wary. The taunt has to be flashed away from because Predator Galio is a quick man. Statue, perhaps. Let's be
bit of both.
Yeah, bit of both. But that's a nice little play there from Kellican. At least something back. It's the first feel-good moment in a while.
So, we, of course, now have to see what's going to happen with the next Weaver's Wall. That's one thing which can really start interacting with the map. And I think one of the break point will be when Killikin can actually wave clear effectively and then start just clearing the wave and then moving to another lane. Because he's been struggling so hard with the wave just being frozen elsewhere that he's kind of sticking around in lane for an extra cooldown. And then the next wave comes in instead, so actually can't get anywhere else on the map. Which means that actually Demise haven't had to be worried about a hero's entrance dive anywhere on the map.
Leon's going to come down here, and he at 2-0-1 is a pretty scary horse. Pretty appropriate thematically, really, that the team with the Reaper for a logo.
Sin teleport?
The Sin teleport, indeed, from Kaiser, who was looking for a play down the bot side. Little Pants going in. Fuyu is here. Here comes Leon with the teleport in response, and now that is a very dead Alistair, surely. Yeah, bye. Not much more to say about that one. And Sin teleported in and didn't really find all that much. He has got a Herald in inventory, which is taken at some point.
Well, that means that probably kills mid lane turret if they drop it there. You know that. So Kurosh went up towards top side, doesn't have the teleport himself. So yeah, a couple more auto attacks on tower will lead to this dying. Galio won't be there in time to clear that out. Luckily, Infor didn't have teleport towards that bot side play either, because that could have been a really bad fight if they did have the Malphite ult available. Now Sin is going to get caught up.
Right, they are going to try and get in, but there's Leon on the back end. Cry Havoc and unleash the Herald of War. That is a Hecarim trying to get at least one back. He's onstalling of Shadowing away to 1-for-1 right now, but now the man on the horse, or rather I suppose a Centaur, needs to find his way out of dodge. Seems to have done so relatively easily. They'll take the 1-for-1.
They do. They're going to lose Dragon on the bot side of the map. That does throw a little bit of a spanner in the works for Demise because, you know, this is a full tank Malphite, having extra percent stats on that, and also having a Galio who doesn't necessarily go towards the stats, but has a decent amount of HP, has good base HP, and will go towards the Zhonya second probably, has the Merc Treads already. It does give a decent amount of power over towards Vipero, who want to be trying to survive the skirmishy play that Demise are going for and then instead go towards the more teamfight style. Having the extra resist stops their members getting burst out quite so 100-0 and maybe allow Viper a window of opportunity to start trying to play around their teamfight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a nice attempt at a punish onto Sin, who, you know, they got the first turret, but a 1-for-1, at least it's something, but they had to burn a fair amount for it as Little Pants on this Alistair continuing to be relatively aggressive in his positioning, which has been a mixed blessing for Demise Academy.
I mean, it's certainly entertaining, right? You get yourself, you know, flashing at level 1 to go for the headbutt back into the team. I appreciate that so much.
It would have been so cool. It would have been so cool.
Yeah, but I'm sure Viper are not so much appreciating how powerful Kurosh has been in this game so far, and it's really fun to see these AP Assassins get ahead, because Kurosh now goes into a side lane, very, very happy. There's no magic resist on Informs, probably going to do a decent amount of damage here. Oh, Chain misses though.
Chain misses though, and that's just a lot of slaps coming forward. Second chain did hit, that means that in goes Sin. Heroic entrance buys time, and Kurosh has to get his way out. Little Pants now in danger. Gonna go in for a headbutt. Polvin trying to get the ignite down and enough damage, but he's sure to fall. Lets us know he's Mastery 7 one more time. In goes Leon though, and this time the Herald of War is still going wild.
Malphite also in a couple seconds.
That will be the fourth Horseman of the Apocalypse. It was appropriate for Demise Academy, who's got his 4th kill, I believe, of the game as well. The Horseman of War, no, gets the assist that time, not the kill. Missed that one up a little. The bot side, turret for Viperia, and they're keeping this game pretty even. Honestly, they've narrowed the gold lead from 2,000 to about 1.
It has, and remember, this is a team without necessarily, you know, like, your traditional AD carry. You've got Sin on the top side kind of playing in the side lane, and that will end up coming to the point where, I mean, it's been a bit of odd kind of thing to play around in the early game, because it's meant that Lucian has had a bit of a free lane. Lucian's now got
Yes.
5 turret plays, got the tower kill in the bot side too, got that kill. Lucian is more relevant than maybe they would have been if you'd had that traditional AD carry, but on the other side, because of Sin's impact on the game, it's completely ended up kind of like negating that potential negative by affecting particularly the Galio so much.
It is, but credit to Viperio for holding on, right? For not letting this game slip completely out of their control. The problem is, though, that Demise Academy weren't necessarily supposed to get crazy ahead in the early game outside of maybe just good lane matchups for the LeBlanc and the Kai'Sa, you know, range versus melee. But you're waiting on a Seraphine and an Alistar to scale. You're waiting on Hecarim to hit a Trinity Force, or in this case, the Divine Sunderer. And they're at those items. There's a Moonstone in for Seraphine, and Demise Academy are nearly teamfight ready, frankly.
They nearly are. The question is, like, if they're team fight ready, well, what state are Viperio going to be in? And who needs to survive the initial engage? Is it enough for Lucian to survive the initial engage? Has 1.5 items, has an execution and schooling. That's pretty important. Is that, between that and a Malphite Galio combo, is that enough to win them a team fight? Because of the mobility of Demise, kinda hard to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to chase Lucian and make sure that his mobility isn't unmatched, unilateral, I guess. You know, when the likes of Kai'Sa can dash around, when you've got LeBlanc, of course, notoriously mobile. Even the Hecarim, to an extent, just a very speedy horse.
Yeah, and becomes unstoppable in the ultimate too, so it's not like you get to CC chain them if you use that correctly. And Kaz is such a point of power, because the thing is, like, Demise have been presented with, Lucian might be a problem, what's your answer to it? And their answer is, we're just going to ignore them, actually. Let's just make the game not about the Lucian. We want to make it about our roaming laners, which they have done the entire UKEL split. This is completely strangely, even though this is such a strange composition, they're still playing it towards a lot of the same...
Brand.
Yeah, they're very on brand for what they've done from the rest of this split.
Well, they've got a very strong top side of the map. 2-2-2, of course, for Sin, who has died as much as he's killed, done a lot of crazy roams. That feels just like Sin. We've got very strong Hecarim. We've got a pretty fed LeBlanc as well, who's pretty happily up 40 odds yes as well. Interesting choice of Mythic here for Johnny Recco, as well as Kurosh goes in and gets a big trade onto Haas. 30 seconds out from this Cloud Drake might make vision control a little bit tricky here. No, of course, Moonstone Renewer in for the Karma either yet as a support, and that could hurt as this dragon comes in. I was about to make another point, but instead I feel like I ought to mention that.
Well, I actually wonder what the gold difference is between the supports, because you've got... Well, okay, actually, you say that Galio's trying to look for a taunt, doesn't find it.
Right, Infor is here, would love to find an unstoppable force. Hasn't as yet. Kaz gets a bit more wave control, but it is a 5v5 with Kai'Sa currently not here in the bot lane. Instead, Viperio will take the opportunity to try and shove down mid, and Demise Academy instead move towards the river. Might cost them the mid tower, though.
Mighty Fuse looking for some more poke onto Karma, shields that one up, and Viperio seem pretty happy to give up this. Crush might be looking for a double distort, though Haas is still low, and there's no heal on the Lucian.
Finds the double distort. Encore is still available. Taunt now burned from Killerkin. That's the Encore that's just short. And all the while, though, Sin did take the dragon, so that's something at least.
It doesn't reach far enough, not enough allies to start boosting the range through it, and Viperio don't get themselves that mid lane out to turret, but I think after that chunk onto Haas, it was kind of difficult to fight for that dragon anyway.
Haas is still around, of course, hasn't back yet. Little Pat's continuing to make sure that, you know, did you know he's Mastery 7, Nightmare?
I had actually seen that once or twice. I'd heard the legends.
Had you?
I'd heard the legends.
I'd heard legends. I'd never seen it before in the
Johnny?
wild. Johnny Recco could be in trouble, though. Flash in from the side of Little Pants. The Everfrost comes out. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's Everfrost to Leah. Little Pants will get engaged on, but he's still alive! The heal from Seraphine is huge. Kurosh now needs to try and escape himself. The heals are just huge, though. Zin goes in with the killer instinct, and he gets what he's exhausted, but it's too late. He's taking a culling to the face. That's a lot of damage onto this Kai'Sa, who will not quite find the kill. It's a double for Kaz at the back end of it, and I believe that's a 3-for-2 in favor of Demise Academy, but Lucian just about recovers a fight that looked disastrous for Viperio initially.
Just Kaz things at the end of that fight has the Ninja Tabi almost certainly saves their life. And once again, like, it's a weird way to phrase it. We're giving praise to Viperio for sticking in there versus Demise. But this is the kind of playstyle which so many teams in the UKL have struggled to play against so much, because you have to be constantly decision-making. Demise force you to stay on your toes, and they do so well. They have an advantage in this game. It just hasn't broken the back of this game yet, which is what we're used to seeing.
And this gold has stayed at about 1,500 gold, 1,500 difference for the last, honestly, 8 minutes now, since about that 10-minute mark. It has been very neck and neck, and yes, Demise Academy have got a slight advantage, right, with where those kills are in some ways, but that is a very scary Lucian. Talia at 2, 3, and 3, not undangerous either. I kind of do want to bring us back at this point as well to talk about Everfrost on Talia. That's not what I'm used to expecting, and it's a bit more pick. It's a little bit more dangerous, perhaps, for the likes of LeBlanc to just hop on her, because she can just get stunned in place. Haas now in danger, though, and they're looking again. Shove back, Fuyu gets that one. He's done. They're teleporting in. The encore, once again, was not fantastic. Fuyu has had a bit rough ones on that, but that's a big shutdown for Kurosh, who will just go back. He is dead.
Oh, it's an execute!
The tower. It's an execute, not enough damage over, so you take the execute, means the shutdown goal doesn't go anywhere. And yes, that's a 1 death, but don't be surprised. It's an execute. He will take that very, very happily. And he gets a huge amount of gold as well for killing Kaz, who was the major point of danger for Viperia.
Exactly. It's still going to be a shutdown from that Lucian onto the LeBlanc. Left alone in the bot side, this Karma is at the point where they can just get one shot from Fog of War. Does have the Moonstone Renewer. Little Man's actually going for a flash here. Might get on top,
he's going again. Has he ever gone anywhere else but forwards on this Alistair? Sin pulls the killer instinct. They're going for this again, trying to get a little bit more. Not enough damage though, but now the turnaround is here. They've overextended. Good Gale Force, but not enough damage. Sin trying to run away now. Johnny Recco at the back end with the Everfrost. Down goes Little Pants trying to buy time. Sin has got the Acathian Rain coming out. Fuyu is there. Little Pants falls, and now the seismic shove misses. That's a big beat drop across 3. And now Leon, looking forwards, has got himself a Warpath, standing forwards with the devastating charge. Doesn't look for any more, and it's a 1 for 1? No, 1 for none, in fact, is the way it is. That was a bit of an overchase from Demise Academy, who are nothing if not aggressive.
I suppose it's a 1 for 1 if you count the well, 1 for 2 if you count the bot lane deaths just before that, but it's kind of a separate engagement. Sure, we'll give it to Viperia. 1 for none. Good job, you did it. I guess we check back in on the gold. It's still in the favor of Demise, but the thing is, Demise were taking these fights on Viperia's side of the map. Dragon is spawning in a minute. We said that last game. Fighting on the enemy side of the map means you get to take jungle camps. You get vision. You choke out a lot of these objective fights because of that vision. Demise are still in the ascendancy in this game. Viperia, again, need to find something to break this momentum from Demise.
It could take a little bit of effort, because they've done a decent job of turning around some of Demise's coming in. They've had the options to turn up with the Weaver's Wall, with the Heroic Entrance, which has definitely caught Demise Academy a little bit flat-footed once or twice. Most notably, of course, that last little engage or re-engage rather. But they've still got to deal with a 4-1-4 LeBlanc and a team that probably scales better than they do anyway.
To a certain extent, of course, if you catch multiple people in a Malphite ultimate into a Galio ultimate, you kind of start disagreeing with that. Predator pop from Galio just to run down and get some extra priority in this mid lane, maybe holding Fuyu and Little Pants there a little longer, and even just a couple of seconds. But now Killigan doesn't have the Predator to play with, and we have to see how this big team fight comes up. Again, watch for the wombo, watch for the picks. Kurosh is going in.
Kurosh goes in, gets a big double restore, and that's Kaz now at 1/3 HP. He's going to have to run away, and that might just mean that Viperia can't fight this Drake.
I think that's what it means. Kaz doesn't really... It does actually have a little bit of lifesteal from runes, and Kurosh takes a bit of a chunk on the other side of it.
Does. The top side, the Herald was spawned and has now managed to take that top layer tier
Good
1.
Galio
Little
ult.
Pants now in danger. The Galio ult comes through. And actually, we're now reset with health bars relatively even across the board. Kurosh took a big trade from Killikin in the bush, slightly off screen. Culling comes across, gets onto Little Pants, chunks him out.
Oh, it's a big ult.
Gets a massive unstoppable force. You called it out. Where's the encore, though? And that'll be Demise Academy looking for more. There ain't no Brooklyn boys, but as Sin still gets the kills, Johnny Recco goes down as the Gale Force autos are there as well. And what an engage. The first encore that lands is a beautiful one. That one was what Demise Academy were waiting for all damn game.
It's the first real hard punch landing, and it lands from Demise. Galio is used to disengage, not used to follow up on what Info was finding at the bottom edge of that dragon fight. Viperia can't follow up in time. In fact, it's the complete turnaround. The Seraphine has come online, gets to fire the ult through about 4 or 5 different champions, some allied, some enemies, and that gives Sin the route into the backline. Has a Storm Razor, has the Gale Force, completely shreds through Kaz, and this Lucian, who has to be the lion's share of the damage, does not get enough done and gets removed from the team fight.
And what is it with 4th Drake games today, Nymera? The last game, it was 4th Drake into the Baron, or into the turret with the Rift Herald going down at the same time. It's the same deal. Demise Academy get the 4th Drake of the game. They've got their 3rd there at Soul Point. They get the Ace. They got the top tier 2 and tier 1 with the Herald. And they got Baron. That is a mental series of plays.
It's huge, and this is why Demise have managed to really keep themselves at the top of the table. It's not just blind scrappy skirmishing. It's good scrappy skirmishing. It has a point to it. It's not kills for the sake of kills. They put the fear of the fog of war into the enemy team. They just can't play around this lack of vision. Kaz is Wing bushes, not able to walk up. They're losing farm now. They're behind in goal already, and at this point, you have to wonder, what can Viperio even really do to come into this? Because I think even a perfect Wombo is struggling to close out this game. Maybe it starts with picks.
Oh, Kurosh is in a bit of bother. He's got himself a second distort, but no flash, and will get locked down and shut down by Kaz. That was a little over-eager from Kurosh.
It was. I believe that was a 600 gold shutdown on top of... Yeah, which is a lot of gold. It goes onto Kaz, this Lucian, who needs to be doing a lot of damage. The thing is, though, this extra gold going onto Lucian might not actually help him survive the initial play, because he doesn't necessarily go for too many defensive items. It'll help him reach more breakpoints in terms of the damage, but will that be enough to deal with a solo lane Kai'Sa and this LeBlanc diving in on him?
Alright, well, all the while, Sin is split pushing away, but it does kind of break the back of the 1-3-1, and it means it'll be a tower for tower trade with the Baron buff, rather than just towers going solely in favor of Demise Academy.
Sure, but then you still look at the gold, and whereas before, like, that's 2,000 gold. Oh, wait, that's 7,000 gold. Okay, alright.
That's quite a lot, yeah.
That's when things start to become a little bit worrying, particularly when you have members on the side of Demise who have managed to be able to have a lot of stuff funneled into them, right? The Seraphine has her 2 items. She doesn't really need that too many to really function as a champion. You have a 3.5 item Kai'Sa in the top side of the map. That is an 80 carry to 80 carry discrepancy of about, you know, a full item towards the side of Sin.
Yeah.
You have this LeBlanc, who's ahead of the Galio. In the positions where it matters for damage, in the positions where it matters, Demise are so far ahead in the damage roll.
With how expensive Deathcap is after, you know, the changes from Season 10, going Deathcap second on a lot of mid laners is kind of a difficult buy these days. And
absolutely,
he just gets to pick it up. Of course, you know, you had that in that last fight. He just didn't get to use it because he kind of face-checked a lot of members and regretted his life as his distortion literally timed out as he was about to go back to it. Infor puts down a very wise ward instead of walking into his blue side jungle freely, and will therefore be able to keep his summoners and ultimate ability. But Demise Academy just hunting, hiding around in this blue jungle. Kurosh takes a bit of a chunk there, but not massive amounts coming through, and Haas needs to be a little bit afraid of the double distort, which has been so potent for Kurosh. Hasn't got a Banshees, though, of course, so at this point in the game, if he gets taunted by, you know, just a snap idol of Duran, things go very wrong very quickly. Haas takes 3/4 of his HP bar. That's the trade you do take if you do decide to go back. It goes back in! Can't quite find it. In goes Little Pants, but the Onslaught of Shadows is there. They're trying to get onto a Galio of all people. Not sure that's the right target. Wait for the Encore. It's still not being used. They're going to try and keep going. Little Pants is going to die, as well as the shutdown goes the way of Johnny Recco onto Leon, and Demise Academy overdive. They lose 2 and get none in return.
Kurosh is on vision again, but you can feel the tension!
Sin flashes out, gets the kill. The culling is there, has got the supercharges to make his escape. Now, Killikin has teleported into mid, has got a lot of speed. Managed to get a big chunk onto Fuyu, who's surely got no way out until he flashes over the wall. Beat drop misses, though, puts him in a difficult spot. Flash over the wall for Infor, who's going to start throwing some seismic shards. And Fuyu goes down. Now Sin cannot escape, and what just happened?
Well, Kurosh is keeping the game wide open. Even when his teammates fall, they have something prepared elsewhere on the map. Demise won't get themselves a soul point. It's only a Cloud Soul, I suppose. You can definitely say that's not the most powerful one for the side of Demise. I guess on the other side, Viperio very much looking forward to having extra cooldown reduction on their Malphite ultimate and on their Galio and Talir and all this other stuff, which can be so important to responding to plays. But in the midst and the wake of this huge wave which came through, Demise take themselves an inhibitor, a turret in the mid lane. Kurosh gets the majority of that gold, and this LeBlanc, who was, you know, 3/4ing the HP bar of Haas, might just one-shot now with the extra gold they've picked up. Absolutely back and forth in this game.
It is, but it really shouldn't be, because Demise Academy, that's multiple times now where they've just decided, you know what, boys, we're going in, and the clown car doors open
back on the
wide,
menu.
And out comes Leon, out comes Fuyu, out comes Little Pants and Sid. They just like press all the buttons and hope they can blow people up. And
Oh,
it just
absolutely.
did not work out in that last fight.
So, let's touch in on items. We have a Void Staff, we have the Zhonya's onto Johnny Rico, we have a Zhonya's, importantly, on the Galio, who might be able to buy some time in the front line now in a way that they've really struggled to earlier into the game. On the other side, Ardent Sensor for the side of Fuyu's Seraphine. While you're not necessarily going to be too close to the the Kai'Sa diving in so much, if you get that buff onto your auto attackers of this Hecarim and the Kai'Sa, has a lot of value too. Magi's on the LeBlanc, 3 items onto the Hecarim as well. There is a huge amount of gold on both sides on very important items completed, but the gold advantage still goes to Demise right now.
It does. They've got the gold. They've got it on very scary members as well. Sin, Kurosh, both terrifying. Seraphine, yeah, doesn't have the gold to cast, but it doesn't matter because she's got 3 damn items. She's perfectly happy. And that means with vision control well and truly secure, Demise Academy will instead look to ensure that Viperio have no way into this Baron. They don't even think to contest. Clean take, no option for Viperio to even think about looking in there.
And I guess now we've got, the Baron's down, waiting for the waves to be pushed in. I really want to praise Kurosh yet again, who's found a champion which isn't the Rise, which was so terrifying, which wasn't the Twisted Fate, that is now worthy of maybe being banned. It's a lane-dominant champion. This AP Assassin, when snowballed, and Demise have managed to snowball it in both games that they played it so far. And even when LeBlanc is not the best teamfighting champion, Kurosh has found ways to make himself relevant. Get those picks before the teamfight starts. Do stuff around the broken maps when people are committing all across the map to get towers, to get inhibitors, to try and get those counter punches yet again. Only had that one pick in that top side jungle, which of course was a little bit awkward, but look at the damage he just puts out in such a low cooldown now.
Yeah, of course, when he's got 2 Cloud Drakes behind him as well, that means a lot of ultimate ability haste, which just means more upgraded distortions. It means more upgraded chains and sigils of malice. It does so much work.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage too. In fact, the double chain might be coming through. Killick is
he's
just dead!
Just gone. No chance to use the Zhonya's. He is deleted. And LeBlanc shows that magic trick one more time. The health bars disappeared. The culling comes out, and it's a very quick culling indeed. But despite all the bullets to fly out, the health bars stay high enough that Demise Academy are feeling pretty content about shoving in and getting another inhibitor. 2 down, it's just the middle tier 3 turret and inhibitor standing before they start to siege and knock on the Nexus turret doors.
And knocking on heaven's doors is so many of these members of Viperio, because that Death Note of the Magi's is coming a-calling. 8 stacks on that. Kurosh regenning up as time goes on, has himself a Sorcerer's Elixir. Infor has the ultimate on Malphite. Viperio getting choked out. This is the 3rd inhibitor going down, but they're not in position to fight.
They're not, and they're going to lose another inhibitor, and you can see the end of the game is starting to look more and more stark. Seasons might not fear the Reaper, but Viperio certainly should. Demise Academy looking very, very strong and living up to their logo all too well. Leon might be in a spot above, though. Horseman of the Apocalypse, though he is, he does have to escape from the fight there and not call forth all the rest of his fellows. Does escape, though, but Ultimate will be down at least for a short while.
Kurosh is looking hunting, doesn't have the ultimate, used the Mimic just a little earlier it looks like, but it is on a low cooldown. Level 16, that's probably going to be on like a 16-second cooldown with all the CDR built up from Kurosh right now, having the Lucidity boots, having some from the Ludens and Zhonya's too, and then you've got 2 Cloud Dragons on top of that. Kurosh is putting out the Mimics so frequently, there's a very little window of time where Kurosh is not online in terms of DPS.
And do you know who really loves Cloud Soul? Hecarim.
Sephiroth. What?
Yeah, that too. I'm sure he does. That makes more sense than I thought it did, because I think in Cloud Soul I finally realized you actually meant like the protagonist of Final Fantasy VII.
Sure.
That was surprisingly quick. Well done.
Nice.
All right. I was just thinking Hecarim with Cloud Soul is really busted. It's really nice for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And of course, it's not like the likes of LeBlanc are going to hate that move speed. Sin certainly isn't when he gets to pop in and dance around a bit more freely as Kai'Sa, who is just soloing away that Cloud Soul I was talking about. It was a little bit sloppy before they could get to it, but now Demise Academy have it. They've broken all the inhibitors, and Viperio have found some fights, but I don't know how many more chances they're going to be given by Demise Academy.
The bonus is, at least they're not getting denied minions. They are getting golden experience funneled into them. But they're losing jungle camps. They've lost Soul. At least it's not an Elder. That's one thing you really can't. Kaz dashes away, but that's a single Q onto Kaz. Heals up a little bit of it, but you can see the damage that Kurosh is putting out, and it's already halfway back off cooldown as that Mimic.
See how it plays from here. Killikin does have the heroic entrance. Maybe that's a world in which you save it. There's still the unstoppable force for Infor. And if Kaz can follow up on all the CC that offers, maybe, just maybe, you can do it. You've got to do it quick, of course, because Seraphine, now at 4 items, is going to be doing a lot of work to keep people alive as Kurosh goes in. Misses the chains. Importantly, the Encore has to be flashed away from, but there is the unstoppable force. This is the option. In goes Sim, but he's exhausted, and he's going to fall down to the culling, but not quite. That will be a massive use of the Moonstone, keeping people alive. Leon got 1, and it will be 1 for none, but the health bars are a little low, at least until Fuyu could top them up.
It's very, very fitting that this is High Noon Lucian, because it feels like it's both Kurosh and Kaz holding on to their, just holding on to their own resolves, thinking, if you pull the trigger first, I'm going to try and respond. Kaz gets inches, milliseconds away from killing Sin with that culling. He's been holding on to that relentless pursuit to get away from the first Distort, but this time it's Kurosh who goes in onto Haas instead, changes target very, very quickly, and now Infor is the target.
He's going to get headbutt, pulverized, Mastery 7 one more time, so the legends foretold. We've seen this one before. The Void Seeker is well aimed. Ramos throws up the thumb. It is all okay. And now with the man advantage, Demise Academy will shove in, looking to get a little bit more. Sin has teleported bot, looking for Kaz. He wants it. Supercharger comes out, goes across to avoid the piercing light. And the light is the one at the end of the tunnel for Lucian as he falls down as well. And now in a 3 versus 5. Can Viperio even look to hold on? The damage is gone. The taunt is decent, but it's not enough. Justice punching away, and Leon calls forth the wall for one last time. And a double for the LeBlanc. It's a fitting end to a game the Demise Academy kind of toyed around with a little bit towards the mid stages.
Perhaps Viperio, a valiant attempt, but it stays and remains at an attempt. Demise, they go undefeated 3 weeks into the UKEL split, and they are once again proving they're the team to beat, but no one can get close to them right now.
And it wasn't clean, guys. There were some fantastic outplays, some beautiful moments of mechanics from the likes of Demise Academy, but there were also some interesting moments, and I capitalize a few letters in that word, where they just really overreached, and Viperio, all credit to them, did a good job of trying to punish it.
They did, and you got to remember that Viperio this week tied themselves for second place after going 0-2 in week 1 and not looking great. This is still a remarkable step up in form from that team. Demise will walk away with their record intact, and their pride still building up very, very high. They came in with their same flare-heavy style. Sin going back to the Kaiser top lane, flourishing on it. Kurosh pulling out this LeBlanc, which he pulled out before too. But Viperio still in with a shout of like putting their name in the hat for that second best team in the UKL right now.
Absolutely, and it wasn't quite enough, of course, and we do have to praise Demise Academy for kind of styling, even if that style came with a few stumbles. At which point, I suppose, Nightmare, I have got to ask you who you think is the MVP for this one. Possibly a bit of a difficult ask.
For me, it's got to be Kurosh.
Okay.
Ooh.
You've got 3 seconds, I'm just calling it Kurosh.
No, it's Sin. It's Sin. The early game plays definitely just win it for me, because that early roam on the Kaiser is just not something you expect to come out of a team at this level. Kurosh played remarkably well in the late stages of the game, but was set up for success by their top laner. It was between the two of them. First instincts, like I said, was Kurosh, but thinking more about it, Sin was so pivotal to so many parts of that game.
There you have it. Sin on the top lane. Kaiser's going to get Nightmare's MVP for that one. And you heard it was a painful choice for him. He's a mid laner himself. He's a LeBlanc player himself.
I really like LeBlanc, yeah.
He can't give it to them. He still thinks Sins have it. Unfortunately for us, that means it's the end of the UKEL broadcast for the day. Demise Academy coming away with the win in that last game. So from myself, from Nightmare, from the whole UKEL broadcast team, we bid you good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you are around the globe. And we'll see you on Thursday. Till then, goodbye.
Blasting off again.